This guy has god-tier strength. With just one hand, he can snap the leg of a Mamharis giant beast like a twig. He challenges the fire tribe to a swimming contest in lava, treating thousand-year-old magma like mere ocean waves. He even goes out of his way to save his opponent from drowning. He challenges gods, slaughters demons, but somehow, Genin finds himself reincarnated as the very Demon King, hunted by millions of players across the entire server. Rewinding a few minutes, Genin was the last person standing, locked in a duel against the Demon Tribe's final boss. Despite all the criticism regarding the boss's absurd nightmare-level difficulty, Genin stubbornly kept casting thousands of after-images, buzzing around the Demon King like a persistent fly. It wasn't for nothing that he'd worn his keyboard down to the nub. Finally, he managed to scratch the opponent's bicep, successfully coating his sword in a single drop of dark blood. The Demon King sneered. Not bad for a puny human. He shifted into his serious mode, unleashing his ultimate skill. Echoes of the Abyss, incinerating everything in sight. He pinned Genin in midair with countless jagged black tentacles that pierced right through his body. I'll commend you for your stubbornness. If you want to beg for your life as a reward, I might consider it. Even while trapped in such a dire situation, Genin sneered back with arrogance. That's pathetic. As the stalling time expired, he gripped his special sword, the true embodiment of the Celestial King, and summoned a massive pillar of white light that ripped through the darkness. The Demon King Genin remained perfectly calm. Do you really think you have a chance against me just by summoning the remnants of the Celestial King? But his smile vanished the moment he realized it wasn't a remnant, it was the original essence. And it wasn't just any original essence, it had been tainted by the very blood of his arch-nemesis, Genin. The pure white wings began to corrupt with crimson energy and grotesque, demonic eyes. The Celestial King roared in fury at his own defilement. Blasphemy! Blasphemy! Watching that rage unfold, Genin calculated, the rest is up to me. If I time this right, I'll have a shot at taking down the Demon King. However, the sheer power of the Celestial King's attacks made it hard for Genin to dodge. Facing the chaos, Genin asked in shock, "What have you done?" Genin stepped back and explained his plan. The truth is, this sword is the Celestial King's holy relic. I tainted it with impurities beforehand to drive the Celestial King into a frenzy, making him feel insulted by a mere weakling. Genin roared, "You're a human and yet you pull such tricks? I won't give you any hope of survival." He frantically gathered violet energy and lunged while the Celestial King screamed in a state of madness. Blasphemy! Blasphemy! At the critical moment, Genin shouted, "Right now!" The Demon King Genin instantly unleashed his signature technique, Echoes of the Abyss, clashing head-on with the Celestial King's Santotonius move. Genin roared triumphantly, "Demon King, Genin, you've lost." A massive explosion rocked the area, swallowing everything in a terrifying flash of light. Amidst the blinding brilliance, Genin gazed at the ruins with a smug grin and declared, "It's over. Your fate was sealed the moment we started." Instantly, the necklace around his neck shattered, releasing a massive wave of energy. A system notification echoed across the entire server. Demon King Genin has been defeated. The Hall of Fame displayed a message of absolute authority. Killer, Genin. With this unprecedented achievement, he officially received the title of the first player in history to defeat the Demon King. Back in reality, inside his dark room, Genin couldn't hide his excitement, laughing in pure satisfaction. Heh heh heh. Even the Demon King wasn't that tough. The otaku cheered in pure bliss. Mamharis did it. I'm officially the strongest player. This is the shining moment of my gaming life, the ultimate glory he had always dreamed of. Genin smugly stroked his hair, soaking in the system's accolades. Sounds pretty great. Just as he was reveling in his joy, a new notification popped up, grabbing his attention. Oh, a gift from the instructor? Should Mamharis send him a proper thank you message? Suddenly, another message from the administration appeared, with mysterious content. Was the Demon King really not that tough? Then why don't you try accepting your new mission as even? Though the message seemed strangely cut off and he didn't understand what the new mission was, Genin clicked his tongue dismissively. If there's a reward, I'll take it. I'd be an idiot to refuse. He decisively pressed accept, but a cold shiver ran down his spine when he realized something was wrong. The Demon King wasn't that tough. Someone had heard him say that, but how on earth did they hear him? Genin's face went pale. His eyes trembled with fear as he realized he was no longer in his safe room. A shadow entity with a grin full of sharp fangs suddenly appeared and growled. "Right here, Genin. Let's play." Genin could only let out a terrified gasp before black, thorny tentacles lunged from his computer screen, wrapping tightly around his body. Genin screamed in pain as a deep blue energy dragged him into a void in front of the Demon King's castle. A chaotic scene unfolded with a bunch of goblins lying scattered on the ground. A majestic white tiger stepped forward, making the goblins tremble and curse. "You stupid, useless cat. Guinan is dead. It's all over." Instantly, the tiger roared in fury. "Don't you dare speak Lord Jenin's name so casually." Faced with that terrifying threat, the goblins could only manage a weak threat. "We'll remember this." Before running for their lives, the tiger let out a cold snort. "Good riddance." Looking at the lonely silhouette of the castle, the tiger sighed. "Lord Jenin, my one and only eternal master, I will continue to protect this castle from now on." Just then, a stumbling figure appeared in the distance. It was Jenin, but he was now utterly confused. Ugh, what the hell is going on? Mam Harris didn't know they meant becoming the Demon King when they mentioned a new mission. As soon as he spoke, he checked his status window in a panic. His character name had been changed to Jenin, his race was now Demon, and his experience level was 0. Jenin turned white when he saw the line. Status: Cursed. Strength 9,999, but currently sealed. He groaned to the heavens. What the hell is going on with my stats? I'm starting with 0 experience and a bunch of debuffs. He saw the white tiger staring right at him. Jenin forced a smile and waved. "Doing well, bro?" But its reaction was totally unexpected. It let out a shocked roar that quickly shifted into pure rage. You stole Lord Jenin's armor. You thief. I won't forgive you." However, he quickly regained his composure. "No, wait. If I have the Demon King's power, then this guy should be easy to handle." Jenin raised his hand, intending to unleash Jenin's signature move. Echoes of the abyss, but instead of a destructive explosion, nothing happened at all. The tiger lunged forward, sinking its teeth into his arm, leaving Jenin in a state of shock. "Langsky, are you serious?" he screamed in desperation. "Why can't I use my special move?" The tiger knocked Jenin to the ground with ease. Just then, a cold system notification rang out. Attack blocked successfully. Obtained skill: Shadow Boost. Movement speed increased by 30% for 5 seconds. Jenin bitterly realized the harsh truth. Does this mean I have to relearn every single skill from scratch? While he was still reeling, the white tiger roared and leaped to attack him once more. Even though he was in a perilous situation, Jenin tried to keep his composure and told himself, "Of course, even in this state, I'm still the Demon Lord. After all." But a bright red system notification suddenly popped up, shattering his optimism. "You have been afflicted by a curse. Shadow Boost has been transformed into Stone Guardian. Hardening will last for 10 seconds. Jenin yelled in panic. "Hey, what on earth is that?" The white tiger seized the moment and charged at terrifying speed, leaving him only enough time to futilely raise his arms to shield himself. "Damn it, I can't dodge this." As the powerful bite landed, Jenin felt a terrifying change in his body. My arm is actually turning to stone." Even though those sharp fangs were clamped deep into him, Jenin gritted his teeth and held on with a glimmer of hope. "If I can just try to hold out until its bite weakens." Luckily, a system window notified him that the petrification status was about to end, leaving him stunned. The beast seemed to notice something unusual too. It huffed with disdain. "Useless curse. I'm the king of tanking here. Come at me if you've got guts." The stone layer on Jenin's arm shattered, releasing a surge of power that created a massive energy explosion, blasting his opponent away. Surprisingly, after being knocked back, the tiger didn't continue its attack, but instead let out a whimper of affection. Its eyes glowed red, looking at Jenin with adoration, as it secretly realized the truth. "Wait, this vibe is way too familiar. It really is him. This is my master." Suddenly, a brilliant light enveloped the beast. Its body began to transform, tearing away the fur covering it. "Master has returned." The emotional declaration rang out as a young woman landed softly. Mam Harris, the beast woman with signature tiger ears and tail, knelt before him, her eyes brimming with happiness. "I have waited for you for so long. Is that you, Lord Jenin?" Jenin was stunned to realize that the previous demon lord truly had such a beautiful female subordinate in his ranks. Before he could react, the tiger girl lunged forward and hugged him affectionately. "Lord Jenin, I've missed you so much." Jenin panicked and tried to push her away. "Wait, hold on, who are you? And stop hugging me." The girl looked surprised and explained, "It's me, Mam Harris, your tiger mount. Have you forgotten me?" The name Mam Harris left Jenin speechless. He quickly asked, "You said Mam Harris?" Seeing her master was still confused, she asked, "Have your memories returned now?" In Jenin's mind, an image flashed of a giant, ferocious, demonic tiger, titled Leader of the Beastman Tribe, and right-hand man to the Demon Lord. The image of a hulking, muscle-bound tiger man roaring made Jenin scream in terror. "What the hell is this? Are you cosplaying?" Why do you look so different? Faced with his utter shock, Harris blushed and confessed, well, it all happened 100 years ago. According to Harris, back then, the former master was ambushed by the Archangel leader, Ketch. Even though he fought valiantly, he was ultimately defeated, leading to the complete dissolution of the Demon Lord's army. The demon race couldn't defend themselves against the cleansing of the new Archangel leader named Ben. This event caused a massive shock, as 6 of the 7 demon leaders were forced to surrender and serve the angels. Only the Beastmen, under her command, continued to fight back. However, even the Beastmen couldn't escape the purge and were captured by the enemy. Harris painfully recalled the moment Ben cursed her, turning her from a mighty warrior into a woman. Since then, the angels had successfully seized control of the demon army. She quietly used a twig to sketch the images of her army on the ground, looking sad. Harris asked anxiously, "Does Master understand the current situation?" Jenin could only nod in acknowledgement, though he silently criticized her artistic skills, wishing she would never draw again. He felt it was extremely strange that the feat of defeating Jenin had been completely forgotten in the story, and he wondered why 100 years had already passed. Suddenly, a quest panel titled "The King's Return" appeared, requiring him to liberate the Beastmen and regain the support of the Beastman tribe leader within 2 days. Jenin thought that since he had to live in this world, he should probably follow the system's instructions to get the reward. But then, Jenin suddenly changed his attitude, his face full of defiance. "I refuse." He didn't want to take the risk without knowing the extent of the curses on his body. Immediately, the system imposed a failure penalty, a blood source curse causing stunted growth and eternal migraines, which terrified Jenin. He thought about ignoring the quest, but a 40-minute countdown appeared, forcing him to bitterly admit that he had no choice but to start. Reluctantly, Jenin pressed yes and irritably asked, "Are you satisfied now?" A reward selection panel appeared, giving him a choice between unlocking the Demon Lord's power or finding a way back to his old world. Jenin briefly fantasized about the lavish life of a king, full of treasure and beauties, but then he snapped out of it. "No, I still have a real life to go back to." He turned seriously to Mam Harris and asked, "Leader Mam Harris, if I ask you to fight by my side once again, will you lend me your strength?" Harris cheered with joy. "Absolutely. I've been waiting for this for so long." Jenin, feeling excited, made his decision. "That's it. I'll choose A for the reward." But Mam Harris suddenly poured cold water on him by revealing she was no longer the leader, as her strength had diminished after becoming a woman, and the position had been taken away. Jenin was so shocked his face contorted. He screamed in desperation, "What did you just say?" "I asked you because I thought you were the leader." Mam Harris calmly replied that if he wanted to meet the current leader, he could do so immediately. Mam Harris excitedly insisted that if everyone knew Lord Jenin had returned, they would surely come back. Jenin could only utter in disbelief, "Really?" Suddenly, she lunged at him, hugging him tightly, blissfully enjoying the feeling of being one with the master she had longed for. Not letting Jenin recover, Harris threw him over her shoulder and dashed at full speed toward the Beastman base. Being dragged along so roughly, Jenin could only scream in pain as his body slammed repeatedly along the way. Meanwhile, at the Royal Archangel Temple, a gloomy atmosphere took hold. Inside the magnificent hall, Ben, the supreme leader of the angels, stood calmly by a chessboard. A subordinate reported, "Lord Ben, Sa has been resurrected." Ben gave a slight, mysterious smirk, as if everything were going according to his plans. He ordered his subordinate to alert the other angels, his eyes gleaming with malice. He told himself he had to take one more step to destroy Jenin in utter despair. Because Jenin had killed Ketch, the one Ben cherished, he swore he would make the Demon King suffer in front of his own demonic subjects before Ketch took his life. Ben coldly pushed a white pawn, directly knocking a black piece off the board to assert his resolve. Jenin was definitely finished this time. In the Dragon Valley, an assassin with silver-white hair stood proudly on the carcass of a giant dragon. A subordinate rushed over to report, "Captain, we've been hit with another deadline by the angels. We need to eliminate the resurrected Demon King, Jenin." Hearing his opponent's name, the one called Captain smiled with excitement, thinking this was a chance to escape his long-standing boredom. He quickly leaped from the high cliff, ordering the task to be transferred to the 3rd Squad of the Dark Moon. This leader was Jiro, a level 32 assassin from the DM clan with the title Black Crow. With eyes burning with murderous intent, Jiro led his army forward and declared cruelly, "We will slaughter them all." At the CDA mountain range, a new Beastman village appeared, filled with an atmosphere of angelic worship. The villagers were kneeling before a giant statue, believing that only the ruler Ben could bring them true happiness and protection. Watching from afar, Harris asked, "My lord, why don't you just walk in there openly?" Jenin looked at the flag bearing the order to hunt him down and replied uneasily. Just walking in there after seeing a flag like that would be a bit. He glanced at the mission countdown, which had less than 37 minutes left, his heart filled with anxiety. In this game, losers were often forced into labor for the winners, but Jenin had never seen them forced to change their faith in such an extreme way. He remained wary of the terrifying influence of the new angel leader, and Jenin decided the first thing to do was to reclaim the position of Beastman leader for Mom Harris. Jenin declared loudly, "Don't worry, I guarantee that your loyalty will be rewarded. I promise you will regain your status within the Beastman tribe." Ma'am Harris teared up. "I don't deserve such words from you, my lord." When asked about the leader's location, she pointed toward a house with a red flag on its roof, and reminded both of them that they needed to persuade the chieftain before entering. Suddenly, a heavy rain of arrows poured down from above. Harris immediately lunged to shield him and shouted, "Lord Jenin, get back." She was struck by an arrow, but she endured and told her master to look after himself first. From above, the mastermind revealed himself with a scornful smile. "Ma'am Harris, are you still wagging your tail for that guy?" Just as the angels said, the Demon King is a coward hiding behind his subordinates. He was Enchi, a level 32 sky wolf of the Beastman tribe. Enchi drew his bow haughtily. "I also have to thank you for bringing the target here, former leader." Enchi roared, demanding Ma'am Harris step aside so he could present Jenin's head to Lord Ben. In response, Harris cursed the traitor to his face, calling him a disgrace to the Beastman tribe for willingly becoming a slave to the angels. Realizing the angels had sniffed out his presence, Jenin observed the situation silently. Enchi ordered his soldiers to capture both of them, but Ma'am Harris immediately took a defensive stance, declaring she would tear apart anyone who dared to touch her master. Facing his opponent's provocation, Jenin suddenly smirked with confidence and told Ma'am Harris to leave the rest to him. Jenin looked at the beastmen with contempt, mocking them as nothing more than a bunch of weak kittens and puppies. An aura of red murderous intent, shaped like a demon, erupted behind him, making them all tremble in fear. Even Enchi was shocked by the sudden shift in attitude and the terrifying pressure radiating from the one he had just called weak. The system notified that Jenin had successfully intimidated the enemy and received a new skill called Steps of the Dark Lord. This skill allowed him to place opponents in a state of fear for 15 seconds. Jenin wondered excitedly about the effectiveness of this new skill. Well, this skill is actually pretty good, right? To activate the power, Jenin just needed to stomp his foot. He wore a sinister smile, deciding to test it immediately to see what the pressure of a true Demon King would be like. A powerful stomp created a deep blue wave of energy, carrying wailing souls toward the enemy. Jenin shouted, "Try your best to endure the pressure of this Demon King." The beastmen were completely engulfed by the terrifying surge of power, only able to scream in pain as their souls were shaken. But as the soldiers were collapsing in fear, a bright red system notification appeared, with malice. "Oops, the effect has been reversed." The curse had been activated. Jenin turned pale with horror as he realized the trouble had struck at the crucial moment. He quickly turned and shouted for Harris to run, leaving her, bewildered, not knowing what was happening. The wicked curse had turned the intimidation skill into a taunt, making the beastmen bloodthirsty and insane instead of fearful. Their eyes glowing red, they roared with fury and lunged at him like crazed beasts. "Kill the Demon King," the system sounded coldly. Provocation successful. The target has been locked for 60 seconds. Jenin went pale as he saw the crazed beastmen charging. He thought in despair, "It's over. I'm going to die here." Immediately, a hail of blows rained down, leaving Jenin unable to react. Watching her master being tortured, Harris could only cry out in worry, "Lord Jenin." In the midst of the pain, Jenin decided to make one last gamble. "There's no other way. I need to use it again. If I put all my strength into it, maybe I can intimidate them one more time." He gathered his remaining strength, performed a powerful stomp that tore the ground, and roared, "Bow your heads, or I'll crush you all right now." Jenin tried to keep an arrogant expression despite his heavy injuries to hide his weakness, adding, "You trash dare to resist me?" I wanted to avoid a fight, for Ma'am Harris's sake. However, Ma'am Harris realized he was overexerting himself. Clearly, he is pushing himself too hard. I don't think he can hold on much longer. Seeing this, Enchi approached to pressure her. "Former leader, stop this pointless resistance. For the sake of the Beastman tribe, he must die. This is a good opportunity." Harris suddenly snapped out of it. She realized this was the moment to rise up once again. She shouted loudly to stop the crowd. "Everyone, calm down. Let's settle this the Beastman way, through the duels of the 100 beasts." While Jen was still confused about what this duel of 100 beasts was supposed to be, Enchi immediately grilled him. You're just stalling to save her, aren't you? Do you think I'm stupid? Just as he was about to land the killing blow, an authoritative voice suddenly stopped him. Halt. Enchi. Harming the person who initiated the duel of 100 beasts goes against our rules. The crowd parted as a new figure appeared, leaving Jen to sigh in exhaustion. This newcomer was an old man with snowy white hair, sitting on a palanquin carried by hulking beastmen. He solemnly warned, Mom, a duel of 100 beasts isn't just a normal fight. It's a battle where you put everything on the line, even your own life. In case you're wondering, this new arrival is Dawson, an elderly beastman advisor, level 35, though he is currently suffering the same fate of having his power sealed. Facing Mam Harris's reckless proposal, the old advisor Dawson asked thoughtfully, Are you still sure you want to do this? Looking at the old man's dignified appearance, Jen silently realized this was the current leader he would have to face sooner than expected. When Mam Harris firmly confirmed, Dawson was still bewildered, searching for Mam Harris. Only when the guard next to him pointed toward the tiger girl did he realize in shock that the fierce leader of the past had changed completely. He clicked his tongue to hide his embarrassment. Ah, of course. I knew that from the start. Seeing that the situation seemed to have been smoothed over, Jen spoke up. She's been injured, so even if we have to fight, we must wait until she recovers. However, Dawson coldly dismissed him. Shut up, quit your whining. You're the one who challenged us to this duel of 100 beasts in the first place. Despite his harsh words, the old man tossed a potion toward him. Here's the medicine, take it. Jen quickly caught it and didn't forget to thank the grumpy old man. He secretly wondered if the elder had some hidden agenda for agreeing to the duel and giving him the potion. Even so, Jen knew he had no choice but to fight. He gently told Mam Harris, try to bear with it for a moment. He then firmly pulled the arrow embedded in her shoulder, making the girl cry out in pain. Seeing the fresh blood flow, Jen shuddered, realizing the terrifying realism of this world. It was no longer just a game. He knew that the duel of 100 beasts was the highest ritual to choose a leader, and this was the only way for him to gain recognition from the Beastmen tribe to survive. While Jen was bandaging her wound, Harris whispered anxiously, Lord Jenin, while I distract them, please escape. She considered herself a burden now and was ready to gamble her life to protect her master. Faced with such foolish self-sacrifice, Jen suddenly reached out and squeezed Harris's cheeks hard, distorting her face. Don't be so stupid. I can't just leave you and run away. He flashed a sinister smile and confidently asserted, Don't worry. There's no way I'm going to lose. With the experience of the top player who had defeated every race, Jen declared he had found these beastmen's weakness. Jen's confidence ignited a fire in Mom Harris, making her feel filled with hope for the upcoming victory. Jen silently assessed her. She had become very kind since her transformation, even though her strength had diminished significantly. Right at this moment, Dawson slammed his staff onto the ground, emitting a dry thud, and loudly declared, Now, let the duel of 100 beasts begin. Jen looked toward the arena, telling himself he had to get used to fighting as quickly as possible. The advisor Dawson began explaining the rules to a newcomer like General. The duel of 100 beasts is a competition everyone holds whenever important decisions must be made. Amidst the roaring cheers of the crowd, he emphasized that the challenger would have to fight against 3 elements: sea, earth, and sky. The method of combat would be chosen by the challenger. I understand. Jen nodded confidently, leaving Mam Harris in awe. Lord Jenin, you look so confident. He secretly thought the rules were still the same as in the game. If he wasn't mistaken, the first opponent representing the Earth would be Sato of the Nightwolf tribe. But Gen's calculations immediately crumbled when Dawson roared, Banda, get out here. Representing the Earth, enter the arena. Gen's face turned pale with shock as a massive shadow appeared behind him. He could only gasp in horror. What is this? Before them stood Banda, an elephant beast man with a hulking frame and rippling muscles. Dawson bellowed, Let's fight fairly. According to system information, Banda was the king of strength at level 28. Even with his power sealed, his presence was still incredibly terrifying. Jen panicked, his face twisted in fear. It was supposed to be Sato, right? Why did it change so suddenly? This is rigged. Banda looked at his opponent with glowing red eyes. Let's have some fun together. The chosen format was an arm wrestling match. Looking at Banda's massive arm compared to Mam Harris's, Jen hurriedly asked quietly, Hey, wasn't Sato supposed to represent the Earth? Her sadly explained that Sato had died heroically in the battle against the angels 100 years ago, and even the ones for the sky and Waka for the water were also gone. Jen was stunned as he realized his fatal mistake. Damn, I forgot it's been 100 years. All my bros are gone, no more cheating. Dawson slammed his staff again, creating a sturdy stone table, and ordered, "Both sides, prepare yourselves." Jen tried to reassure himself that since the opponent was also sealed, the power difference probably wouldn't be too vast. But as soon as he faced Banda across the table, he instantly regretted that thought. That guy looks like he could take down 10 people like me. Jen's face turned as pale as someone drained of all life. He even imagined himself lying in a grave. Seeing her master worried, her secretly reminded him of the old plan. "Sir, do you remember the plan I mentioned? While I distract them, please run away." Jen looked in shock at the tiger girl who was preparing to put herself in danger. When Dawson shouted ready, her and Banda began to lock hands. Jen bitterly admitted in despair, "There's definitely no other choice but to run." Fighting was clearly just going to lead to defeat anyway. Just as Dawson shouted the command to start, Jen suddenly stepped forward to stop Mam Harris, making her startle and call his name. Jen looked at her with determination. "Mam Harris, the plan is for me to fight in your place, right?" Even though his heart was still wavering, he understood that if he cowardly ran away now, he would have to live in hiding forever. Seeing his opponent change, Banda laughed excitedly. "How interesting that the Demon King himself will fight me." Observing from high above, Enchi mocked this meaningless effort. Dawson turned to ask his representative for an opinion, and Banda immediately agreed to fight with great enthusiasm. The match officially began with a powerful arm lock. Jenin gritted his teeth, realizing that despite his cool exterior, his arm was about to snap under the giant's overwhelming strength. Just as things hit a breaking point, the system alert popped up, asking if he wanted to activate petrification mode for defense. Like a drowning man clutching at a straw, Jenin screamed in his mind, urging the system to do it now because he had reached his limit. "Hurry up, do it now. My arm's gonna break." The 1-0-second countdown for petrification began. Jenin anxiously endured the pain as his arm slowly turned into cold, gray stone. A fierce burst of energy erupted from the point of contact, creating a shockwave so powerful that Banda's eyes widened in sheer disbelief at the sudden resistance. The power from Jenin's petrified arm triggered a massive pressure explosion that tore up the ground and shook the entire arena to its core. Banda was stunned, unable to believe what he was feeling from his opponent. Is this guy a beast or what? A thick cloud of dust billowed from the center of the Selter. Explosion, making Enchi assume Banda had won easily. Amidst the chaos, her desperately called out to her master in vain. However, the old advisor Dawson, with his keen eyes, noticed something unusual happening beneath the dust cloud. He gasped in utter amazement at the true nature of that strike. Her cheered with hope. "Look, the Demon Lord hasn't lost yet." Amidst the rubble, Banda was struggling, shocked by his opponent's resistance. Oh, a worthy opponent indeed. However, Jen was secretly breaking into a cold sweat. The petrification technique was definitely not a long-term solution. Suddenly, the system warned him that his right arm was overloaded and began an upgrade process to adapt. Jen smirked confidently as he felt the new power surging. All right, just in time for a counterattack. Another massive explosion erupted from where their arms collided, leaving Enchi unable to believe his own eyes. No way that guy is actually holding his own against Banda, the one who can move mountains? Jenin felt triumphant at the crowd's shock. "You guys don't get it. The more I fight, the stronger I get. That's the rules of the game." System notifications kept popping up, showing his petrification level and hardness increasing. He suddenly realized that ever since he met Mom, this reality had become completely different from playing a game in a safe room. No matter how harsh these two worlds were, Jenin told himself he had to fight to survive. Banda started to look flustered, unable to budge Jenin's arm at all. Wait, why is he so stiff? Jenin intended to drag the match out until his opponent ran out of steam, but the system brought bad news. His mana consumption was rising rapidly, and the petrification would wear off soon. His face paled with worry. Just as he noticed Banda's pressure starting to fade, Jen realized his opponent was running out of breath. Suddenly, a pitch-black aura engulfed the giant, accompanied by a bone-chilling declaration. "You've finally managed to catch my attention." Jenin gasped in horror. "What?" Beast mode was officially activated, causing Banda's body to transform and emit pressure many times more terrifying than before. Jenin realized in shock that his opponent had unleashed the true form of the beastkin. Banda, in the form of a giant mammoth, roared, shaking the entire arena. Witnessing this terrifying sight, Genin could only scream helplessly. Is that even fair? Even the old advisor, Dawson, had to admit that even he never expected Banda to possess such world-shaking power. Standing on the sidelines, Her was extremely worried. She shouted a warning. "Master! Jenin, stop for a second. He'll revert back in less than a minute." But Jen had reached his limit. His arm felt like it was about to shatter. "Stop my ass! My arm is about to break." In a life-or-death moment, he made a decision. That's right. I'll use that technique. Jenin poured every bit of his remaining strength into a powerful roar. You want a piece of me? Take a look at this. A blood-red energy erupted, creating massive magic circles that surrounded the mammoth. The pressure from this new skill was so intense it felt as if the surrounding space was being crushed. Despite the difference in size, Genin charged straight at his opponent, creating a shockwave that tore the ground apart. The force of the energy blast was so powerful it blew away the spectators watching. Dawson and Her could only cover their faces from the fierce gale amidst the dense dust. Jenin's glowing red eyes locked directly with Banda's bloodthirsty gaze. A massive pillar of light shot up from the center of the battlefield, signaling that the final, decisive blow had been dealt. As the dust settled, the giant Banda was completely exhausted, staggering to his knees and admitting bitterly, I surrender. Dawson immediately announced the result to the entire tribe. The winner, Jenin, stood silently in the middle of the arena, breathing heavily. He still couldn't believe his own victory. Did I really win? Meanwhile, the Beastkin started cheering excitedly for the next fight. As they prepared for the next round, Mam ran up to her master happily. Master Jenin, you did it. Banda silently accepted his defeat, leaving everyone who had looked down on this new demon lord in shock. Witnessing the demon lord's unexpected victory, the old advisor Dawson fell into deep thought. Although the Beastkin had submitted to the angels, their loyalty was forced, and he wondered if the return of Jenin was the key to breaking their current chains. Meanwhile, despite winning the match, Genin found himself in an awkward situation, his entire body petrified and stiff as a board, unable to move. He sheepishly asked, I'm sorry, but could you carry me? Her immediately obeyed. She strained herself to lift the human-shaped stone onto her shoulder with heavy gasps. Thinking he looked pretty cool in this form, Jenin said, What technique is this? It's so hard and badass. It only made the tiger girl blush and remind him to watch his language. According to the system, this petrification defense effect would last another 13 minutes before it ended. Exactly 13 minutes later, when his body returned to normal, Genin and Old Man Dawson went deep into a fiery volcanic cave. Jenin, dripping with sweat, asked, Hey old man, how much longer until we get there? Dawson gave a mysterious smile and replied, Heh, we're already here. He pointed toward a towering stone structure amidst the flow of lava and declared this was the location for the second trial. Jenin gasped. Here, the stifling heat made him incredibly uncomfortable, and just then, a mysterious shadow leaped down from the high cliff, blocking their path. The stranger landed with immense power right in front of them. Dawson explained that the next test would be a brutal challenge of endurance. The mysterious figure slowly took off their cloak, revealing the muscular body of a beast warrior. The dragonkin, with long white hair and a scaly tail, locked eyes with Genin, looking at him with a provocative glare as he announced, All right, let's get this heated match started. Right behind him, a pool of bubbling lava emerged, filled with floating rocks ready to swallow anyone foolish enough to fail this deadly challenge. Seeing his opponent hesitate, the dragonkin taunted him. What, scared? There's still time to run, you know, but Jen simply replied with a sinister smile. Give up? Actually, I was really looking forward to a nice hot pot of seafood. He secretly calculated that water-type beastkin were heavily affected by their psychological state, so he intentionally tried to provoke him. However, the dragon warrior maintained an incredibly calm composure. Let's see if you can keep that mouth of yours running when you're under the lava. Seeing both sides were ready, the elder advisor Dawson loudly declared the start of the match between Jenin and Wara. As soon as the signal was given, both of them dove into the boiling lava. The impact created massive columns of fire and bubbles, leaving the crowd watching from the bank in absolute shock. In the middle of the scorching Mamharasa River, the warrior Wara suddenly stood up with immense power, as if the searing heat couldn't touch him at all. The beastkin crowd cheered Wara's name loudly, while Hera stood on the bank, burning with anxiety because Sa still hadn't surfaced from the scorching Mamharasa. Wara laughed triumphantly. He assumed the extreme pain had silenced his opponent and that his body had likely melted away under the terrifying heat. Suddenly, a kick erupted from deep beneath the lava, leaving the waterkin warrior wide-eyed in astonishment. The entire arena was stunned as Jen casually rose to the surface with a refreshed expression. He was enjoying the Mamharasa as if he were soaking in a real hot spring, causing Harris to cheer joyfully for her master. In contrast to that excitement, Wara began to tremble, unable to believe his own eyes. Not letting his opponent regain his senses, Jen dove deep into the flaming lava again, creating powerful shockwaves. Wara struggled in vain to find any trace of his opponent, wondering where on earth he had vanished. Jen secretly realized that the fatal weakness of the water-type beastkin was their tails. While Wara was busy calculating his endurance and fearing a surprise attack from below, Jen had quietly closed in from behind. He suddenly surged upward, grabbing his opponent tight and roaring with killing intent. "Die right here." Jen lifted the giant into midair, leaving him in terror. He smirked, revealing the secret, that he knew full well the water-type race couldn't maintain their state in lava for long. Wara panicked completely, screaming and asking what the hell Gen had done, because the water beastkin had to go through an extremely brutal training process just to withstand this temperature. So how on earth could Jen stay so impossibly calm? Jen smirked mysteriously at his opponent's astonishment. "You want to know why? Well, I don't feel like telling you. Go ahead and die of frustration." At that moment, the system constantly warned him about the high temperature burning his body. But another curse, called the Song of the Lamenting Snow, suddenly activated, helping him completely neutralize the effects of the lava. Seizing the opportunity, Jen leaped out of the flaming Harasa, leaving a bewildered Wara behind. Even though he was losing, Wara gritted his teeth in resilience. The beastkin wouldn't be defeated so easily. "At this rate, I have to use that thing. For the sake of my tribe, I can't lose." He decided to use the Frost Stone, a treasure of the water tribe that helps them adapt to and resist the extreme heat of the lava. While the battle inside the volcano remained intense, Jiro's assassin squad on the other side received a new report. "Captain, all preparations are complete." Jiro asked coldly, "Where are Jenin and Herat?" His subordinate reported that, according to intelligence from the Angel tribe, the targets were currently in the lava tunnel beneath the volcano for a duel. Jiro smiled with a calculating look. "Good. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The timing is perfect. He is walking right into his own grave. All we have to do now is deliver the finishing blow. No delays." Jiro immediately deployed a secret technique called Shingen Nusu, launching sharp stakes that pinned firmly into the ground, creating a dark formation that surrounded a pitch-black energy orb. The subordinates standing nearby were terrified, realizing this was the legendary technique that could burn everything to ashes. Jiro decisively ordered, "Explode. Send them both to the furnace." A horrific explosion erupted, releasing rays of crimson energy. When a subordinate asked if their mission was only to kill the resurrected Demon King, Jiro looked into the distance with a cold glare and clarified the true intention of Lord Ben. He declared that the actual order was to wipe out anyone associated with the Demon King. Meanwhile, at the Beastkin settlement, the atmosphere remained incredibly peaceful. The children were still playing, chasing each other for their toys amid happy laughter. A pregnant angelkin woman with white wings sat quietly, rubbing her belly. She affectionately chose names like Wind for her unborn child, looking forward to her husband's return to ask for his opinion. But that peace seemed to be only the beginning of a storm at the center of the village. The giant angel statue, the symbol of protection, suddenly started to shed tears of blood down its face, signaling a horrific tragedy about to strike. The second round of the beast duel continued to rage on in the burning lava. Jen smirked triumphantly at his opponent. "You don't look so strong anymore, and it's only been 30 minutes. However, inside, he was secretly worried, needing to end the battle quickly, or else he wouldn't finish in time for the system's mission countdown. Wara began to lose steam, gritting his teeth as he questioned, "Don't get cocky. You did something to this lava, didn't you?" He noticed the temperature all around was rising abnormally and wondered if the effect of the frost stone had already worn off. Seeing his opponent reached his limit, Jen spoke up. "If you admit defeat, we can end this fight right here." Standing on the bank watching, Enchi muttered enviously, "Humph, he wouldn't be able to act so smug if he were fighting me." Suddenly, Jen stopped, sensing something abnormal in the environment. Wara was in great pain, while air bubbles surged violently from the bottom. A bright red system notification popped up with a warning. "Ambient temperature rising." Jenin asked the system, panicked, "What do you mean the temperature is rising?" Wara suddenly collapsed into the Harasa, causing Jen to shout in a panic, "Wara, what the hell is going on?" With his last dying breath, he warned of a terrifying truth. "The heat is so intense, the volcano is about to erupt." Jenin's face turned pale with horror. "Is it really true?" Without a moment's hesitation, he lunged to grab the sinking figures, shouting to the crowd on the shore, "Everyone, get out of here now! The volcano is about to erupt." Old Man Dawson and the Beastkin were stunned, unable to believe their ears. Did he just say it's erupting? Suddenly, a massive column of fire erupted from the cave with terrifying power. Jenin hugged them tightly, gritting his teeth as he realized they were in a desperate situation. "We won't make it in time, it's already started." Outside, Mount Kazda shook violently as deafening explosions erupted from the summit. Through the thick smoke and dust, with flames spewing from the cave entrance, a giant eagle suddenly shot out just before a massive explosion swallowed the entire entrance whole. Everyone on the eagle's back breathed a sigh of relief. They had almost been reincarnated right then and there. Thanks to Saw's quick reflexes and timely assistance from N's beast form, the group narrowly escaped death. Looking toward the base, Mam Harris was anxious and worried, but what about the rest of the Beastkin village? Jenin turned back, full of questions, but they all fell silent as they looked down from high above. A horrific tragedy was unfolding before their eyes. The entire village was being engulfed in a sea of red flames. The erupting volcano rained fire down upon the land, causing the people to scream in desperate cries for help. Looking down at the ruins, Enchi realized with horror that her own people were caught in it. In the middle of a house engulfed in flames, a female angelkin was trying to hold her child close to her chest. A heart-wrenching scream echoed out. "My wife!" He prepared to dive down to save them immediately, as the situation was incredibly critical. Damn it. But Jenin stopped him just in time. "Hold on. Don't jump down yet. The wind from your wings will only fan the flames." Below, the mother and child are already fainting from smoke inhalation. Old Man Dawson urged them desperately. "We need to save them right now." Jenin's eyes turned cold and decisive. He shouted, "Wara, you know what to do." The tiger girl immediately replied, "Understood." Jenin launched himself into the air, leaping off the eagle's back. At the same time, Harris activated his beast origin state, transforming into a giant, majestic white tiger to catch him mid-air. Landing amidst the sea of fire, Genin reached out toward the terrified mother and child and shouted, "Hurry, get up here." He gripped the woman's hand, pulled them onto the tiger's back, and commanded, "Ma'am Harris, move, go." The powerful white tiger roared and darted through the collapsing ruins. Jenin reassured them amidst the thunderous explosions. "Just reach the high ground up ahead, and you'll be safe." Once they reached the safety of the high ground, the woman choked back tears. "Thank you for saving us." Jenin didn't take a moment to rest, and immediately urged them on. "Save the thanks for later. Ma'am Harris, let's go save the others." The volcano was still erupting violently. Enchi, in her eagle form, shrieked in worry as she looked down at the sea of fire. "It's still erupting. If we don't stop it soon, the entire Beastkin tribe will be wiped out." Riding on the back of the white tiger, Harris charged through the burning ruins. Jenin pondered, remembering the information about this land. If I remember correctly, Mount Kakaro is predicted to erupt once every 1,500 years. If so, then the next eruption should have been. He began to wonder if his presence in this world was the catalyst that brought the disaster upon them earlier than expected. Glancing at the mission countdown, which had less than 29 minutes remaining, Jenin told himself, "Saving the Beastkin tribe is part of the mission that Old Man assigned me to earn recognition." He decisively ordered, "I'm going to do something about this volcano. I'm leaving everyone in your hands." Old Man Dawson, being carried on the back of a soldier, was stunned and asked, "What? What are you going to do about this eruption?" Jenin glanced back with a look of pure determination and affirmed, "I'll find a way. After all, I am the Demon King." Seeing their master head toward danger, Wara immediately offered, "Lord Jenin, let me lend you a hand." Meanwhile, from a high cliff overlooking the village engulfed in fire, the assassin Jiro coldly enjoyed the chaotic scene. "Keep burning. Soon the forest will be wiped clean. Once that happens, the mission Lord Ben gave us will be complete." A subordinate quickly ran over to report, "Captain, the exits have been blocked. They have nowhere left to run." Jiro praised him with satisfaction. "Well done. Even if the Demon King tries to escape, he'll be nothing more than a rat trapped in a sack." He stood confidently, watching the desperate villagers fleeing the fire, certain that his trap had completely closed shut. Suddenly, the soldier observing with binoculars shouted, "Captain, I've spotted the Demon King." Jiro immediately turned to ask with great excitement, "Which direction is he fleeing in?" But his subordinate hesitated, wearing a very confused expression. Sir, look." Giro's soldier reported in terror as he saw Jenin charging straight toward the erupting peak of Mount Kakaro. Riding on Wara's back, the Sharkkin warrior was gliding powerfully through the scorching hot magma. Jenin moved closer to the heart of the disaster. Wara shouted in worry, "Lord Jenin, this is the closest distance I can take you to the volcano's crater. It's too hot ahead. I can't go any further." Jenin replied calmly, "This is far enough. Leave the rest to me." To Wara's astonishment, he jumped off the beast's back and declared loudly, "Do I even need to ask? I'll extinguish this fire with my own 2 hands." Wara could only gasp in shock as he saw the Demon King proactively throwing himself into the most dangerous place. Looking at Jenin's determined back amidst the sea of fire, he silently marveled that this king was completely different from what he had imagined before. As his body entered the zone of extreme temperature, the system continuously sent notifications that his heretic ice skill had leveled up to adapt. Jenin realized a pattern. The harsher the environmental conditions, the stronger his skills became. With a crazy calculation, he decided to strip off all his clothes mid-air to maximize his surface area contact with the Mamharasa, forcing the curse to unleash its ultimate power. He tensed his muscles, issuing a challenge. "Come on, curse. Grow even stronger within all this Mamharasa." Immediately, the skill reached a new level, and its duration was significantly extended, pushing past every limit of endurance. Jen officially gained a new skill called Absolute Zero. A bone-chilling cold erupted from his body, beginning to freeze everything around him right in the heart of the burning volcano. Jenin flashed a triumphant smile. "It's go time. I've definitely got this volcano in the bag." A massive explosion of ice erupted, directly countering and suppressing the heat of the Mamharasa to stop the eruption. Meanwhile, back at the village, Harris in his white tiger form was struggling to lead the evacuation of the people. "Everyone, prioritize getting the children to safety. Now," she shouted, urging the crowd. "Leader, the fire's spreading too fast," a beastman reported in a panic amidst the sea of flames. Gliding above, Jenin doubted that new Demon King had just run away. Her, in her white tiger form, roared in defiance. "He's not that kind of person." The mission countdown timer flashed an intense 25 minutes. Enchi spoke coldly. "You trust him way too much. Do you really think one person can stop an entire volcanic eruption?" Despite the skepticism, Her stood firm in her belief. "If it's Lord Sa, he'll definitely find a way." She recalled his past victories and insisted that Lord Sa was capable of miracles. Enchi watched in silence, but then his expression shifted as he noticed something strange at the mountain. "Look at the volcano!" a voice cried out in shock. From the peak, brilliant blue beams of light shot into the sky, tearing through the night. A shocking notification appeared. The eruption had stopped. The sight of the mountain falling silent amidst the burning forest left everyone stunned. Her cheered with joy. "It's Lord Sa. He actually stopped the eruption." In contrast to her joy, Jiro's assassins were in complete shock. "No way. The boss hasn't been nerfed yet?" one of his henchmen asked nervously. "What now, boss? If we fail, our tribal." Jiro calmly used a knife to peel an apple and reassured him. "Don't worry." He revealed a terrifying truth. The angel group had planted a special curse within those embers, and it had only reached 10% of its power. His eyes glowed with a murderous aura as he smirked. "The real fun is just beginning." In the distance, Enchi was still reeling from the shock, unable to believe the Demon King had actually stopped the eruption. But suddenly, he sensed another massive threat looming. A loud explosion shook the ground as plumes of jet-black gas rose from the mountain. Everyone screamed in panic. "Is the mountain collapsing? Run! The mountain's coming down!" Her and the beastmen wondered in horror how this could be happening. A wave of eerie black smoke surged toward them with terrifying speed, as if to swallow them whole. Sensing the danger, Her yelled, "Watch out!" and lunged to shield her comrades. A jagged black rock covered in purple energy struck her. Her roared in pain as the dark aura engulfed her. Witnessing the scene, a beastman screamed. Her writhed in agonizing pain, trying to gasp out, "Don't come near me!" Her realized the unnatural nature of this black fire. This black flame, why does it look so wicked? She realized in agony that it couldn't be extinguished. "It won't go out, no matter how much I blow on it. It's burning my very soul." The other beastmen were terrified to hear about a fire that consumes the soul. One of them realized the horrifying truth. It can't be. This is the cursed seed. Resentment is the real power behind these embers. Giro watched the tragedy coldly, noting that there was no better way to accumulate resentment than through deaths disguised as accidents. He knew that every 1,000 years, the eruption of Mount Kakaro turned everything within 400 kilometers into a sea of fire. The resentment gathered from tonight, and the last 1,000 years should have been enough to awaken the cursed seed. Yet, Jiro still couldn't fathom how Sa had managed to halt the eruption. Meanwhile, at the scene, a monkeykin was losing hope as they were surrounded by the inextinguishable embers of resentment. He bitterly accepted that the end had come. Just then, Her appeared amidst the black flames and scolded him. "You're complaining about fire at this level?" Despite her body being burned by the purple energy, she strode forward proudly, leaving the monkeykin stunned as he asked what she was doing. Her declared loudly, "Isn't it obvious? I'm getting everyone out of here." She used her incredible strength to shatter the burning logs, carving a path through. The monkeykin tried to stop her, claiming it was impossible. You'll die before you even get close, and the edge of the forest is over 100 meters away. But Her remained determined. I'll never know until I try. If I fall, I'll just get back up. If I fall 100 times, I'll get back up 100 times. No matter where I fall, I will rise again. Because I am going to save everyone. Her roared with determination, asserting that Her was not a beast, who could be stopped by mere common flames. She poured her remaining strength into clearing the final obstacles to protect her allies. Witnessing that iron will, a dignified lionkin appeared and applauded her. Immediately, other beastmen warriors rose to their feet as well. The black flames of resentment no longer frightened them. It only fueled their will to fight. They shouted in unison, "Her, our leader, we will help you. We have the pride of the beastmen too." Her smiled proudly. "That is why we exist. And I know that Lord Sa is definitely fighting his hardest for our peace." The entire beastman army roared, charging into the battle for survival. "Let's go. It's time for us beastmen to stand together and fight." Meanwhile, at the heart of the volcano, Sa was struggling amidst the burning lava. He gritted his teeth, enduring the stinging pain. Damn it, is this black fire caused by the cursed seed? A bright red system notification flashed a warning. Warning, currently under mental attack. Effect of the attack cannot be identified. Sa realized the situation was spiraling out of control. This is bad. Mental attacks are the hardest to deal with. It wasn't this broken in the game. Suddenly, a massive, bony purple hand rose from the lava, followed by a horrific entity. It was a giant skeleton monster with hundreds of screaming skulls embedded in its chest. The system notification confirmed its identity, the cursed seed, a monster born from the resentment of the dead. The entity let out a deafening roar, unleashing terrifying pressure upon Sa. The monster swung its arm to attack. Sa nimbly dove into the lava to dodge. He watched while searching for an opening. Good, I can see me through its attacks. Sa leaped high, avoiding a powerful sweep from the entity of resentment. He thought to himself that it was too slow due to its massive size. However, Sa soon realized a new difficulty. He couldn't land a clean hit. Her would have to find its weakness before she could defeat it. Right then, the cursed seed began gathering vibrant purple energy in its mouth and chest. Its eerie eyes flashed, and it fired a barrage of lethal, flying, skull-shaped souls directly toward him. The skull spirits swarmed in like a frenzy, and Jen could only let out a furious curse. Damn it. A sinister wave of purple energy suddenly wrapped around him, dragging him into an endless void. Jen groaned in pain as he realized his soul was being ripped right out of his body, in the middle of the lava flow. A skull demon lunged, cruelly tearing at his soul, leaving Jen reeling in shock. The damage sustained by his soul instantly reflected onto his physical body, causing his left arm to go completely numb. Jen grit his teeth, realizing the horrific truth. Great, my left arm's completely cut off from me now. When the soul suffers, the body pays the price. The colossal monster stood there like a phantom, casting a shadow over the entire volcano. Jen glared at his opponent, his eyes cold as he realized the truth. So, you're just leisurely savoring your prey, huh? You've got plenty of time on your hands, don't you? He was shocked, realizing his mistake. And here I thought your movements were just sluggish. Turns out you've just been playing with your prey. The monster let out a menacing growl, its eyes glowing in the darkness as if mocking his weakness. Jen gritted his teeth in defiance. You really think I'm some kind of fool? Before he could even finish, the giant hand came crashing down with overwhelming power. Here it comes again. The 1,000-pound impact triggered a violent magical explosion that sent Jen flying. He roared, struggling to maintain his balance amidst the sea of fire. At that very moment, a skull spirit closed in right in front of him, and Jen's face turned pale with horror. Things are getting pretty intense here. He barely managed to choke out another curse before the purple energy surged through him mercilessly. These soul-based attacks were impossible to block or dodge, leaving Jen in a desperate situation. He realized that if this kept up, not only would the mission fail, but even surviving to get off the mountain would be a luxury. He desperately hoped for a miracle, wondering what he could do to turn the tables. Meanwhile, in the village, those surrounded by the black fire were losing their minds and descending into madness. Enchi frantically urged everyone to run as they witnessed the tragedy unfolding before their eyes. Her was struggling to resist the power of the curses. She screamed in pain, telling everyone to leave before she completely lost her sanity to the overwhelming power of the resentment. Watching from afar, Giro understood clearly. The more resentment one absorbs, the more their consciousness erodes. In the end, the victims would become puppets of that hatred, turning against the very people they loved most. However, Manhwa still stood firm, declaring that the Beastkin tribe would never submit to this resentment. Other Beastkin warriors, despite being heavily wounded and severely affected, held onto their resolve, refusing to let themselves be consumed by the darkness. Dark tentacles from the volcano stretched out like devilish limbs, sowing terror and tearing families apart amidst the desperate cries of their loved ones. That dark energy erupted violently from the mountain peak, engulfing everything and making the tragedy worse than ever. In the middle of the scorching lava, Jen watched in horror as Mam Harris's soul was being pulled by a wave of dark power. He screamed in terror. The cursed entity is frantically absorbing her soul into its skeletal body. Jen watched in pain. It's being sucked into that cursed entity. The monster roared endlessly, swallowing souls to grow larger and more powerful. Jen noticed the amount of energy gathering at its core. Seeing the energy core exposed, Jen suppressed his pain and muttered with determination, "All right, this might be our chance." Meanwhile, at the edge of the forest, Mam Harris had completely passed out in her comrade's arms. Dawson looked at the Demon King's loyal subordinate in pain, realizing the situation was hopeless. Ma'am, she might not be saved after all. He understood that if they couldn't retrieve her soul and defeat this entity, the entire Beastkin tribe would perish. Suddenly, a brilliant red beam of light erupted from the volcano, making Dawson exclaim in shock. "What is that? Don't tell me it's leveling up again." The old advisor couldn't believe his eyes as he saw the monster's new form. Is that really the cursed entity? A bright red system notification echoed with a deathly tone. "Warning. The cursed entity has absorbed the Demon King's soul and is evolving further into a greater cursed entity." Dawson was completely crushed by this terrifying transformation. He trembled. If we let it evolve any further, this is the end. Watching from afar through binoculars, the assassin Giro was also caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. He laughed smugly, believing that at this point, no one could stop the destruction. The Beastkin Demon King, all of them will be wiped out. Just watch them all disappear. Heh heh heh. Suddenly, one of Giro's subordinates shouted, reporting, "Captain, there's something inside the cursed entity's body." Giro and Dawson both turned pale with shock. "What?" "That's the Demon King." Right at the monster's energy core, Jen's silhouette suddenly appeared, leaving everyone stunned and wondering how he got there. Amidst the dark purple haze, Jen appeared, his upper body bare and his eyes glowing with rage. He gritted his teeth and declared, "Even my soul, you won't get away with absorbing it so shamelessly. Maybe it's time I taught you a lesson." Jen had infiltrated deep into the giant entity's chest. Seeing the pitch-black orb emitting a sinister aura, he muttered to himself, "Aha, I've caught your heart, haven't I?" Jen wondered what would happen if this thing were destroyed, and without hesitation, he reached out and grabbed it. A hard squeeze made the cursed entity roar in pain, its entire body shaking violently as he struck its critical weak point directly. Witnessing the Demon King's insane actions, a beast man screamed in terror, "Demon King, what on earth are you doing?" Watching from afar, the assassin Giro just muttered with contempt, "What an idiot. Too stupid to be saved." He believed the current Demon King didn't have the power to stop it. At that very moment, Gen realized the dark energy within him was erupting powerfully. Can't Mam Harris control the power of the curse inside? But then, a bold idea flashed through his mind. I get it now. Instead of trying to suppress it, Jen decided to play an all-or-nothing gamble, shouting, "I'll let you absorb as much as you want." He challenged the monster. "How much of my curse do you think you can handle?" Under the influence of the embers of resentment, the level of Jen's curse suddenly increased by 1. The system notified that the dark aura was shifting from Jennan's body to the cursed seed. The colossal entity began to distort, shrieking in agony as it was overwhelmed by the very evil power it tried to consume from its host. A series of terrifying explosions erupted, swallowing the monster in a sea of raging fire. Its form was now nothing more than a blurred, gargantuan shadow, radiating a sinister purple aura amidst the thick smoke and dust. In the village, the beastmen stared in shock at the devastation, the survivors clutching each other in absolute terror at the sheer power of the blast. Watching from a high cliff, Jiro mused that if his tribe hadn't followed Lord Jennan's orders, they likely would have suffered the same fate of total annihilation. Seeing the situation was settled, Jiro ordered his subordinates to retreat. "Let's go. Our part is done. The Seed of Chaos will finish the job for us." But a shocking impact suddenly rippled out from the monster, forcing him to freeze. Jiro stared in horror at the massive surge of energy, while his subordinates trembled before an aura of pure terror, unlike anything they had ever seen. Jiro immediately realized something was wrong. This wasn't the aura of the cursed seed. He stammered, "Wait, who else is activating an aura right now?" Just then, the system notified that the cursed seed had absorbed all the curses from Jenin. but because its level was too low, it couldn't control such a massive amount of power. A debuff effect began to materialize, forcing the original host and the absorber to separate. A fiery red entity with absolute authority suddenly burst out from inside the monster, triggering the giant dragon's breath curse. It was Akankor, the founder of the giant dragon race. Jiro couldn't believe his eyes. A dragon crawling out from inside the cursed seed? The dragon lunged in a frenzy. But Jiro realized these were just remnants of consciousness reawakening. It unleashed thunderous swipes, pinning the dark entity to the ground and mercilessly clawing at it. The cursed seed was completely overpowered. It roared in pain as deep blue system command codes began to appear on its body. From its mouth, pitch-black energy erupted once more, signaling a new transformation. Another curse, the Scorn of Intellect, was officially activated. From the mysterious blue light, a giant humanoid entity with digital outlines emerged. It was Signator, the founder of the intellect race. The cursed seed looked truly pathetic now. It was crushed by giant blocks of stone falling from the sky, struggling in vain to escape the punishment of the ancestors. The relentless attacks gave the hateful entity not a single second to rest. Right after, the wrath of the deep sea erupted. It summoned Tito, the founder of the deep sea race, with massive tentacles covered in sharp spikes. The skeletal monster was now facing the combined power of the three greatest ancestors, not only completely outclassed but also getting jumped. The sight of three colossal entities surrounding the cursed seed created a terrifying scene that blanketed the entire forest. The beastmen below watched the battle in shock. One of them realized the monster's sinister plot. Is it trying to steal our souls to summon more allies? That's so cheap. The situation turned critical as the monster swung its massive tail, sweeping everything in its path. Right then, the curse war roar of the Beast King was activated. A giant white tiger carrying the Demon King Genin on its back surged forward, tearing through the night. The Seed of Chaos roared in pain as it was cornered. Immediately, Harris, in the form of a white tiger, lunged to ferociously maul the hateful entity. Under the brilliant full moon, the figure of the Demon King appeared in all his authority atop the tiger. He spoke softly. "Sorry for keeping you waiting." The beastmen below cheered joyfully, calling out the names of the Demon King and Mamharas as they saw their savior had officially returned. Facing the weakening entity, Genin coldly mocked. "You've shrunk, haven't you? Didn't I tell you? You have no way to deal with me." Witnessing the terrifying spectacle, one of Giro's subordinates wondered in shock if this was the true power of the Demon King to be able to defeat even the Seed of Chaos. However, Giro, with sharp eyes, asserted that what Genin just did wasn't just defeating it. When his subordinate pressed him for the real meaning behind those words, he remained silent, watching the fight with a tense expression. Giro realized a shocking truth. Wait, is the Demon King hosting this match? At that moment, a system notification appeared, explaining the curse harmony state, a miraculous phenomenon born from the influence of an incredibly powerful soul. Her roared and surged forward while the ancestral entities of the races simultaneously unleashed destructive attacks following the king's will. Genin stood tall on the tiger's back, waving his hand to command with determination. "Let's go." Giro silently analyzed that the Seed of Chaos was an entity of resentment, but its power was still far inferior to the Demon King. He realized Genin had subtly deceived the consciousness of the founders, making them believe it was the Seed of Chaos that was the enemy needing to be destroyed. The fiery red dragon, Akankor, gathered a massive energy sphere in front of its mouth and fired straight at the opponent. The hateful entity was shattered into pieces, scrambling in panic as its path was blocked. The red dragon, Akankor, put in all its power, releasing a scorching beam of energy that incinerated everything in its path. The cursed seed was pushed back, suffering heavy damage under the terrifying pressure of the blow. It staggered through the forest of fire, but before it could react, strange blue cubes suddenly appeared to surround it. The monster stared blankly at the giant digital cage forming, locking off all escape routes. From above, Akankor unleashed its signature, Dragon Roar cannon, drenching the trapped target in a column of red energy. The massive impact forced the hateful entity to its knees, but the punishment wasn't over yet. From the walls of the cage, a series of razor-sharp blue light beams from the wind blade prison technique fired repeatedly. The cursed seed was pierced by wind blades from every direction. It shrieked in pain as it got comboed to death. Amidst the chaos, Signator, the founder of the intellect race, still stood there majestically with his deep blue aura. Right behind him, the sea monster Tito had also revealed itself, its massive tentacles covering the entire sky. With the ultimate move Abyssal Meteor, a giant column of purple-black energy erupted from beneath the ground, completely swallowing the hateful entity in a destructive blast. The blow from the abyssal meteor descended, creating a massive purple pillar of light that completely consumed the hateful entity. The monster shrieked in agony as its skeletal frame withered away under the intense heat. A massive explosion rocked the area, blowing away every trace of darkness and leaving only wandering souls escaping from the ruins of the white bones. As the dust settled, the shadows of the ancestors slowly faded into nothingness. Witnessing this, the assassin Jiro silently concluded that since the ancestors were vanishing, the Demon King must be able to control their powerful consciousness. "He's not just some pushover," he muttered. However, one of his subordinates spotted a vulnerability, suggesting this meant the Demon King had no other way to attack. Could his actual power not be that great after all? Jiro smirked in agreement. "Exactly. If we can seal his ability to manipulate the ancestors, we'll gain the upper hand," he declared confidently. "I've just figured out how to finish him off. Follow me." At the foot of the mountain, Her cheered with joy. Amazing, just as expected from Lord Jenin. But contrary to that excitement, Sa appeared with a weary and anxious look on his face. "It's still too early to celebrate," Her asked, confused. "What do you mean, my lord?" Jenin looked pensively at the pile of debris. The biggest problem hadn't been solved yet. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, panicking the beastmen. This earthquake turned every eye toward the peak, where a massive pillar of fire erupted once again, tearing through the sky. A desperate scream echoed out. "The volcano is still erupting. Where is all this fire coming from?" Mount Kakaro hadn't cooled down at all. On the contrary, it was erupting even more fiercely. It threatened to submerge everything in a sea of flames. Mount Kakaro continued to erupt more violently than ever, making the ground tremble under nature's wrath. The panicked beastmen yelled, "We have to run, now!" But immediately, other cries of despair followed. "It's too late. We don't have the strength or the time to run anymore." Amidst the chaotic scene and the ruins of white bones, Sa sat strangely calm. He casually tossed a pill into his mouth and reassured the terrified crowd. "It's fine. If you can't run, don't worry." Jenin stood up, facing the giant wall of fire crashing down, and loudly declared, "Leave this to me. I can handle this." A terrifying fireball exploded, completely swallowing the Demon King's figure, leaving the beastmen to scream in pain. Lord Jenin, witnessing the intense heat, the lion beastman, Biqua, judged, "I don't think the Demon King can stop this fire." Harris, eyes welling with tears, suppressed her pain and prayed, "I want to believe that won't happen. We have no other choice." Suddenly, an unimaginable sight unfolded, causing the lion beastman's eyes to widen in shock. "No way, Ma'am Harris, look!" A giant wall of ice suddenly rose, tearing through the night and completely blocking the flowing, surging magma. Sa stood in the bone-chilling cold as the system continuously warned him that the ambient temperature had exceeded the limit, triggering the combustion state. His innate heretic snow curse had reached its absolute limit under the impact of the heat. Sa's entire body slowly transformed, turning into a powerful, deep blue ice entity. He casually mocked his own appearance. As expected, "I'm one cool guy." The cold system notification chimed, confirming that the freezing process had officially begun. Sharp ice blocks, like the swords of the Grim Reaper, extended out, freezing all the glowing lava instantly. A vast area was suddenly covered in eternal frost, creating a giant ice flower blooming in the heart of the disaster. Witnessing this power that could turn the earth and sky, the lion beastman could only tremble and mutter in absolute bewilderment. Is this even real? With just a gentle snap of his fingers, Jenin turned a volcanic disaster into a forest of eternal ice. Standing amidst the glittering ice crystals, he declared calmly that for the Demon King, such a small eruption was nothing. However, deep down, he breathed a sigh of relief. Because if he hadn't consumed those embers to boost his curse earlier, he might have been in serious trouble. As soon as the danger passed, Her burst into tears and rushed to hug her master. "Lord Sa, I'm so glad you're safe," Jenin laughed smugly, not forgetting to boast to maintain his image. "You were worrying for nothing. After all, I am the great Demon King Jenin. This isn't even enough to scare me." Despite his arrogant facade, he couldn't help but be amazed at his own rapid progress. From an ordinary player, he was now capable of mastering earth-shattering powers. Just as he was reveling in it, Sa froze as he noticed a large group of beastmen looming toward him through the thick fog. Seeing the crowd approaching with intense energy, Sa asked nervously, "Wait, what? Is the beastman duel still going on?" Her suddenly realized something and gasped, "No, this is." The leading beastman approached and yanked a clump of hair from Sa's head, making him yelp in pain. "Ouch." Harris explained that this was the Beastmen tribe's ritual of recognition. The Beastman casually chewed on the clump of hair he'd pulled, and explained that his tribe took great pride in their flesh and fur. According to tradition, if you want revenge, you eat their meat and drink their blood. But if you are deeply indebted, you eat the other person's hair to show absolute respect. Jenin imagined, horrified, the scene of him being grabbed by hundreds of beastmen until he was as bald as a certain one-punch superhero. He clutched his head and shouted in despair, "No, I don't want to go bald at this age. I still have my style." Seeing the beastmen with glowing eyes surrounding him, Saw hurriedly asked about the rules for the next round to find a way to escape. The beastman leader replied gently, "We would never think of challenging our great benefactor ever again." But suddenly, Enchi intervened. "But leader, that is against our rules." The beastman leader brushed off Enchi's words, saying now was not the time to discuss rules when everyone was already exhausted. But Enchi still firmly insisted that he could fight a third round against the Demon King to ensure everyone was fully convinced. He promised that if Genin won officially, he would place the entire Beastman tribe in his hands as a sign of respect. Old Man Dawson nodded in agreement, thinking it was a good idea to convince everyone. Immediately, Enchi dragged Genin, who was lying flat on the ground and hadn't even finished resting, to start the race. Seeing the Demon King being dragged away, the Beastmen didn't forget to shout, demanding to eat his hair to complete the ritual, making Saw frantically urge Enchi to run faster. However, in a hidden corner, Jiro's assassins had secretly set an ambush and were tracking their every move from behind a tree. The subordinate wondered, how did the captain know for sure the Demon King would come this way? Jiro nonchalantly explained that the third round is a speed race against the birdfolk, and the location is usually chosen at random. He confidently claimed that Genin would practically deliver himself right to their doorstep without them needing to waste any effort searching. Meanwhile, at the Beastman village, everyone was busy cleaning up when Enchi's wife suddenly rushed over, looking distraught. Old Dawson and Harris couldn't help but feel anxious as they saw the girl frantically running in with bad news. The girl wailed desperately, announcing a shocking piece of news. "My husband, Enchi, is dead." Looking at Enchi's body lying motionless on the ground, Old Dawson was stunned, unable to believe his ears. Harris was frozen, realizing the horrifying truth. If Enchi was dead, then who exactly was carrying Lord Genin away right now? Far off in the sky, the fake Enchi, with glowing red eyes full of murderous intent, was still carrying Genin away, while the Demon King remained completely unaware that he had fallen into the enemy's claws. Genin, while flying on the back of Enchi, felt that the guy was quite straightforward, so he promised that after this was all over, he would have Mom Harris promote him to an elder. However, the one carrying him coldly replied, "Demon King, I am truly honored, but I have one more request." While he was still confused, Enchi's eyes suddenly flashed with a crimson, bloodthirsty glint, "And that is your worthless life." A sudden explosion occurred, knocking Genin down to the ground in total shock. He realized the person in front of him wasn't Enchi at all, but an imposter. Instantly, a deep purple magic circle appeared beneath his feet, and pillars of light shot up, binding his body tightly. Genin realized in despair that he had been hit by a binding spell and was completely unable to move. Seeing that their prey had fallen into the trap, the masked assassins emerged in unison from the shadows with sharp blades, roaring as they closed in to take his life. Amidst the swirling dust and smoke, Genin coughed violently and bitterly realized he had been too subjective, walking straight into the death trap they had set. An assassin lunged forward to deliver the finishing blow, making Genin suddenly remember something. Mam Harris recognized this tactic. At the same time, back at the Beastman village, the real body of Enchi was discovered with a fatal wound right through his chest. Old Dawson looked painfully at his fallen subordinate, taken out by a single strike, then gritted his teeth, confirming that this was the work of the Black Moon tribe. Old Dawson pensively explained that for generations, the 7 great tribes had always adhered to a policy of non-aggression, so this sudden attack was definitely the work of that guy, Ben. He turned to tell Mam Harris to stay calm and assess the situation, but then suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait a minute. Where did the Demon King disappear to? A subordinate reported in a panic that she had dashed off to find the Demon King as soon as he started talking. Dawson could only gasp in shock. What? Far away, Mam Harris was giving her all in a race against time. She screamed with determination, "Lord Genin, Mam Harris is coming." Meanwhile, an assassin swung his blade directly at Genin. The sharp blade was unexpectedly blocked by a layer of skin as hard as stone. The assassin exclaimed in shock, "What is this?" Genin breathed a sigh of relief. Whoosh! Just in time. That was a close one. At the split second of life or death, he had managed to activate his petrification state to protect himself. A gray layer of stone covered his body, making every physical attack useless. The assassins recoiled in horror, seeing their prey still safe and sound, and refusing to give up. Two assassins simultaneously cast the secret technique of the moonlit hellfire, spewing out massive columns of flame in an attempt to incinerate Jenin. Waiting for the flames to die down, they nervously asked each other, "Did we get him?" But from within the sea of fire, Genin still stood tall with his stone armor, without a single scratch. He silently estimated that the average level of the Black Moon tribe was only about 55, so surely, no one here had the power to break through his defense. The system notified him that the petrification status was still effective, for another 10 minutes, making Genin fully confident in his own invincibility. Genin reasoned that if they had to resort to this ambush, it meant they weren't strong enough to confront the Beastman tribe head-on, so he just needed to hold out until reinforcements arrived. Looking at the assassins surrounding him, Genin thought nonchalantly, "Just let them waste their energy on these useless attacks. Honestly, them tiring themselves out like this is better for me." However, his smile faded when he saw the two assassins suddenly weave hand signs. The purple magic circles around Genin suddenly glowed and tightened, leaving him panicked. What? Genin realized with horror that over the last 100 years, they had found a way to completely counter his petrification state. The assassins roared with murderous intent. Right now, send him to the waiting room. Genin realized he had no other defensive skills, and couldn't summon the ancestors with his current offensive methods. Facing the blades rushing at him from every direction, he anxiously asked himself, "Is there really no other way?" Suddenly, Genin's eyes lit up with determination. No, there still is. A pulse of purple energy burst forth strongly, enveloping his body as the system announced that the reward exchange was complete. The Demon King's skill had been awakened. Immediately, Genin unleashed an ultimate technique called Flesh and Blood Petals. Crimson tentacles, like eerie flowers, suddenly pierced through the bodies of the assassins, sucking them dry of their life force to convert it into power for him. This was one of the three ultimate skills of Genin, capable of absorbing the life force of targets and boosting attack power by 200% for every blood flower that bloomed. Standing amidst the collapsing enemies, Genin nonchalantly concluded that, in the end, pure strength was still the best solution. At the same time, the system notified him that he had received recognition from the Beastman tribe leader, bringing the mission progress to 65%. Genin felt his strength recovering powerfully and secretly mused, turning the tables thanks to the power of friendship. Just as he was feeling smug, a cold voice suddenly rang out from behind. "So, you were hiding such a trump card all along?" Genin turned back, vigilant, looking toward the high tree branch. "Who's there?" "The leader of the Black Moon tribe." Looking at the masked figure standing proudly observing him, he curled his lip in defiance. "Daring to step out in front of me after seeing that, you've got guts." The stranger nonchalantly took out a notebook to record and replied in a contemptuous voice, "You may be brave, but your thinking is far too shallow. You already knew we were the Black Moon tribe, yet you stood there and took the hit without even resisting." Genin asked back in a panic, "What do you mean?" He suddenly stiffened, his face changing color as eerie green veins began to bulge and spread across his neck. Genin's eyes widened in horror, as he felt a stream of toxins ravaging his body from the inside. A bright red system notification flashed with deadly intent. "Congratulations, you have been poisoned. Good luck, you won't be able to hold on much longer." Genin collapsed to the ground, painfully vomiting a mouthful of fresh blood right next to the poison needle that had just fallen from his wound. Standing tall on a tree branch, the assassin looked down at Gen, who was writhing in pain, and smirked mockingly. "As a demon lord, you should know this well. Our profession isn't about holding blades, it's about playing with poison." He explained that this type of toxin was powerful enough to wipe out an entire beastkin village, and ironically, Gen's own techniques were forcing the poison deeper into his system. Gen collapsed in agony, his breath coming in ragged gasps while blood poured uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth. Thinking his prey was finished, the assassin leaped down and drew his blade to finish him off. "To think you'd die by your own power. I won't even bother asking for your last words. Die." But Gen suddenly looked up with a sinister grin. "Heh, who said I was poisoned?" Instantly, a system notification box popped up to save him. Due to the high concentration of toxins in his body, the Blood Moon recovery skill was triggered. Gen secretly gloated, knowing he had developed poison resistance just in time, which helped him recover 3% of his HP every second. The assassin gasped in total shock. "No way, the poison, it didn't work?" He frantically fired a barrage of shurikens at his opponent, but Gen just coldly pointed a finger at him and barked, "You're pathetic." The crimson tentacles from his blood-flesh ravaged skill instantly extended, easily swatting away every attack and lunging straight for the assassin. Realizing the tables had turned, the assassin gritted his teeth in anxiety. Damn it. This job went south. Time to bail. He quickly leaped onto the tree branches to flee, bitterly admitting he couldn't finish off the demon lord this time. Jen roared with determination. I'm not letting you get away that easily. I'll use my blood flesh technique again. However, a bright red system notification suddenly appeared, dumping cold water on his plans. Due to the influence of the curse, your maximum energy has been restricted. Demon Lord skills are limited to 3 uses per day. To restore your power, complete the quest. Jen's face drained of color in despair. He clutched his head and screamed in frustration. Why does this always happen at the most critical moments? Seeing the Demon Lord's attacks suddenly stop, the assassin skeptically wondered, is that all he's got? Or is he completely out of gas? Whatever the reason, I can't miss this golden opportunity. Either way, this is the perfect time to strike. Immediately, a series of razor-sharp shurikens were launched, aimed straight at General. He nimbly dodged them and confidently challenged, "Do you really think those things can touch me?" But the assassin's speed far exceeded Jen's calculations. He suddenly appeared right behind him, leaving Jen only enough time to gasp in surprise. A grazing slash forced Gen to step back into a defensive stance. The assassin quickly slid away, leaving behind a mysterious smile. Jen was stunned to realize his armor was covered in explosive talismans. When did he do that? A terrifying explosion erupted, swallowing Jen in a sea of fire. Emerging from the smoke and dust, face covered in soot and wounds, Jen clicked his tongue in annoyance at his opponent's trickery. Not letting his prey breathe, the assassin continued to charge, unleashing powerful kicks that sent Jen flying and skidding along the ground. While Jen struggled to get back up, the assassin suddenly formed hand seals to cast a secret art, a shadow clone technique. Instantly, dozens of his clones appeared, tightly surrounding Jen from every direction. All the clones simultaneously rushed in, attacking relentlessly from all sides. Yet, in the middle of the lethal encirclement, Jen breathed a sigh of relief. Letting you wail on me all this time wasn't for nothing. He stood firm and flashed a victorious grin. I've been waiting for this direct attack for a long time. You chicken. Jen immediately activated a never-before-seen combo skill. Petrification and blood flesh ravage. Sharp stone spikes laced with life-draining power suddenly erupted from his body, piercing through all the clones in a split second. The system officially announced that Jen had acquired a powerful new combo skill. He smirked to himself. I was curious if I could combine techniques. It was a gamble, but it worked. Jen stared coldly at the remaining assassin and declared, "Now, let me show you what happens to those who dare oppose the Demon Lord." Jen stood before the fallen assassin and demanded, "Was it Ben who ordered you to attack us? I suspect he's the one pulling the strings for all 7 great clans." The only response was a chilling silence that made him wonder, did he just go mute? Suddenly, the assassin let out a sinister laugh. Jen gasped, "What?" Right before his eyes, the assassin plunged a kunai directly into his own chest to perform an evil ritual. Jen realized the situation was extremely dangerous. Something was wrong. Jets of pitch-black blood energy began to spread from his wound, soaking into the ground. The assassin looked at Jen with demonic eyes and asked, "Hey, Demon Lord, isn't the moon tonight beautiful?" Jen stared up at the sky in shock. The assassin continued the ritual, gathering all his strength to shout, "The time has come, descend now." The moon suddenly turned a blood-red color, leaving Jen horrified. The moon is turning red. This is the ultimate secret art called Blood Moon Summoner. The assassin screamed frantically, his eyes glowing red. The color of the demon's descent. This is the perfect moonlit night. Jen bitterly realized the truth. So, your underlings, and even you yourself, were just pawns. After exhausting me in that fight, this technique was meant to guarantee my defeat. The assassin confirmed clearly. Exactly. Now, the real boss is unlocked. He summoned a soul darker than the abyss, a crimson warrior who had once slaughtered thousands of demons, the ancestor of the Black Moon tribe. A giant entity with a terrifying demonic mask and an array of swords on its back gradually emerged from the red smoke. The system notification confirmed this was Sin, the ancestor of the Black Moon tribe, at level 66, but currently in a weakened state and only able to maintain form for 3 minutes. Looking at the powerful opponent before him, Jen gritted his teeth and took a stance. Like him, this was an entity that had been sealed away for a long time. Sin lunged forward with terrifying speed, catching Jen off guard. He was stunned to realize his opponent's level was far beyond his own right now. Damn it, his level is way higher than mine. I can't keep up with his movements. The sound of clashing metal rang out sharply as Jen struggled to parry the blows. Seeing his opponent draw dual swords, Gen's face paled with worry. Dual swords? This is bad. I have to dodge. A vicious slash forced Gen to dive away to escape. He broke into a cold sweat, realizing the massive gap in power. That slash, it could have taken my head before I even moved. Is he playing with me? Watching Sin's silhouette looming forward with glowing red dual blades, Gen told himself he had to try and keep his distance. He needed a way to stall, knowing that summoned entities like this one surely had a time limit. Gen immediately bolted into the deep forest to find cover, hoping the dense terrain and obstacles would make him harder to track. But with just a single slash, Sin leveled a vast stretch of the forest in an instant. Gen stared in horror at the trees sliced cleanly before his eyes. What kind of monstrous power is this? Just then, the system notified him that he had successfully dodged the area of effect attack and gained a new skill called Fortune's Wheel. However, due to the Demon Lord's curse, the skill was immediately corrupted into the Wheel of Destruction. Instead of reducing the opponent's attack power, it boosted their accuracy by 50% and increased their damage output by 30%. Sin loomed behind him amidst the forest ruins, watching his opponent as if playing with a mouse. Gen gritted his teeth in fury. "So you want me to keep running just so you can keep playing games? You dare mock me like this?" he declared loudly. "Even if you are a demon lord, you're looking down on me way too much. Does destroying defenseless nature make you feel powerful?" Gen smirked defiantly. "Don't even dream of touching a single hair on my head with that rusted blade." In response to the provocation, Sin's eyes flared with killing intent as he slowly drew his third sword from its scabbard. Gen stared straight at his opponent with grim determination and shouted, "Bring it on. I'll take one hit from you." Sin began to unleash the true power of an ancestor-level NPC within his own domain. Gen realized this was Sin's moon shadow domain, a place where, under the red moonlight, every bit of gravity and attraction was under his absolute control. The system bombarded him with alerts that Sin's stats were skyrocketing. Attack power increased by 300%, speed by 200%, along with superior magic and physical resistance, plus a lifesteal effect, and an additional 50% damage boost on every strike. The power of this domain was so terrifying that gravity around his enemies increased drastically to hinder movement, while reducing it for Sin to maximize his attack speed. Even a tiny insect would be crushed to the ground by this invisible pressure. Gen silently admitted, "This is one troublesome opponent." Sin swung his massive blade down like a thunderbolt, but Gen quickly observed and dodged in the nick of time, judging that the strike wouldn't reach him. Sin relentlessly closed the distance with terrifying speed. His blade smashing through the massive boulders right next to General Gen told himself that in his current state, he couldn't win against such a powerful entity. However, he suddenly remembered that he still carried a curse within him, capable of opposing even ancestral power. Based on his previous experience, he knew that curses and negative status effects didn't seem to affect him. A sudden spark of hope confirmed to Gen that if his theory was right, this fight was still winnable. Immediately, the system notified him that the curse had activated the Moon Reversal Domain, completely nullifying all effects of Sin's Moon Shadow Domain. Gen's expression turned cold and decisive. He declared, "All right, now the real match begins." He clenched his fists, preparing to counterattack as he saw Sin rushing toward him like a madman. Gen believed that if he combined the Moon Reversal Domain with the Wheel of Destruction, he could definitely keep up with his opponent's speed. Sin unleashed a powerful slash, but Gen calmly caught the blade with his bare arm in an instant. Gen told himself he just needed to endure until the opponent's summoning time ran out, and he would be the victor. But Sin was an ancestor-level entity. He attacked with a frenzy, leaving Gen no chance to stall. Gen struggled to fend off the wind-tearing slashes. He understood that sooner or later, his weaknesses would be exposed, and his opponent would land a finishing blow. Witnessing the Demon Lord's tenacity, Sin flashed a look of surprise. Gen realized that if his reactions had been a fraction of a second slower, he would have been swallowed up by the enemy. He decided he couldn't stay on the defensive forever. He loudly declared that the best defense was a powerful offense. Immediately, a system notification appeared. The Moon Reversal Domain and other skills had been combined, transforming him into the Black Rock King. Clad in armor that glowed with a powerful purple light, Gen swung his greatsword and shouted, "My turn now. Let's go." With his new strength, Gen dashed forward like a purple bolt of lightning, charging directly at the ancestor of the Black Moon tribe. The violent collision sent Sin reeling backward. The swords on his back were knocked loose, scattering everywhere. Gen pressed the assault with powerful strikes, denying his opponent even a second to breathe. Realizing the moment had come, Gen raised his greatsword, now glowing with raw energy, channeled his full power into a fatal strike, and roared. Take this! A massive explosion erupted, shaking the entire forest and blowing everything away. Through the thick dust, Gen declared confidently, "Game over." But Gen's smile vanished as the dust settled. Sin was still standing, using his remaining sword to block the attack. Gen was stunned, realizing his fatal mistake. He should have shattered that sword entirely. Suddenly, Sin revealed a sharp, hidden blade from his wrist and drove it straight into Gen's chest. The Demon Lord could only gasp in shock as he felt the cold steel pierce through him. Gen realized that even in his new form, Sin still held the absolute advantage in speed. He struggled to dodge the wind-tearing slashes and thought to himself, "It seems this guy is still a level faster than me." However, as a seasoned veteran player, Gen confidently affirmed, "But when it comes to combat experience, I've got plenty." Suddenly, Sin unleashed a familiar technique that stunned General. "Isn't that the clone technique the final boss used?" Sin didn't let his opponent catch his breath. He pushed his speed to the limit, creating a barrage of afterimages attacking from every side. Yet, Gen stood firm in the middle of the onslaught, coldly declaring, "Too bad for you, these attacks won't work on me anymore." Watching the clones rushing in wildly, Gen smirked defiantly. "If I can't tell which one is real, I'll just slice all of you at once. I'll cut you all to pieces," Gen roared, unleashing a massive, arc-shaped sword wave that swept everything in its path. The energy blast blew the clones away, forcing Sin to reveal his true self, his face filled with shock. Not giving up, the ancestor of the Black Moon tribe leaped high into the air, putting all his might into a downward axe kick. But Gen was one step faster. He raised his hand and blocked the fiery blade in an instant, a triumphant smile. Genen's face appeared clearly, leaving Sin trembling in sheer shock. Staring straight at his opponent, he asserted firmly, "You no longer have the strength to pierce through this armor." Sin felt completely helpless, realizing that all his efforts were meaningless against the Demon King's absolute defense. Gen delivered a finishing blow that sent his opponent flying and declared coldly, "That means you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning anymore." Sin was knocked back, completely collapsing under the terrifying power of the Demon King. Genin swung his massive sword, which glowed with energy, and made a resolute declaration. "This is the end, Ketch." The powerful strike caused the assassin to crumble at his feet. He struggled to look up, his eyes filled with complex emotions, and uttered with reverence, "Lord Genin." Facing his defeated foe, Gen asked coldly, "Are you begging for your life, Sin?" Knowing he had nowhere to run, the assassin knelt and confessed, "I know forgiveness is something I can never hope for, but I want to share some information regarding my tribe." Gen the sword collector ordered calmly, "Fine, speak." Upon receiving permission, he began to reveal the horrific truth. "As you know, the new Heavenly King, Ben, wants you dead, and not just any death, but a death brought about by your own former subordinates," Genin mused. "So that's why your tribe came to kill me. Does this mean Ben ordered the entire Dark Moon tribe to do this?" The assassin nodded in confirmation. "Otherwise, the Dark Moon tribe would never have tried to harm you," Gen sneered sarcastically. "I see. Talked into it but still doing it so enthusiastically. Huh?" Suddenly, the assassin bowed his head to the ground, blood spewing from his mouth as he desperately pleaded, "I humbly beg you, Sin, please take my life and spare the entire Dark Moon tribe." Without waiting for an answer, he shouted a final farewell and took his own life right before Genin's eyes. Watching his enemy fall, Genin could only sigh. Understood. Rest now. He worried silently about the cruelty of Ben, which was slowly suffocating the other tribes. Just then, the system interface popped up to announce that the quest was complete. Genin clicked his tongue. Done that fast? No room for emotions at all? The reward for being recognized by the Beastkin leader was the removal of a portion of the Demon King's curse and the acquisition of a new magic skill. Genin smiled, hoping Mam Harris was safe, then indifferently tapped to start the next quest. All right, let's keep going." However, just as he turned away, a pitch-black hand on the ground suddenly moved. A demonic shadow entity with glowing eyes silently rose up right behind him. Before he could even steady himself, a razor-sharp blade pierced through Genin's chest from behind. He vomited blood in shock, barely managing to gasp out, "What?" Amidst the suffocating killing intent, the shadow entity greeted him with a mocking tone. "Yo, looks like you've been having quite a bit of fun, haven't you?" Genin's eyes widened as he looked at his attacker, gasping in despair. "Stabbed from behind?" Genin choked out in agony. "Who are you? Why would you?" The eerie shadow entity pulled the blade out of his chest and replied nonchalantly, "It's nothing serious, just taking care of a little business." Fresh blood splattered as the blade left his body. The system immediately announced the activation of the Demon Blood Arts skill, helping him recover 3% of his health per second. The stranger looked at Jenin with glowing red eyes full of mockery. You've wasted too much time. I thought I should give you a wake-up call to snap you back to reality. Jen gritted his teeth, his face pale from significant blood loss. Damn it, my regeneration can't keep up with the damage. The culprit retracted his dark aura and prepared to leave. Well, that's the job done. See you later. Jenin managed to reach out, calling after him in desperation. Even while severely wounded, Jen forced himself to ask, Aren't you going to finish me off? The shadow entity paused for a moment and replied in a sarcastic tone. Sorry, my schedule is fully booked. Maybe next time, if you're still alive. With that, he vanished completely into thin air, leaving Jen to collapse to the ground. His breath hitched. He had no idea what had just happened, but these wounds were truly critical. Was he really going to die in this world? Just as his consciousness began to fade, a snow-white feather drifted down before his eyes. Jenin looked up at the sky in a daze and gasped in shock. What is that? An angel? A majestic entity with widespread wings appeared amidst the glowing moon. The system immediately identified the opponent. Scouting Angel, level 79. Jenin turned pale with terror, as he realized this entity bore no goodwill. Damn it. That thing doesn't look like it's here to save me. Is this actually the end? But then, a system notification suddenly popped up to save him. Quest complete. Reward: partial removal of the Demon King's curse. Jen was stunned by the sudden turn of events. Taking advantage of the moment the curse was partially lifted, Jenin calculated internally. Partially lifted the curse? Wait, if that's true, then maybe opposite him, the scouting angel landed, staring coldly down at the dying man. You're still not dead yet? That means the Dark Moon tribe has failed. Lord Ben's orders are absolute. I will finish you off myself. He swung his long spear and charged with terrifying speed, intending to pierce Gen's body to end the mission. A dry sound rang out, along with a spray of blood, but the angel suddenly froze in astonishment. The angel only managed to utter a gasp of shock as he felt a cold, murderous aura right behind his back. The scouting angel trembled, unable to believe his eyes. No, that's impossible. How could you be behind me with those injuries? Standing right behind his opponent, Jen smirked arrogantly. I see. This is actually perfect. The system announced. New status. Partial curse lifted. Total Demon King power can now be used for 5 minutes per day. After use, temporary unconsciousness will occur. Time remaining, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Jenin gripped his sword, which glowed with violet energy. He had just used the Phantom Presence's skill to teleport behind his opponent. Seeing the angel in a panic, Jen smiled sinisterly. Heh, still want to spar? A burst of pitch-black energy erupted, enveloping Jen's body and transforming him into his authoritative Demon King form. He assessed the situation, with eyes blazing with killing intent. Perfect timing. This is a wonderful opportunity to test the true power of the Demon King. Jenin just barely brushed the tip of the opponent's spear, but immediately, the angel's weapon began to rot and disintegrate in sheer astonishment. The scout gasped in shock. Just one touch, and my weapon is decaying? Has he completely regained the Demon King's power? Realizing the overwhelming disparity, he hurriedly spread his wings and fled in despair. Ma'am Harris must report back to Lord Ben immediately. However, Jenin watches her with a cold gaze and declares, Do you really think you can just walk out of here? Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. A pitch-black surge of energy erupts from Jenin's hand, swallowing the angel who is desperately trying to flee mid-air. He only has time to let out a painful scream before being completely crushed by the dark power. Jenin stands tall amidst the eerie aura, and clearly asserts that this is the power of the Demon King. Yet, at that very moment, the countdown clock on Jenin's system panel flashes incessantly with a warning. 0.02, 0.01, 0.00. As the time limit for the Demon King's power expires, Jenin immediately loses consciousness. His eyes glaze over, and his body collapses in total exhaustion. Just as Jenin is about to hit the ground, a stranger in a cloak with glowing purple eyes appears just in time to catch him. He smiles cryptically while looking at the unconscious king. Just as expected of Lord Jenin, his power remains intact and hasn't diminished at all. This person is Mamharastes, a traitor of the demon tribe. Shortly after, in the magnificent celestial realm, a high-ranking angel asks in astonishment, He failed? Mamharastes kneels at her feet and confirms, Yes, it seems Genin has completely regained his true power. The angel clenches her fist in anger, her eyes glowing with murderous intent. I see. In that case, I will personally tear him apart. Mamharastes rushes to intervene. No, please let me, Sin, take care of it. The tools of the Black Moon tribe are still usable. The angel smirks, a sinister smile on her face. I see. You mean Fumizuki? She immediately gives a clear order. Very well. Then order Fumizuki of the Black Moon tribe. If they don't want their entire tribe to be purged, they must finish off Genin once and for all. Meanwhile, at another location, an angel is ruthlessly piercing through those who resist with a spear. A man is held aloft, trembling and begging Sin for mercy through tears. Please, forgive me. Yanagi Fumizuki hasn't fully inherited their role yet, so it's very difficult to carry out the mission. The angel coldly retorts. You can explain that yourself to Lord Ben. Suddenly, a cold voice rings out, cutting him off. That won't be necessary. The angel is shocked, turning around to see his comrades lying scattered across the ground. What? Is everyone dead? Who is behind this? Before he can finish, a sharp blade pierces through his chest from behind with brutality. A young girl with her brown hair tied up and red eyes glowing with killing intent emerges from the shadows. She coldly declares, I am Yanagi Fumizuki. I accept the mission. In the name of the Black Moon tribe, I will execute the Demon King. Genin. Genin opens his eyes to find himself in a tent, seeing Mam Harris looking at him with concern. She says softly with a look of relief, Lord Genin, how are you feeling? I'm so glad you're safe. You really are hard to kill. Genin, still groggy, asks, how did I end up here? Harris explains that she realized Enchi had been replaced by an imposter, so she rushed to follow and found him unconscious, alone deep in the forest. Genin quickly sits up to ask about the situation. Right, what about the village and the Beastkin tribe? Harris reassures him that although some were injured, most survived. While Genin is still wondering about the true identity of the fake Enchi, a bright red system notification appears, stating that he just woke up from a coma caused by the side effects of overusing his power. He thinks to himself, that was close. If I hadn't completed the mission earlier, I probably would have lost my life. Just then, the old advisor Dawson enters and reveals that he was an assassin from the Black Moon tribe sent by the angels. I defeated him, but they have discovered my location. We need to leave here as soon as possible. Harris is shocked to realize this truly was a plot by the angel tribe. Old Man Dawson urges everyone to pack their belongings to depart immediately. Genin muses, feeling anxious. The angel tribe will certainly send stronger assassins to pursue them. Mam Harris needs to complete more missions to learn new skills. They will target his subordinates as well. To avoid pointless sacrifices, he must become even stronger. While deep in thought, Old Man Dawson's voice snaps him back to reality. So, Lord Genin. Dawson hesitates. I should be happy to see you off, but I still have one more request. Things didn't end with just defeating the seed of resentment. He recounts the battle from that day. Even though Genin defeated it perfectly, the remnants of the seed of resentment possessed spirits and created another powerful monster called the Crystal Beast. Currently, the injured beastkin and those whose village was burned are hiding in caves within the volcanic tunnels to avoid being hunted down. Old Man Dawson kneels and begs because those people are being constantly attacked by the Crystal Beast without any time to heal their wounds. Looking at Harris's worried face and hearing the old advisor's plea, Genin concludes that those exhausted beastkin certainly cannot fight against that monster, and he cannot just abandon them. Genin places his hand on Dawson's shoulder to reassure him. All right, Chief, don't worry, just leave it to me. He calculates that the help of the Beastkin tribe will be necessary in the future, and above all, this crystal beast seems like a great snack to level up his power. That's enough. We just need to keep climbing the ladder, right? Harris leads the way, taking the group deep into the dark cave. She whispers, Lord Genin, this way. Genin follows silently, determined to bring good news to the Beastkin tribe soon. He is secretly worried about a surprise attack from the Angel tribe, so he wants to resolve everything as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a strange sound coming from a pile of rocks makes the group freeze. Harris is startled when a rock falls right in front of them. Immediately after, a low, muffled sound echoes, making Genin suspicious. Huh? What was that noise? He notices the stone wall beside them seems to be narrowing in an unusual way. Wait, was this wall always this close? A sense of unease washes over him. Genin realizes the truth in shock. No, this is and is suddenly thrown away by a tremendous force. Genin slides along the ground, trying to regain his balance amidst the clouds of dust. Harris screams in panic. Lord Genin! He roars a warning. The wall! That's not a stone wall. From the darkness, a giant monster emerges with glowing eyes. It is a level 70 crystal serpent. Genin realizes in horror that it wasn't a wall. It was the body of a giant snake. The great serpent raises its body, covering the entire cave with suffocating pressure. It lunges forward crazily, and Genin realizes the disadvantage of the terrain. Fighting a snake in a cave is extremely unfavorable. Retreat, now, Jenin ordered sharply. Mam Harris quickly pointed toward the emergency exit. Lord Jenin is over there. Jenin immediately agreed and shouted, "Run!" Both of them dove away, narrowly escaping the beast's deadly jaws. A massive explosion rocked the area as the snake slammed into the cliffside, causing a collapse that blocked its path. Jenin looked back at the debris and let out a sigh of relief. Whew, that should keep it off our backs for a while. But the peace didn't last long before Harris screamed a warning. Lord Jenin, Herat, a new threat. From within the shimmering heat haze, a giant saber-toothed tiger, with a glowing red crystal on its forehead, suddenly appeared and let out a bone-shaking roar. The crystal beast lumbered forward, radiating an aura even more terrifying than the serpent before it. Facing this dangerous new opponent, Jenin didn't show a hint of fear. He just smirked with amusement. A tasty snack just served itself up on a silver platter. Whether I catch it or not, that's all up to me. As the giant crystal beast charged, Mam Harris screamed in panic, "Jenin, watch out!" But Jenin didn't flinch. He instantly activated the magic skill he had just acquired to deflect the beast's pounce in a heartbeat. Instead of killing it, Jenin gently reached out and stroked the creature. It suddenly turned docile, letting out soft, purring sounds like a tiny kitten. He was secretly satisfied, realizing his reward skill had allowed him to officially tame the crystal beast. Witnessing the impossible, old Dawson gasped in shock. I can't believe it. The magic technique reward finally allowed me to tame the crystal beast. Witnessing such an unbelievable sight, old Dawson gasped in shock. I just can't believe it. Jenin rode back to the base atop the crystal leopard, announcing clearly, "I've brought back a new companion." The system immediately confirmed the beast was now completely submissive due to his Demon King aura. With the help of the crystal beast, the Beast King village quickly regained its former prosperity and stability. Old Dawson was incredibly grateful. He insisted that the tribe would remember his kindness forever, but Jenin casually brushed off any talk of rewards. Seeing this, old Dawson hesitated before making one last request. He pointed toward the village's guardian statue, which had been altered by the angel tribe, into a surveillance idol, and begged Jenin to restore it to its original form. Jenin happily agreed, wanting to help the tribe through to the end. He examined the statue, which had been heavily damaged after the eruption, and doubted if he could fix it. Old Dawson explained that he only needed to touch it and channel his magic power for it to be restored. Jenin muttered, "I see. Just touch it, right?" He slowly reached his hand toward the stone statue. The moment he made contact, the statue reacted violently, radiating a brilliant purple energy. But Jenin's smile vanished as a strange, dark aura suddenly erupted from his arm. He screamed in pain. "Arg!" Old Dawson stared in horror, realizing something was wrong. "Is the Demon King's residual magic within the statue rejecting you?" Her trembled, unable to believe what was happening, while everyone around them gasped, wondering why the former Demon King's statue would reject the very person bearing his title. Was the previous Demon King not ready to pass on the throne to Jenin? Witnessing this strange scene, the Beastmen began whispering in suspicion. "Is that guy not the Demon King?" Her was shocked, unable to believe her ears. She stammered, "Lord Jenin, is that really not Lord Jenin?" The people around them also began to gossip. They argued that a true Demon King would never be so easily injured by a simple ambush, and his appearance didn't look anything like the legendary Jenin. Amidst the mocking, Jenin struggled against the intense purple magical energy. He gritted his teeth in anger. "Damn it, after everything I've been through, I can't believe I'm tripping up right here." He realized the magic left in the statue was tied to Genin's soul, and since his own soul was different, he couldn't interfere with it at all. However, Jenin quickly regained his composure with a sinister smirk. The statue is bound to Sa's soul, and since his soul is so unique, no one can interfere with it. However, Jenin quickly regained his composure with a sinister smile. He silently thanked the parting gift Genin had left behind. He concluded that since the problem lay with the soul, there were only two ways to solve it: either trick the statue into believing he was Jenin, or destroy it completely. Jenin gathered his strength, activating a golden aura, determined to flood the statue with curses from the 7 great races and saturate it with his own magic. As the strike landed, the system immediately announced it had detected the Demon King's power and added the curse's effect. Jenin triumphed, realizing his plan was working. "Now that I've pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, what do I have to worry about, right? If that's the case, let's go all out." Jenin roared with excitement. A series of bright red system notifications popped up as he unleashed his full power. The roar of the Beast King, the curse of the angels, the envy of the Demon King, the sigh of the great dragon, the resentment of the deep sea. the contempt of the wise race, and the sins of the Dark Moon tribe. The massive, mixed energy flow was funneled into the statue, creating a earth-shattering explosion that engulfed the entire space. Standing from afar, her and old Dawson could only shout their master's name in extreme anxiety, while Jenin kept screaming to release all his magic. A giant column of fire shot into the blue sky through the clouds of dust. As things began to settle, Jenin stood proudly in the middle of the battlefield and sighed in relief. It worked. Seeing the statue perfectly restored, her and the beastmen cheered loudly. Just then, the system notified Jenin that he had acquired the Beast King Village exploration skill, allowing him to search for information throughout the entire village. Looking at the new skill he'd just gained, Jenin smirked with a calculating look and decided to test it immediately. Might as well do it while it's fresh. Jenin's eyes flashed with a cold light. He silently realized who had been secretly sowing fear and suspicion within the tribe all this time. With a confident smile, he declared, "I knew it." Without hesitation, Jenin lunged forward, grabbed a fat Orc by the neck, and shouted, "Show your true form." The orc was startled, caught off guard, and could only gasp in surprise. Instantly, a burst of light erupted, tearing through the disguise to reveal the snow-white wings of the angel tribe. He bitterly admitted he had used Ben's power to infiltrate the village. The surrounding beastmen roared in outrage, realizing the enemy had disguised himself to divide them. And he was the very one who had meddled to seal Lord Jenin's power. The crowd went wild, charging to attack the angel spy, despite him backing away in fear and dragging Ben out as a threat. Watching the scene, Jenin pondered, admitting that what that guy said was true. He really needed to find a way to deal with the cursed seal that was holding him back. Seeing her master troubled, her nervously asked if the instability of his power was caused by the curse. Jenin suddenly asked about the whereabouts of Patri. Her reminded him about the sentient weapon that removes negative effects, known as Patri, makes Jenin suddenly remember this crucial trump card. He silently thinks to himself that Patri is a direct subordinate, so there must be a soul connection with Sa. Just then, the system announces a new quest, the Return of the King, Spirit Tribe version, requiring him to conquer the Spirit Tribe in the East within 40 days. That's a pretty comfortable time frame if there are no hitches, right? Jenin turns to ask Mam Harris if she knows where Patri is. Mam Harris recalls and says the last time she saw Patri, it was flying toward the northwest. Jenin pales because that is the exact opposite direction of the mission area. However, since the 40-day deadline is still long, he decides to prioritize finding Patri to lift the curse first. Jenin decisively orders Mam to head northwest with him. Both quickly leave the Beast King village, leaving behind a mysterious system notification. "I hope you won't regret this." Heh. Suddenly, a giant lightning bolt from the sky strikes the ground with terrifying power. Amidst the smoke and dust, a young man in a tracksuit suddenly appears. He looks around blankly, wondering if this is the deep border space world. Assuming he has been reincarnated, he is extremely excited to see a system quest board pop up with a 3-month deadline and over 10,000 participants. With the ultimate goal of defeating the Demon King, the guy yells in joy, believing he is the main character of this world. At the desolate ancient battlefield, with giant dry skeletons lying everywhere, a figure with the appearance of the Demon King Jenin strides up the stone steps leading to a magnificent castle. He whispers expectantly, "This is the place." Standing before the grand gate, he shouts clearly to announce his presence. "Patri, are you in there? The Demon King has returned." The heavy door slowly opens, and a beautiful young woman with fiery red hair and demon ears appears, looking alluring. That is Patri, the Demon King's unique weapon in human form. She looks coldly at the person in front of her and asks, "What? You're here?" Faced with her majesty, the impostor is momentarily confused, sweat streaming down his forehead. "You're not even greeting me? Not greeting us?" Seeing Patri bow slightly, he secretly triumphs, thinking his plan to impersonate Jenin has succeeded perfectly. In reality, this person is a player with the ID first star of the Silent Knight, a level 97 warrior trying to deceive a legendary weapon. It turns out he was also suddenly summoned from the real world into the very game he used to grind. Thanks to his extensive game knowledge, he easily manipulates the indigenous residents and quickly realizes he is not the only one brought to this world. To gain absolute dominance over other players, he used a special transformation potion to impersonate the Demon King Jenin. His goal is nothing other than to seize Patri, the sentient weapon that is absolutely loyal to the Demon King. Because he believes that posing as the real deal is the best way to win her over with ambitions of becoming the true protagonist, he wears a sinister smile when thinking about the prospect of holding Patri in his hands to rule the world. But just as he enters the hall, a sudden feeling of dizziness hits him, making his head spin. He is shocked to wonder why his vision is tilted and blurry, until he realizes a stream of crimson-black aura is surrounding his body. Patry looks at the person collapsing to the ground with cold, disdainful eyes and delivers the finishing blow. "You pathetic fool." Patry coldly looks at the imposter, falling into a deep pit full of corpses. She says with contempt, "You should at least be grateful. I'm sending you to your grave." Right after that, she walks through the magnificent hall to meet the true master. Kneeling before Genin, Mam Harris's Patry reports, "I have taken care of the one who dared to stain your name, Lord Sa." The Demon King with white hair and characteristic horns smiles satisfactorily. "Well done, Patry." The red-haired girl still cannot hide her disgust. Recently, the number of fools daring to impersonate Lord Sa has been increasing. It's truly disgusting. Sa leans back against the chair casually, his crimson eyes deep and thoughtful. "Don't be too stressed. It's just a little entertainment. Anyway, we will clean up every single one of them. For whoever it is, just wait for the prey to walk into the trap, huh?" Meanwhile, in a distant town, Genin suddenly sneezes loudly, making Mam Harris ask anxiously, "Lord Genin, are you all right? Perhaps you are tired from the trip." He rubs his nose and replies, "I'm fine. I just need to find Patry quickly." Genin secretly checks the system board. The quest to liberate the spirit tribe has only 32 days left, and finding Patry will certainly make everything much easier. Lost in thought, a young girl suddenly rushes forward and bumps into him. Genin shouts vigilantly, "Who's that?" "Stay alert," the girl with messy brown hair begs fearfully. "I'm sorry. Please, I beg you to help me." Her cuteness makes Harris unable to help but be moved. She's so cute. But the peace is quickly broken when 3 brutal thugs appear right behind her. One of them threatens loudly, "You better not interfere. We targeted her first." Mam Harris immediately takes a stance. She roars indignantly. 3 men teaming up to bully a defenseless woman. "I will not tolerate such behavior." Genin suddenly raises his hand to stop his subordinate. "No, stop." Even though Mam Harris is still eager to step in and protect her, Genin decisively pushes her behind him and steps forward, grabbing the strange girl's shoulders. Harris is shocked to see her master seemingly intending to ignore this. "Lord Genin, are you really going to ignore this?" Genin replies coldly. "Usually I would help, but it's like a case where saving a monster would only bite back." Regardless of the girl desperately begging, "Please, reconsider." Genin still casually hands her over to the thugs and smirks. Genin taking her quietly will be better for you. Deep down, he realizes the other person's true identity. No way, Fumizuki, Yanagi Fumizuki, of the Black Moon tribe. Letting herself be bullied by the likes of these? There must be something fishy going on here. The girl continues her act with a tear-stained face. "Lord Genin, please save me." But her eyes suddenly become icy when she realizes Genin has not fallen for the trap. She calculates secretly. "What's this? This is not what we agreed upon." Mam Harris heard in the Beast King village that he helps people, right? Seeing Genin start to use a sarcastic tone to tease, "Oh no, I'm so scared. There's no way I can fight you guys." The brown-haired girl grinds her teeth and decides, "It seems I'll have to change the plan. I want to avoid causing a scene in public." She quietly moves closer to Genin with calculating eyes. The thug grabs the girl's shoulder and lets out a lewd remark. "Hey sweetie, why don't you come and have some fun with us?" But the moment those words left their mouths, Fumizuki's eyes flared with a lethal, crimson intensity that sent shivers down the thugs' spines. Terrified, they realized those eyes belonged to a wild predator on the hunt, and the whole group scrambled to bolt for their lives. "Run! We'll let you off the hook today." Genin watched from behind, silently mocking their pathetic, staged performance. Fumizuki immediately rushed over, clinging to Genin and acting all spoiled. "Lord Genin, you saved me. I will dedicate my entire life to repaying your kindness." On the surface, Genin acted flustered, but deep down, his mind was racing with calculated plans. He realized that keeping her close for surveillance was far safer than letting her strike from the shadows. He replied indifferently, "All right, let's go." Genin turned to tell Harris that the group would head toward the ancient battlefield immediately, causing the Tigerkin girl to chase after them in a panic. "Wait, Lord Genin, please, wait for me." After a long journey, the group finally arrived at the ancient battlefield. Genin was stunned to realize the place was no longer the desolate wasteland he remembered from 100 years ago. Instead, it had transformed into a bustling marketplace, filled with all sorts of noisy vendors hawking their wares from century-old family heirloom tea to thousand-year-old blades. Everything created such a chaotic scene that Genin could only hold his head and mutter, "What on earth is this level of madness?" While he was dazed, a man carrying a flagpole suddenly shoved past him and shouted, "Move it!" Jenin looked at the announcement board and was shocked to realize this was a massive line of people waiting to challenge Patri. "Oh man, it's packed like sardines, this is a disaster." The man explained that due to the huge influx of adventurers, they had to set up a new guard unit to manage the flow. If he wanted to join the queue now, he'd have to wait until 2 months from now just to get his turn. Jenin frantically grabbed the man and shouted, "2 months? Is there any way to challenge him sooner?" He was secretly worried. At this rate, he would never finish his mission on time. The man suggested he try joining an existing adventurer party, though most of them were already full. Looking at the sea of people in the market, Jenin could only sigh in frustration. What a total mess. Seeing her master troubled, Harris offered to go ask around, and Jenin agreed for the group to split up to check the situation. Watching from the sidelines, Yanagi Fumizuki began to grow suspicious, seeing the Demon Lord intending to fight using Patri's weapon himself. She wondered if he had lost the ability to control this divine weapon. She smiled to herself, thinking this was a golden opportunity to find other useful pawns among the crowd to further her own secret agenda. A while later, Genin and Harris meet back up, but neither had any clues on how to shorten the wait time. He reassured his subordinate that since they had just arrived, there was no need to rush. Suddenly, a system notification popped up with a surprising alert. "Jenin, it's really you." A blonde warrior and his team rushed over. He excitedly confirmed he recognized Jenin instantly thanks to his famous face. Jenin was stunned to realize that not only was he here, but many other players had also been summoned to this world. The warrior couldn't hide his admiration, calling Jenin his idol and the #1 player who had mysteriously vanished during a challenge livestream. As the guy reached out to shake his hand enthusiastically, Jenin was still bewildered and asked who they were. The blonde guy was shocked to learn Jenin hadn't met a single other player since arriving. Witnessing the strange conversation, Harris was completely clueless about what a player was, making Jenin realize the system seemed to have set it up so the native inhabitants were unaware of the gamer's intrusion. Seeing that Jenin also wanted to challenge Patri, the blonde warrior enthusiastically invited him to join their party since they were all freelancers, not affiliated with any guild. Meanwhile, the 2 girls in the party, a mage and a priest, quickly got friendly with Mom Harris and Yanagi Fumizuki. They couldn't stop showering them with compliments about their outfits and how cute they were. The blonde warrior confidently asserted that with the #1 player, Jenin, on their side, their team would be invincible when they marched into the ancient battlefield tomorrow. He promised to split the loot fairly by rolling dice, just like in their old games. After a moment of consideration, Jenin smirked calculatingly and agreed to join. He felt like things were starting to get interesting. On the way, Jenin began probing about when the blonde warrior's group arrived in this world. The warrior recounted that right after Jenin vanished, the game suddenly became inaccessible. A few days later, an update appeared, and when they logged in, a window popped up asking if they wanted to experience a new adventure. Out of curiosity, they chose yes and ended up being brought here along with many other players. Bringing a whole army of people here just creates a mess, Jenin thought. He realized the timeline perfectly matched when he ignored the system to head north. With a stern face, Jenin looked straight at the blonde warrior and asked if they had received any quests from the system. The blonde warrior admitted his goal was to defeat the demon lord, Jenin. Jenin clicked his tongue, realizing the system was trying every way to counter him by turning other players into his enemies. The soldiers started lining up on the fortress walls, ready to attack. Jenin was on high alert. Are these guys my enemies now? And the ones behind me, are they planning to make a move? The blonde warrior pointed right at Jenin and shouted excitedly, "That armor belongs to Jenin, right? Getting the Demon Lord's gear is pure luck and shows real skill." He stepped closer with a sinister smile. "Jenin, what happened to Jenin after you defeated him?" Jenin was shocked to realize his identity had been completely blown. He calculated his odds while trapped in a pincer attack. "So they already know who I am. Ma'am Harris, how should we handle this?" Jenin smirked, daring them. "And what if I refuse to answer?" At that exact moment, the 2 girls in the blonde warrior's party suddenly moved to restrain Mom Harris and Fumizuki. Jenin asked coldly, "And what are you ladies planning to do?" "Oh, just round up some hostages, basically." The blonde warrior walked over with his axe, looking arrogant. "If you don't want to answer, that's fine. Killing my own idol will just make me even luckier." He suddenly swung his axe and roared, "Fire!" Instantly, a rain of arrows poured down from the high walls onto Jenin's position. Harris screamed in worry, "Lord Jenin, but I've got a blade at my throat. Don't move." Jenin didn't flinch. He activated the Demon Lord's exclusive skill, Demonic Phantom Projection, increasing his speed by 30%. With terrifying speed, he turned into a blurry phantom, easily dodging every single arrow in the blink of an eye. Jenin suddenly appeared right behind Fumizuki, his purple eyes glowing with a menacing light. Just watching is boring, isn't it? He coldly shoved her forward. Now it's time for you to risk your life, for me. Fumizuki was panicked. She couldn't even track his movements. Since when did he get behind me? Momheras couldn't see a thing. Jenin stood back, watching nonchalantly with a smirk. I also want to sit back and enjoy the show like a true demon king. But what happens next? Yanagi Fumizuki was stunned by Sa's taunting remarks. What the hell are you talking about? Sa continued to provoke them nonchalantly. Oh, you want to punish them for being rude to me? And you called them loud-mouthed cowards? Hey, that's a bit too harsh, don't you think? Right, pulling a hostage out to take a hit? What kind of game is that? Fumizuki was speechless. She couldn't understand why the situation had taken such a bizarre turn. Feeling insulted, the blonde warrior roared and charged forward. Then why don't you teach us a little manners yourself? He unleashed a powerful axe strike, but Sa vanished in an instant, leaving behind an afterimage that left him terrified. An afterimage? Fumizuki hurriedly tried to clear things up. Don't get the wrong idea, I'm not his ally. But the blonde guy didn't buy it. Don't lie to me. We've been tailing you two all day. If you weren't allies, you wouldn't be taking his orders. Even though he acted tough, he had to admit to himself that Sa's speed was truly formidable. Fumizuki was cornered. She couldn't reveal the truth in front of Sa. The blonde warrior seized the chance and lunged aggressively. See? She admitted it. Take this. He attacked frantically, forcing Fumizuki to draw her blades to parry the heavy axe swings. She gritted her teeth, telling herself to handle this mess while he watched from behind. Jenin smirked, clearly amused. Oh, is the fight starting already? Man, the wicked really do live a carefree life. Magical sparks flew everywhere, creating a scene of total chaos. Sa thought to himself. Perfect. The more chaotic it is, the easier it is for me to act. Seeing the mage girl charging up energy, he casually taunted her. Shouldn't you use that magic to help your comrades instead? At that moment, Fumizuki unleashed a sharp slash that tore through the armor of the blonde warrior, making him recoil in pain and terror. Sa continued to tease the mage girl with a challenging look. Besides, we can always just run away. Look, hurry up or your friend is going to die. Now sensing the critical situation, the mage signaled the priestess, who was restraining Harris with a calculated nod. Immediately, both unleashed their support skills. The mage shouted, "Nightmare Gaze." Meanwhile, the priestess activated her recovery technique, Feather Storm. The system constantly updated the stats. The captain was healed for 30% of his health and gained 10% movement speed for 5 minutes. Conversely, Fumizuki was hit with a 3-second immobilization effect as bizarre purple chains wrapped tightly around her legs, making it impossible for her to dodge. Well, just standing there like that is fine for the squad's formation, right? Haha. Seizing the moment, the axe-wielding captain charged like a wild beast, roaring with killing intent. Die! Facing the deathly axe blade descending upon her, Fumizuki didn't flinch. She only curled her lip in contempt. Stupid. When the axe was just inches away, the captain suddenly froze, his face contorting in extreme pain. A bright red notification popped up confirming his status. Poisoned. Purple veins spread rapidly across his body, and with his blood vessels bulging, he no longer had the strength to complete his attack. The captain collapsed to the ground to the horror of his teammates. The mage and the priestess screamed in desperation. "Captain!" Fumizuki calmly watched the defeated foe and coldly declared, "I don't like meaningless fights." The system poured cold water on them, announcing that the priestess's level was too low to use a detox technique. The free players were in total panic. Why? Why was this happening? The mage shouted, demanding they hurry up and hand over the antidote. But Fumizuki just replied indifferently, "You were the ones who attacked first." Just then, Sa stepped forward, placed a hand on Fumizuki's shoulder, and said with a triumphant look, "Poison and a secret weapon. Even the dim-witted should realize her true identity by now, right?" The name Yanagi Fumizuki made the mage's hands shake in terror. "No way, someone from the Yanagi Fumizuki clan?" Fumizuki turned to look at Sa, suspicious. "So, you already knew who I was." Sa maintained his mysterious smile. He looked straight into her eyes and offered a challenging proposal. "You're targeting me under the angel's orders, right? Should I entertain myself by giving you a chance?" Sa calculated that keeping a dangerous assassin like her in his sight would make it easier to control the situation. Feeling her pride wounded, Yanagi Fumizuki snapped back angrily. "What chance? Don't look down on me." Jenin radiated a terrifying aura, the shadow of the Demon King appearing behind him, so menacing that the air grew heavy. He smirked, drilling his gaze into Fumizuki's mind, then forced her hand, So, do you have any other choice? Facing that overwhelming pressure, Fumizuki sweated profusely, silently, admitting to herself that she had no chance of defeating the Demon King at this moment. She reluctantly bowed her head in defeat. Seeing that the opponent had yielded, Jenin's expression shifted instantly. He beamed as if nothing had happened and gave an order. All right then, give them the antidote. Fumizuki silently walked over to the captain, who was lying there, gasping for air, handed him the potion, and said, "If you drink this, you'll be saved." As soon as the system confirmed the poison was cured, the captain regained consciousness. He looked at Jenin in shock, asking why he would save his life. Without answering, Jenin walked away nonchalantly, holding the glowing blue card, the pass to the ancient battlefield he had been waiting for so long. The next day, Jenin enjoyed life like a true king. He was carried on a wooden palanquin through the desert. Fumizuki now played the role of a servant, attentively offering watermelon and asking with concern, "How is the big boss feeling?" Jenin ate while nodding in satisfaction. Nothing to complain about here. The blonde captain had now become a loyal subordinate. He ran over to report the situation. Ahead is where our squad and another group clashed. He asked nervously if Jenin intended to. "Are we recruiting any more teammates for this mission?" Jenin winked mischievously and replied, "Of course not. I'm just here to support you guys, that's all." To boost their morale, he made a confident promise. "If you guys can take down Patri, I'll hand out rewards as the game manager." Watching the blonde guy's look of gratitude and absolute trust, Jen secretly mocked their naivety. In reality, he didn't have any actual authority like that at all. He smirked triumphantly to himself. They were so easy to fool. Flashback to one day ago, Genin held up a glowing blue card and declared his right to challenge Patri. He suddenly handed it to the mage girl, leaving her stunned. Genin beamed. Congratulations. The right to challenge is yours now. You've passed the trial." The blonde guy's entire team was shocked by this excessive generosity. Genin continued his act professionally. "My job as a GM is to identify and support the most suitable challenger." Despite saying that, he thought to himself, "Man, that's a total lie." The players started whispering suspiciously, wondering if Jen was really a GM, since they had never heard of anything like this before. Jen calculated that keeping them close to gather information about other players was the best move. Seeing them still hesitant, he turned his back coldly. "If you don't trust me, I'll find someone else to talk to." The blonde guy panicked and held him back. "Wait, it's not that I don't trust you. I just need a moment to process all this." Jenin turned back and grilled him. "So, you want proof?" The blonde guy scratched his head and admitted, "Well, sort of." Jen smirked and made a bold offer. "All right then, attack me." The mage girl was confused. "Huh? What?" Jenin laughed arrogantly. A surge of dark purple energy erupted around him again. "Go ahead, attack me, come on." The mage girl gritted her teeth and decided, "Fine, here I come. Even if it's a trick, we're here to take him down anyway." She immediately cast Fireball, launching a blazing orb toward him. He stood there casually, evaluating it. A decent basic fire spell, but too bad for you that your opponent is me. As soon as the high heat was detected, the system immediately activated the counter skill, Penalty of the Deep Ocean. Sharp ice blocks suddenly appeared, enveloping and freezing. The fireball completely in midair at absolute zero, then reflecting it back. The fireball had now turned into a giant block of ice, hurtling toward his opponent at terrifying speed. The mage girl panicked and deployed a flame shield to defend herself, but the force of the rebound was too great, causing her to scream and get blown away, landing flat on the ground amidst shards of shattered ice. Witnessing this scene, the blonde warrior and the priestess stood frozen in astonishment. They realized the deep ocean skill shouldn't have the ability to change attributes like that. Seeing the glowing ice blocks, they were completely convinced and exclaimed, "He really is a GM." Jenin put a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. "Shh, don't talk too loudly about that." The group immediately obeyed. Of course, deep down, Jen was confident that with the skills of a demon lord combined with the experience of a veteran player, he would never fail. The system menu popped up a list of the unique demon lord skills he had learned from blood magic to petrification. Jenin turned and commanded, "Ma'am, free her from the ice." Even though Harris was still grumpy, "I don't want to help someone who dared to oppose Lord Sa." She still performed a kick to shatter the ice and save the girl. The mage, watching from the sidelines, Yanagi Fumizuki, began to grow suspicious, seeing Jenin subdue enemies with just a few words. She figured a true demon lord must have some secret agenda behind this kindness. As the group continued along the stone path, the blonde warrior curiously asked, "Jenin, about that reward you mentioned earlier." Jenin smiled cryptically and replied, "I can't say too much, but my appearance in front of you is a major hint." Think about what just happened and their existence. That's all I can say. Looking at Jen's back, along with Mam, Harris, and Fumizuki, the players began gossiping about the significance of the Beastman and the assassin. The mage girl suddenly had a deduction. Inverted magic and the Demon Lord's minions. Do you mean we should team up with the races that betrayed the Demon Lord to defeat him? The group cheered excitedly, believing that recruiting the Demon Lord's subordinates would weaken his forces when he revived. Jen secretly marveled at how useful the imagination of these otaku was. Jenin leaned close to the team leader's ear and whispered secretively, "All right, but just between us. If we succeed, you might be able to bring something from this world back to the real world." Despite doubting the feasibility, the prospect of bringing back treasure made the whole team scream with excitement. "Let's do it. We'll be filthy rich if we bring that treasure home." Just then, they encountered a giant stone monster roaring at them. The blonde warrior swung his sword and led the charge. A monster. "Everyone, coordinate your attacks." Standing in the back observing, Harris worriedly asked, "Master, Lord Sa, are you really planning to help them? Surely one day they'll turn around and attack you." Jinin gestured to keep watching. "Just wait and see. I have my reasons." Suddenly, a violent vortex of energy erupted in the middle of the battlefield, causing the players to panic. "A dragon! Be careful!" But from within the dust and wind, two figures gradually emerged, a white-haired man and the red-haired girl, Patri. Patri sniffed the air around her and wondered, "This scent, it's like a cat." Patri's red eyes flashed with rage when she realized something. Could it be that it has appeared? She stared toward the high cliff where Jen was standing, watching the battle from afar. Patri roared with contempt upon spotting the person wearing the exact same appearance as her master. That disgusting impostor. In the midst of the chaotic battlefield, the stone monsters suddenly froze in a strange way, leaving the adventurers confused. One monster was suddenly torn to pieces in an instant, causing the blonde team leader to panic. Did it escape? The whole area was plunged into extreme confusion. Harris worriedly reported to Gen-sama, "The monsters are acting very strangely." Yanagi Fumizuki also felt a heavy pressure. A powerful aura was approaching. Seeing the bizarre scene before him, Jenin secretly realized that something very wrong was going on. Jen silently calculated that the monsters in this desert were usually only levels 65 to 70, so the fact that a sharp assassin like Yanagi Fumizuki was wary proved the upcoming opponent was no simple matter. Suddenly, the roaring sandstorm stopped abruptly. Amidst the thick dust, Harris was stunned to recognize a familiar silhouette and shouted. Right behind the red-haired girl, a figure with snowy white hair and majestic horns appeared, sending the adventurers into a trembling frenzy of fear. Demon King Jenin? Why is the Demon King here? What's going on? Ignoring his comrade's terror, the blonde captain blindly charged forward, fueled by his own delusional ambition. Doesn't matter. Since he's already shown his face, his head is mine. Standing before the charging enemy, Patri knelt down, pleading with the white-haired king. Jenin, should I take care of that fool? After a cold nod and a brief word of consent, Mom Harris fell into a state of absolute confusion that was the real Jenin. What is this? Jenin was also completely bewildered. He compared the identical appearances of the two, but quickly realized a crucial truth. The aura surrounding him and Patri was significantly weaker, which meant the blonde man threw a powerful punch at Patri, but the red-haired girl easily used her eerie, supernatural hair to deflect the attack in an instant. Patri stood nonchalantly amidst the enemy encirclement. She turned to look at the white-haired king and reassured him with deep reverence. "Your Majesty, please, rest assured." With eyes burning red with killing intent, she coldly delivered a death sentence. "Don't be in such a rush. I'll send every one of you to the afterlife right now." In a heartbeat, Patri vanished into thin air, leaving the adventurers screaming in panic. It disappeared. Quickly, form a formation. The slaughter began as Patri unleashed the overwhelming power of a divine weapon. With stats boosted to dizzying heights, accuracy up by 150%, critical hit rate at 200%, and overwhelming attack and defense, she wiped out every enemy in her path. The pitch-black tentacles from Patri's hair lashed out, tearing the adventurer's formation to shreds in the blink of an eye. Amidst the green and red explosions lighting up the sky, a desperate adventurer shouted, Did we take it down?" But Patri stood tall, without a single scratch. She muttered in disgust. "So itchy." Not giving her opponents a moment to breathe, Patri unleashed a punitive strike that made another man scream in terror. The attack power is terrifying. She coldly marked her next victim, the second one. Trembling, the adventurers tried to rally each other. "Don't waver, if we all attack together." In response to their hopeless efforts, they only received Patri's icy gaze. Useless. Just then, Jenin, standing from afar, activated his bestial intimidation skill, releasing a wave of crimson dark energy that engulfed the entire battlefield. The pressure from the true Demon King's skill caused Patri's body to falter. Is my body failing me? In a state of spiritual shock, she was horrified to realize the truth and glared at the person standing beside her. How dare a fake approach my king? Patri lunged in a frenzy to deliver the killing blow to the fake Demon King. Die! But Harris managed to appear just in time to block the strike. She shouted, "Patri, it's me!" By now, Patri had completely lost control. She roared with bloodlust, "Death to the traitors!" Witnessing the terrifying clash, the blonde captain trembled and admitted, "This is not a level we should be getting involved in." Jenin, standing nearby, smirked sarcastically. "What are you saying now? Still acting like a coward?" He calculated that using Patri as bait had yielded great results. Now, he didn't need to worry about monitoring Fumizuki anymore, as she had already retreated, sticking to her philosophy. A ninja values survival over fighting. Jenin watched Patri fight, inwardly marveling at the durability of this weapon, which matched a Demon King's physique. Ahead, Harris still persisted in persuading her. "Lord Sa and I came to bring you back." But Patri looked at her with skepticism. "That Lord Sa looks nothing like that foolish man over there. If he were real, why would you make me attack you?" Seizing the moment, Patri used her tentacles to wrap tightly around her opponent's legs. "Gotcha." She delivered a lightning-fast kick that sent Harris crashing down and declared coldly, "You're too stupid. I don't even want to kill you. Don't think about resisting again." Patri slowly approached the fake Demon King, who stood frozen. "Now, you fake Demon King, did all your accomplices run away already? Looks like you're pretty well loved, aren't you?" The fake Demon King finally spoke back with arrogance. "Not as much as you. After over 100 years, you only have one sycophant under your command." That remark struck a nerve, twisting Patri's face in rage. She roared in a fit of absolute fury, "I will kill you." Patri was trapped amidst a hail of arrows and magic from the blonde captain's group. Standing in the center of the encirclement, she maintained a look of arrogant disdain for the people attacking her. "An ambush with such a large crowd? Do you think these petty tricks work on me?" Instantly, a massive explosion swallowed the red-haired girl in a sea of fire and thick smoke. Emerging from the smog, the fake Demon King smirked triumphantly and jeered, "You'd better not overestimate yourself." Under the impact of the elemental attacks, a series of bright red system notifications appeared, triggering the curses of the ancestors. From the bursting energy, the shadows of a giant red dragon, a deep-sea entity, and a spirit of wisdom simultaneously rose, radiating a terrifying pressure that blanketed the battlefield. Watching heavy hitters fight is such a treat. The imposter roared excitedly while wielding the power of the gods. "The ancestors' curses, a greedy collection. If you can handle it, give it a try." He ordered the red dragon spirit to lunge forward, unleashing a lightning-fast pounce, knocking Patri away and pinning her to the ground. Seeing that, the blonde captain cheered triumphantly from behind. Mom Harris did it. Patri was completely exhausted. She collapsed amidst the ruins, barely managing to let out a painful groan. The blonde man excitedly shouted to his team, "Did we take it down?" In contrast to that excitement, Yanagi Fumizuki began to harbor doubts when she realized the abilities that the man had just used were nowhere to be found in the historical records of the Demon King. The imposter strode toward the dying Patri and coldly issued an ultimatum. "Now, will you surrender, or do you want to die?" Patri looked up at the real Sa with regret-filled eyes and whispered a promise. "I am sorry, Demon King. I will regain my strength soon." Sa gasped in shock. "What?" Suddenly, a massive wave of crimson dark energy erupted from afar, causing the adventurers to scream in panic. "What's happening?" The silent Demon King started moving again, but Sa looked toward the eerie black shadow. With wary eyes, confirming for certain that it was not the Demon King, the captain screamed in horror when he realized the crimson aura was roaring. "That is Patri's spirit." Witnessing the massive soul entity rising, Sa realized the gravity of the situation. He shouted, "This is bad. Don't let that thing touch Patri." Immediately, he triggered his taunt skill, desperately trying to force the enemy to switch their target to him. However, the system notification was like a bucket of ice water. The taunt failed. The enemy wasn't affected at all. Jenin was stunned, not believing his own eyes. What? That soul clearly belonged to Patri. A massive explosion erupted, swallowing the area in a sea of flames. Jenin stared at the crimson entity engulfing Patri and realized the horrifying truth. Was this a soul separation? He knew using this technique would slash his base stats by 30%, but what truly shocked him was that Patri could suppress the curse of the 8 tribes with only the remaining 70% of her power. Soul separation causes immense pain and leaves the body incredibly frail, requiring constant energy replenishment. Seeing the absolute loyalty Patri held for Jenin, Jenin understood that for her, protecting her master mattered more than any risk. He turned to urge the adventurers on. "All right, hit her again." The blonde captain just stood there, blankly asking, "Huh?" The killing intent radiating from Patri was so intense it felt like the very air was being crushed. Someone stammered, "Isn't it too late for that?" The adventurers began to scatter in panic. Even a veteran assassin like Fumizuki was breaking out in a cold sweat, terrified by this sheer fighting spirit. Patri's eyes glowed with rage amidst the black smoke, leaving everyone wondering if this was her true power. A demonic foot with razor-sharp claws slammed into the ground, signaling the start of a bloody massacre. Patri surged forward like a bolt of red lightning, moving with such terrifying speed that the adventurers couldn't even react. The blonde captain screamed in desperation to rally his team. "Don't falter. Move. Set up defensive positions now." But all his efforts were meaningless against such overwhelming power. Patri flashed past him in an instant, with a razor-sharp strike. The captain stood frozen in the middle of the battlefield. He looked down in shock at the gaping hole in his chest and could only gasp his final words in absolute horror before collapsing. He was a goner, dead as a doornail. Patri took out the captain in the blink of an eye, leaving him motionless on the ground. Watching the gruesome scene, the remaining adventurers trembled in despair. They realized they had no choice but to surrender. But Patri, with her blood-spattered face and a crazed smile, brushed off the thought. Surrender? No way. She dashed off like red lightning, tearing through the enemy formation despite their desperate screams. "I won't allow it." Standing before the fake Demon King with the giant red demonic soul looming behind her, Patri coldly delivered her final judgment. "Now, you fake Demon King, any last words?" Facing imminent death, Jenin gritted his teeth with determination. "I'm not going down that easily." Instantly, the system announced that his full Demon King power was active for 5 minutes. He unleashed a combination skill of Hell's White Bones and Flesh Rot, creating giant bone traps that erupted from the ground to impale Patri. Jenin shouted triumphantly, "Do you really think you can escape this ultimate combo?" But Patri suddenly appeared right behind him, placed a hand on his shoulder, and coolly replied, "No need to run." A ruthless system notification flashed. Patri and the Demon King share a special bond. All Demon King skills are ineffective against her. Genin gasped in pure shock as Patri revealed the secret soul contract between her and Jenin, making his attacks completely useless. Just as Patri was about to strike the final blow, Harris lunged forward, shouting, "Jeninama." Ma'am Harris used her own body to shield her master, taking the fatal blow as blood sprayed everywhere. Jenin stared in horror, clutching his falling loyal subordinate, and roared in pain. "Ma'am Harris, why? You should have realized by now that I'm not the real Jenin." With ragged, failing breaths, Ma'am Harris looked at him with gentle, happy eyes. "Jenin, for me to serve the one who saved me in the Beast King's village is an honor." Watching Harris fade away, Genin fell into a state of total madness. He deeply regretted using their trust just to find a way out of this world. A terrifying surge of power erupted, making Jenin's eyes glow with rage. He bellowed in sheer despair. "This can't end like this. Power, I need more power." Jenin woke up in a void-like space, stunned to find himself lying on a glowing red surface. When he sat up, he was horrified to face a giant version of himself clad in Demon King armor, writhing in pain, and he cried out, "What is this?" Looking into the distance, he saw another version of himself slumped on a high pedestal and asked, filled with doubt, "Ma'am Harris, why does it look so pathetic?" The deeper he went, the more stunned Jenin was to see rows of statues shaped like himself in warrior armor standing along the path. He muttered, looking closely, "There are so many, are these all me?" A thought flashed through his mind, making him shudder. Could this be a deathbed flashback? A near-death experience? He quietly walked toward Jenin's throne, where the true Demon King sat with a cryptic smile. A deathbed flashback? A very human concept, don't you think? Recognizing the familiar face, Jenin angrily demanded, "It's you! Are you the one who forced me to play the role of the Demon King? And why are you showing up in my memories?" Jenin casually pointed at him and insisted, "Because that is what you deeply desired." Jenin asked sternly, "What are you talking about?" Jenin explained clearly, "You were whining about your own helplessness and craving power." Jenin conjured an image of Harris in pain because she couldn't protect her master, offering a tempting proposal. "That cat is also regretting that she couldn't protect you. If you entrust your body to me, I can save everyone." Jenin asked coldly, "Who are you?" Jenin smirked, I am the memory of the Demon King etched into your mind, and I am everything. Jenin laughed in contempt. Don't make me laugh. What can a parasite in my own mind even do? Instantly, a massive blast of fire slammed right into Jenin's face. Jenin's flaming fist hit him squarely, sending him flying backward, completely helpless. Jenin coolly declared, I can do anything you can't. Watching the smoke rise from the Demon King's fingertips, Jenin began to panic. This guy, he isn't just bluffing or making empty threats. Jenin pointed toward the brilliant throne and commanded, sit on that throne. He continued with a dangerous lure. If you let go of your ego and merge with me to become a true Demon King, you'll be able to break the seal on all powers and defeat that dragon. Yet, Jenin remained resolute in his refusal. What the hell are you talking about? I'll do things my way, as the person I am right now. Jenin sneered sarcastically. You think you can actually pull it off? He began to pick at Jenin's bitter failures, from his inability to break the curse on the spirit tribe to being completely overwhelmed by Patry. If you hadn't made such stupid choices, you wouldn't be struggling against Patry right now, and you wouldn't have been killed by her. It's all because of your own arrogance. The words, if not for you, echoed relentlessly in his mind, leaving Jenin completely shattered by the brutal reality. He tortured himself with the pain. If it weren't for me, the others wouldn't have ended up like this. But then he thought, if that's the case, doesn't it mean anyone else could have done it just fine? Even if someone else had taken that path, he guided his thoughts. Right in the end, that person could be you. Which means that person could be you yourself. Jenin stood up, pointed toward the exit, and urged, now, go to where you belong. Everyone is waiting for you. Jenin silently walked across the red carpet, heading toward the faint light ahead. Jenin let out a triumphant laugh. Just kidding. But suddenly, Jenin's gaze turned ice cold. He realized the true scheme. So, that's it. Your goal is to make me abandon this body, right? Without a second of hesitation, Jenin whipped around, grabbed Jenin by the collar, and slammed him to the ground, leaving the Demon King in total shock. What? Jenin barely managed a gasp of surprise as he was pinned to the floor. Jenin stood tall over Jenin's collapsing form, completely in control of the situation. Jenin gripped his sword hilt and declared clearly, who do you think I am? I will not submit to you. He slammed the blade down right next to Jenin's face, coldly asserting, there's no rule saying I have to use your power to defeat Patry. Besides, I'm the one who took down the Demon King, right? Jenin's eyes widened in panic. He stammered in desperation. Are you ridiculous? You'll regret this. You need my power. You could have made Patry acknowledge that your soul belongs to me. Jenin sneered with contempt. That's not how the strongest players do things. If I need power, I'll obtain it myself. In that moment, Jenin's consciousness seemed to link with distant memories. He wondered if this situation was similar to what Jenin had experienced, or if this was an event that had happened before. Jenin recalled the moment he was supposed to perish after being swallowed by a demonic soul, but an unexpected incident helped him revive. The system window appeared, revealing the truth. Sin had activated the angel's curse to control him, but it had been reversed into an angel's blessing. This mutation allowed Jenin to access a special state called catastrophe, an entity that transcended both life and reincarnation. With this state, he held the power to manipulate the very fabric of life and death. Jenin wore a triumphant smile, realizing he could fully level up and revive once again. Jenin was stunned and countered, no, that's not it. The reason I summoned you here is because Jenin cut him off decisively. Enough. I'm starting to doubt if you're even the real Demon King. He coldly turned his back and walked away, despite Jenin desperately reaching out to hold him back. Wait, don't go. You'll definitely come crawling back here begging Sin for my power. Jenin glanced back with a look of utter disdain. Your words had some weight before, but now they're just cheap tricks. The Jenin I defeated had true conviction. He was much more than this. He backed Jenin into a corner and declared firmly, I'll return your own words back to you. I can do everything you can't. Immediately the system notified, player Jenin has attained the secret of the soul. Patry stood proudly on the cliff, looking down at Jenin's motionless body with cold, contemptuous eyes. This is your punishment for mocking Lord Jenin. She leaned down, touched his armor, and gnashed her teeth in anger. You actually dared to stain Lord Jenin's armor with this filthy blood. Suddenly, a hand reached up from the ground and clamped tightly around Patry's wrist, leaving her completely stunned. Surprise, beautiful. Thought I was a goner? Dream on, sweetheart. Haha. Jenin slowly opened his eyes, flashing a mocking smile despite his heavy wounds. Are you really going to strip another man's clothes off just like that? Aren't you being a bit too aggressive? Patry backed away, terrified, her eyes glowing red with shock. You're still alive? Her rage flared, and she shrieked. then die again. She then used her razor-sharp tail to pierce through Jenin's body once more. Watching her prey gasping in a pool of blood, Patri growled, "You persistent little pest. Finally, I can snuff out your last breath once, and for all." Even as blood flowed relentlessly from the corner of his mouth, Jenin smirked defiantly and asked, Oh, in such a hurry to kill me? Are you scared?" Patri screamed crazily, "Fool! If you're putting your trust in your teammates, you're dead wrong." She pointed at the corpses strewn around and declared coldly, "That cat girl is just like the rest of the pests. They've all fallen." Patri lunged for the finishing blow, determined to end her opponent. This time, "You will die." At that exact moment of life and death, Jenin roared with authority, "You aren't the only one who knows soul magic. Harris, wake up." Instantly, a wave of violet energy erupted along with a system notification. Soul fusion technique. Patri's eyes shrunk in shock. Is this a joke? From the eerie light, a figure shot out at terrifying speed. Patri only had time to gasp as her weapon was caught by a pair of strong hands. It was Harris. But now, her face was shrouded in shadow, and her eyes burned with a mysterious, brilliant, violet glow. Even Patri couldn't help but wonder in horror. Wasn't Harris supposed to be dead? Looking at the powerful new form radiating a suffocating killing intent, Patri was utterly bewildered. Is this soul-splitting magic? No, that's not it. What on earth is happening? Patri was thrown back unexpectedly. She was shocked to realize her opponent's power had surged tenfold in a split second. Jenin thought to himself, that very moment. When Harris declared she would follow him even knowing he wasn't Jenin, she became a true partner, allowing him to become the target of this special ability. Patri collapsed to the ground, trembling as she looked at the two of them, and shrieked in terror. What the hell are you?" Jenin smirked, full of smug satisfaction. "I won't let anyone kill my partner so easily. That shouldn't surprise you, should it? Or is it that your Jenin couldn't do the same?" Patri gnashed her teeth in resentment. She told herself not to fall into another trap. To measure Harris's true power, she decided to summon the giant, burning crimson dragon spirit. The beast roared, a deafening sound that shook the very air and unleashed a terrifying pressure across the entire space. Facing her silence, Patri sneered coldly. "Are you planning to surrender without a fight? It seems you don't even have the strength left to strike back." The giant dragon lunged, unleashing a destructive blow, but a blue barrier suddenly shimmered into existence, enveloping Jen and M, completely nullifying the impact in an instant. A violent explosion erupted as the dragon collided head-on with the solid shield. Jen stood firm within the barrier. Even though his chest was still bleeding, he flashed a defiant smirk. "Well, do you still want to keep going? If so, just give me a second." Immediately after, the presence of Gen and M turned into blue particles of light and vanished completely, leaving Patri stunned and wondering if the soul magic had been absorbed. Suddenly, a deep blue sword slash tore through the ground, triggering an explosion that sent Patri flying. She looked up in terror toward the dust cloud, where an authoritative figure was slowly emerging from the night. A glowing system notification appeared, confirming that the soul fusion process was complete. With deep blue tattoos glowing on his body and powerful beast ears, Jen dashed forward like lightning and shouted, "Sorry to have kept you waiting." He unleashed a devastating punch, landing it square on Patri. The sheer force of the blow sent her flying dozens of meters, leaving a long trail of destruction on the ground. Patri struggled to rise from the debris. She stared in shock at her opponent's new form and blurted out, "That appearance, that kind of magic, what the hell is that?" Jen casually stepped closer, the magical aura radiating from his chest emitting a suffocating pressure. He smirked and countered, "Are you curious? If you surrender and become my weapon, I'll tell you." That offer was like adding fuel to the fire. Patri roared with rage, "Don't you dare insult me! Only a powerful king has the right to wield me." She charged crazily, creating fiery collisions between the two flows of green and red energy. Amidst the fierce battle, Gen coldly countered and asserted firmly, "Your king lost to me a long time ago." A powerful blow sent Patri crashing, forcing her to kneel on the ground, gasping for breath in extreme fury. Patri gritted her teeth, cursing the arrogance of the man before her. "Damn you, you talk like you know nothing." She channeled all her strength into her claws again, lunging forward with all her hatred. "I'll make you pay for this insolence." Facing that rage, he maintained a terrifyingly calm expression and whispered, "You're the one forcing my hand." Jen stood motionless as Patri's claws stopped just inches from his face. He looked straight into her eyes and said, "Deep down, you know it's true, don't you?" He clearly declared the harshest truth, that he was stronger than any saw she had ever known. Patri ground her teeth, her red eyes showing pure insanity, yet she couldn't fight back. Jen launched an overwhelming attack, coldly reminding her, "Losing your cool only makes you weak." Patri gritted her teeth in bitterness. She couldn't believe she was being swayed by an imposter. Even while acknowledging her opponent's strength, in her heart, she still insisted that this guy had absolutely no connection to the great Demon King, Jenin. But the annoying part was, the copycat was actually stronger than the real deal. How frustrating is that? Jen cornered her and clearly issued an ultimatum. "Now, make your choice. Will you follow me, or accept your defeat right here?" Patri struggled to defend herself, panicked, and wondering, who really is this guy? A lightning-fast kick sent her crumbling to the ground. Patri secretly compared them. The power and nobility in the soul of Jenin were things Jen would never reach. She desperately looked for an opening. Jen smirked mockingly. "Are you talking about the nobility of the soul? Do you really believe that the most brutal and wicked Demon King was some kind of virtuous entity?" Those words touched a raw nerve for Patri. She roared in anger. "Shut your mouth. Don't you dare judge him with the perspective of an ignorant human." In her mind, memories of Sa came flooding back vividly. Back then, Sa had refused to follow those who only knew how to destroy. He had reached out his hand to her, an entity feared and hated by the whole world, to form an alliance. For Patri, Genin was the only light in the dark night. Returning to reality, the sudden disappearance of Gen made her gasp in shock. "Really? He's gone? I'm still right here." Jen suddenly appeared from behind and declared he wouldn't stop until she agreed to join him. Patri only had time to curse before being blasted away by an incredibly powerful attack. A seismic explosion erupted, swallowing the red-haired girl. Jen walked over calmly and asked for her final decision. Patri was a magical artifact born being shunned by every race, and Sa was the first person to accept her. That was why her loyalty had remained pristine and unshakable for hundreds of years. Even now, as she lay defeated at the feet of her new master, Jen pondered, realizing the charisma of Jenin wasn't fake at all, since he could soothe her loneliness and earn such absolute loyalty from Patri. He looked toward the trembling red-haired girl and clearly asked, "So, do you choose to surrender, or do you want to be beaten?" Seeing that she had reached her limit, Jen wore a triumphant smile. Even so, Patri still wouldn't give in. Her eyes glowed with hatred. "I will never surrender to an imposter." She poured all her strength into activating her ultimate technique, the Dragon Soul Art, summoning a giant, blazing red dragon spirit that lunged straight at him. Patri roared with determination. "If I can't hurt you from the outside, I'll attack you from within." The red dragon spirit dove straight into Jen's mind, beginning to invade deep into his soul world. Here, amidst the illusory swirls of time, Patri was shocked to find herself standing before fragments of her opponent's past memories. Images of a broken family in the real world, where a father was constantly yelling. When Jen was a young boy, he only knew how to hide under his blanket to immerse himself in the world of games. His harsh father kept spewing insults. "All you do is play video games all day. I can't believe you ended up this useless." In the stream of memories, Jen was still diligently staring at the computer screen, with the word "failed" clearly displayed. "Even with all this gear, I still lost? Once again, I'll keep trying until I succeed." Patri watched in shock as Jen confronted her in the virtual world. Patri was stunned to realize she had never seen Lord Sa look that happy. Could it be that he truly had accepted this imposter? "Back to reality in the soul space?" Jen asked coldly. "Are you satisfied now?" Patri could only gasp in disbelief. Jenin roared with authority, forcing back the intruder. "Do all of you dare to violate my privacy without permission? Get out." A surge of powerful energy erupted, directly blasting the red dragon soul out of his body, sending Patri collapsing. Jenin stood tall in the middle of the battlefield and asserted, "Do you understand now?" Patri closed her eyes, deep in thought for a long moment, before finally reaching out to take Jenin's hand. She declared clearly, "Fine. If Jenin has accepted you and you need my help, I will lend you my strength." However, her gaze suddenly turned sharp, cold, and menacing as she leaned in close to his face. "But if you dare to show any weakness, no matter what Sa says, I will kill you on the spot." Facing that lethal warning, Jenin remained calm and smirked. It wasn't exactly cute, but as a Demon King's weapon, it was perfectly fitting. Instantly, a glowing system notification appeared, confirming it. Having received the weapon, Patri Jenin gripped the great sword in his hand, feeling the surge of power, and exclaimed in excitement, "Perfect." The system continued to reveal a crucial piece of information about this divine artifact. Patri was the weapon of the Demon King Sa, and by nature, she bore half of the Demon King's curse. Jenin swung the sword, unleashing a powerful strike that created an intense shockwave that blew everything around them away to test his new power. He looked at the sword with immense satisfaction before the soul fusion state officially ended, causing the magic marks on Jenin's body to gradually fade. A blue light enveloped Jenin as he returned to his normal form. Harris rushed over, hugging her master from behind and crying out with tears in her eyes, "Master, you're safe. Did you manage to subdue Patri?" After the intense battle to make Patri an ally, Jenin and Harris collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. Jenin sighed wearily. "I'm wiped out." Just then, Fumizuki, of the Black Moon clan, suddenly reappeared from behind with her weapon in hand. Jenin jumped up, alert, and drew his sword, shouting, "Damn it! You still want to fight?" Fumizuki didn't hold back either. She roared with indignation. "You despicable human. I only came here because I was curious about how the battle ended." Though she talked tough, Fumizuki looked quite miserable with her bruised face. She quietly sat down to take notes in her notebook, deep in anxious thought. "The Demon King is becoming stronger. I might not be able to complete my mission." Patri reached her power limit at that moment. She spoke up, "I've spent too much energy in this battle. I will return to weapon form now." Shortly after, she transformed into a glowing greatsword in Jenin's hand, not forgetting to warn him, "Make sure you use me carefully." Jenin sheathed the sword and turned to Fumizuki. "All right, come with me." The assassin girl exclaimed a surprised, "Huh?" Seeing her hesitation, Jenin smirked provocatively. "What's wrong? Have you given up on killing me?" That remark immediately struck a nerve with Fumizuki. She snapped, "Don't hold your breath. Don't you dare look down on Fumizuki of the Black Moon clan." Jenin walked away nonchalantly and urged, "Then hurry up and follow me." Deep down, Jenin began plotting his long-term plans for the future. "As long as I am the Demon King, I must unite the 7 great races as allies. The Black Moon clan is one of them." Yanagi Fumizuki followed quietly behind with a suspicious gaze. She realized that this Demon King was truly unpredictable. The group stopped at an inn to rest and fill their hungry stomachs. Watching Harris devouring a giant chicken leg, Genin pondered the nature of this world. He realized the system was set up to force other players into direct confrontation with him. Genin placed 3 fruits on the table to represent the 3 major powers. The pear was the players, the orange was the system, and the red apple was the Demon King himself. Genin rested his chin on his hand, staring thoughtfully at the red apple, defining his ultimate goal, to conquer each race and reclaim the Demon King's power. Genin pondered the harsh reality. In this world, other players had all received missions to destroy the Demon King. They were hunting down Genin, ready to kill him for generous rewards from the system. Through the memories of the Demon King he had just seen, Genin understood that all players now considered him public enemy number 1. Clearly, the system was not on his side. He remembered when he first entered the game, it was because he ignored the system's guidance to find Patri first that things became complicated. The last time he saw Patri was when she flew northwest, but back then, Genin chose to go the opposite way. Immediately, players were dispatched to hunt him down. Genin began to suspect if the system was secretly manipulating his actions. It made him the Demon King, but simultaneously used other players to destroy him. Genin wondered if the title of King in the Return of the King mission actually referred to the Demon King or someone else. If this judgment was correct, even if he completed the mission, would he really be able to return to the real world? Should he follow the system only to never go home? While his mind was in turmoil, Genin heard whispers from the neighboring tables about adventurers suddenly appearing and sweeping up resources everywhere. The number of players opposing him was increasing rapidly, forcing Genin to find a countermeasures plan immediately. The crowd was buzzing, with excitement about a legendary treasure everyone craved. They whispered to each other about joining expedition groups to get a cut of the resources, even getting paid and compensated well even without missions. Attractive offers like, "Where do I sign up?" or "That sounds promising," echoed throughout the inn. Genin smirked coldly as he realized the nature of the issue. He was all too familiar with these opportunists from his time playing games in his old life. In reality, this was just a trap to force everyone to join, or else they'd walk away empty-handed. Genin calculated that he needed to complete his mission quickly. If their factions grew too strong, it could affect the 7 great races. He stood up decisively. "All right, let's go." Mom Harris hurried to respond. "Oh, yes." Observing from behind, Fumizuki noticed the Demon King's expression change after hearing the news from the players. She secretly wondered if he viewed the new adventurers as a threat, and if she could exploit this somehow. The group began their journey deep into the elf forest, following the map's directions. The surrounding space was eerily silent, without a single sound of life. Standing amidst the gloomy ancient trees, Harris couldn't help but wonder. It's so quiet. Where did all the spirits go? Fumizuki leaps onto a high branch to scout the area and discovers traces of a fierce battle. But she soon realizes something even more unsettling. No, it's not just that. Is this corrosion? Looking at the patches of rotting, pitch-black vegetation at the base of the trees, she wonders in shock if those terrifying rumors are actually true. Meanwhile, Jenin seems incredibly intrigued by the sight of the spirit's tree of life being engulfed by a sinister black aura. He decisively orders the group to head straight toward it to investigate. Suddenly, spirit warriors emerge from the treetops, drawing their bows in unison at the group. An arrow tears through the air toward them with terrifying speed. Yanagi Fumizuki quickly calculates the trajectory of the attack. The arrow's path, I see it, Mom Harris. She hesitates. The arrow slams right into Jenin, leaving everyone stunned. Struck, Jenin loses his balance and tumbles from the branch, causing Harris to scream in panic. My lord! Fumizuki watches his falling silhouette in shock, unable to believe that someone as powerful as the Demon King could be taken down so easily. The spirits are just as panicked, realizing they've just shot a human, and rush to report it to their tribe. But when Fumizuki sees the mysterious smirk on Jenin's face as he grips the arrow, she immediately grows suspicious. That smile, could he have been using me? The spirits frantically launch a barrage of fireballs and arrows, forcing Fumizuki to struggle as she deflects them with her blade. While Harris anxiously checks on his wounds, Jenin holds a finger to his lips, signaling for silence, and reveals his true plan. Shh. Stay calm. This was just to lure the spirits out. Fumizuki immediately dives into the fray with the spirit warriors, delivering a powerful kick that sends her opponent flying back. The spirits coordinate seamlessly, shouting to command the power of the wind and reminding each other to focus on the enemy first. Another spirit shouts a clear response while leaping between the ancient trees to find an attack angle. Facing the encirclement, Fumizuki thinks to herself, the spirit tribe uses natural power. They really are a troublesome opponent. One of them launches a searing fire attack, forcing her into a tight spot. In the middle of the tension, Jenin suddenly appears right behind an exhausted spirit warrior and offers a greeting. Hey there. He flashes a friendly smile to reassure them. Sorry for the rude greeting. By the way, are there only a few of you here? What happened to the others? The spirit turns around, shocked, and hesitates before replying. We don't have to tell you anything, but it's not exactly a secret. We are the last of the spirits left. Hearing this, Jenin calculates silently. This is exactly what I need. If I help them, I'll complete my mission instantly. Still, he can't help but wonder. What could have driven these once peaceful spirits to become so filled with rage? Jenin sincerely offers, if you'll allow it, I can help. The spirit, still suspicious, asks back, help? What are you talking about? Meanwhile, the skirmish between Fumizuki and the other spirits continues violently. A spirit warrior roars, this ends right now, and lunges for a finishing blow. At the last split second, Jenin shouts, wait! A glowing red sword strike stops the fight instantly, shaking the ground. Interrupted, Fumizuki snaps, furious. What the hell are you doing? If I don't kill them, they'll kill me. Don't get in my way. Jenin spreads his arms, trying to de-escalate the tense atmosphere. Come on, now. There's definitely been some kind of misunderstanding here. Why don't we all just sit down and talk? But that offer of reconciliation is met only with absolute fury from the spirit warrior. What good would that do? The reason our spirit tribe has fallen into this wretched state is because absolutely no one came to save us. Watching from a branch, Fumizuki ponders. I'd heard rumors that the spirits were isolated and hopeless. Does the Demon King actually want to help them? Another spirit looks down from above and asks skeptically, is it really true that you want to help us? Jenin looks up and responds with a sincere smile. Why would I lie? The spirit retorts bitterly, full of resentment. In the past, others told us the exact same thing, but they never kept their promises. In the end, we were just betrayed. Suddenly, Fumizuki senses an incredibly powerful, malicious aura closing in. Her face pales as she screams. Something evil is coming. From beneath the ground, a strange, pitch-black liquid-like shadow spreads endlessly, swallowing everything in its path. Fumizuki warns in a panic. It's bad. Climb the trees. Now. A massive entity suddenly emerges, stomping onto the ground right near the group, shaking the entire forest violently. In the face of mortal danger, the spirit looks at Jenin and says clearly, if we survive this, maybe we'll give you one more chance to earn our trust. The Demon King's subordinate, Fumizuki, hopes silently. I hope you can prove your worth, my lord. I pray for it. The monster suddenly lashes out with a powerful swipe of darkness aimed straight at Ma'am Harris. Jenin shouts in panic, Ma'am, watch out. He instantly draws his sword, putting all his strength into blocking the monster's attack in a split second. Jenin stares in shock at his sword, Patri, now covered in a sinister purple aura. What is this energy? Even Patri, in her weapon form, cries out in discomfort. Hey, something weird is sticking to my body. Without a moment's hesitation, Jenin shouts, "Let's go!" Then, he and Mam Harris dive straight into the battle. The spirits also unleash a barrage of fire and water magic. I won't let you escape. While defending, Jenin quietly analyzes, was that liquid from earlier part of the monster? Patri, in her weapon form, senses something very abnormal. This doesn't seem like a mere physical attack. The massive entity that just appeared is a fallen spirit, a monster taking the shape of a withered skeleton with long, grudge-filled horns. Amidst the chaos, a spirit warrior begins to recount their painful past. 100 years ago, during the war between the gods and the demons, our sacred spirit tree, the source of our faith, was chopped down by the angels. Having lost our life source, our tribe weakened completely. Without the sacred tree, we lost our power and were driven out of our own home. The tragedy didn't end there, as they were taken as slaves, but even in the midst of misery, they held on to hope. Even when we were sold into slavery, we tried to hold on to hope. Thanks to the efforts of our clansmen, a sapling of the sacred tree begins to revive, but the angels have returned once again to snuff out this last glimmer of light. They unleash their scorn. "Ha, you used to be so numerous, and now look at you, just a handful left. It's truly pathetic to see the proud elven race scurrying away like rats. I'm not even surprised. In the eyes of the angels, you are nothing but a lesser race." A cruel angel crushes the newly sprouted sapling, sneering, "The fact that you worship a tree, so pathetic, only proves your own inferiority." In a state of extreme despair and rage, the village elder sacrificed everything. And so, our elder used the forbidden decay technique to fight back. He transformed into a fallen elf, gaining terrifying power to annihilate the enemy, but the price paid was incredibly steep. A fallen elf possesses immense strength, but in exchange, they lose their sanity. Over time, these once greatest warriors now know nothing but the endless consumption of life. Even though the enemy was driven back, those who fell will never be able to return to their original forms. Witnessing this tragedy, Jen grinds his teeth as the truth hits him. So, the real enemies are the angels. We shouldn't be fighting each other. He is shocked to realize that the angel's behavior has changed so much from what he knew in the previous game. Jenin swings his sword to block an attack from the fallen elf. He silently calculates, if these are the last remaining elves, and if the last of the sane ones also give up, does that mean I've conquered the elven race? Just then, an elven warrior begs him, if you truly want to help us, then please save them too. They are still our family. Observing the plight of the elven race, Fumizuki silently recognizes a bitter similarity to her own Black Moon tribe, where she couldn't save her comrades, even though their current state is far worse. Facing the presence of a demon lord, the remaining elves remain skeptical. They wonder how they can trust an executioner who suddenly offers to help. Fumizuki wears a cold smile, mocking this hopeless effort as laughable. She asserts to Sa that, from the very beginning, there was truly no way to redeem these fallen souls. Suddenly, the monstrous elf wildly swings its giant wooden tentacles to attack, causing the crowd to flee in a panic. A young elven warrior exerts all his strength to cast wind magic to withstand the powerful sweeping blows. Even though he tries to cut through the eerie branches, the deep, purple, dark energy doesn't stop spreading, overpowering the natural power of the elves. In the split second of life or death, as a massive branch comes crashing down, Sa suddenly lunges forward, quickly grabbing two elven warriors and pulling them out of the danger zone just in time, landing safely. Sa realizes the system is intentionally hindering him, but he is determined not to let it control him any longer. He understands that saving everyone and earning the trust of the elves will be an ultimate challenge, requiring him to surpass all his personal limits. Seeing the fallen elves looming closer, Sa remains steadfast. Despite the trembling elven warriors insisting that these are monsters even the angels couldn't defeat, Jenin charges straight into the battle, swinging his blazing sword and loudly declaring, "Then this is perfect, because I am a demon lord even stronger than those angels." He lands in the middle of the encirclement, ready to confront the roaring fallen elves, gripping his greatsword tightly. Jenin whispers to the soul within, "I'm counting on you, Patri. Their attacks are dangerous. Make sure none of them lay a finger on me." Patri immediately responds with full confidence, "Are you looking down on me?" Right after that, a blazing red sword arc slashes through a multitude of monsters in an instant. Jen's continuous strikes leave the monsters unable to react. Observing from afar, her anxiously urges, "Master, please try harder." However, An elven warrior standing next to her pours cold water on her. He won't be able to do it. Her asks in shock, "What do you mean?" But he just coldly replies, "Just watch." Immediately, the Tigerkin girl's eyes widen in horror at the ghastly scene unfolding before her. Her gasps. Those wounds, they've been ripped open, but the monster isn't falling. It's sprouting even more grotesque arms covered in that deep purple dark energy. A system notification pops up, warning that the opponent is in a physical resistance state. Jen looks at the massive six-armed entity looming over him and gives a slight smirk. Physical resistance, huh? Just then, the system panel glows red, announcing the full unlocking of the Demon Lord skill. Time remaining, 5 seconds. Jen lowers his center of gravity, his eyes blazing with fury and defiance. Well then, how about this? Jen puts all his strength into activating his ultimate technique, Hell's White Bone. Immediately, giant bone spikes erupt from the ground at a terrifying speed, completely piercing the fallen elf monster's body, causing it to howl in agonizing pain. Witnessing this overwhelming power, the elven warriors can't help but gasp in awe. Unbelievable, he defeated something that even the angels couldn't touch. Is this the true power of a demon lord? Standing in the middle of the battlefield, Genin casually smirks and replies, "For a demon lord, this is just child's play. Though, I might have gone a bit overboard." But Genin's smile suddenly fades when he senses a killing intent even more terrifying, rising right behind his back. The system repeatedly flashes red, warning of the appearance of a new entity called the Super Fallen Elf. The monster not only doesn't die, but absorbs energy to evolve into a giant form, radiating a menacing, eerie purple aura. Genin is shocked to realize the horrible truth. Could it be just as Jen is distracted by the monster's transformation? Yanagi Fumizuki stealthily approaches from behind with a sinister smile. This is her chance. He has absolutely no idea about the legend that has been passed down for centuries. She swings her dagger to deliver an assassination strike, but Jen quickly detects her and lands a powerful kick to push her back. If you want to play, wait for your turn over in that corner. Though knocked away, Fumizuki still wears a calculating smile. She casually reminds him, "Did you forget that the Black Moon tribe is also very skilled at using illusions?" She reveals a terrifying truth. According to legend, fallen elves are actually immortal because they have the ability to absorb all surrounding life force and mana to regenerate. A wave of deep purple dark energy suddenly appears and wraps tightly around Genin's arm. Fumizuki coldly declares, "This is where we say goodbye. Farewell." The Demon King watched as Jen stepped into the wave of dark energy. Hera screamed for her master in total panic. The accompanying elf warriors were also frantic, trying to stop him, believing that anyone who approached that fallen entity would surely die. Clean, an elf warrior, was spiraling into despair. He wondered in shock, could it be that even the Demon King couldn't break this terrifying curse? Just then, a sarcastic voice echoed in Genin's mind, mocking that both Demon Kings, the real one and the fake one, were nothing but frauds. Despair hit its peak. Clean gave up and accepted his fate. Well, if nothing works. In front of him, a giant, fallen elf monster was radiating a suffocating purple dark mist. Clean muttered about returning to the eternal realm, ignoring the desperate screams of his comrades behind him. Clean, don't give up. Watching from afar, Yanagi Fumizuki pondered the tragedy, while memories of pain flooded Clean's mind of losing his home and his comrades, leading him to believe that a lonely life wasn't worth continuing. Clean closed his eyes, smiling with relief, thinking he could finally reunite with his fallen comrades. Just as the monster raised its hand to crush him, Jen suddenly appeared like a ghost and shouted, "No matter how long you've lived, giving up on life now is too soon." With his bare hands, he blocked the fallen entity's attack in an instant, saving Clean just in the nick of time. Genin looked at the elf warrior with a cocky grin and commanded clearly, "Stay alive longer. It's a sin to throw away the life your parents gave you." Seeing her master safe and sound, Harris cheered joyfully. "Master, you're safe." Genin nonchalantly turned to tease the catkins over-the-top anxiety. "Wow, you should trust me a little more, you know." Witnessing Genin's power and decisiveness, Fumizuki was shocked to realize that the intelligence reports she had about the Demon King's weakness were completely wrong. Responding to the assassin's stunned gaze, Jen just casually dropped a mysterious line. Well, who knows? Clean was still reeling in shock. He trembled as he asked Genin what he had just done, and if there was still any chance to save the other fallen comrades. Genin held Clean steady and reassured him, one question at a time. He silently wondered about the identity of the person accompanying him, while Clean apologized. "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I was just trying to find a way to save them." Just then, Yanagi Fumizuki suddenly lunged from behind with her sharp blades. She was stunned to see the Demon King still alive and determined to finish him off to fulfill Ben's mission, to liberate the Black Moon tribe from the Angel's chains. Sensing the killing intent, Jen quickly dodged and calmly said, "I have some good news and some bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Clean hurriedly chose the good news, even though another elf still looked cautious. Jenin landed with authority and declared, "The good news is that your race will be saved." The elves anxiously asked about the bad news. Jenin sighed, admitting the harsh truth. The elves who have already fallen can never be revived. Clean and his team completely broke down at this news. Regretful for his earlier rudeness, Clean knelt down, apologizing, and even intended to use his sword to end his own life to atone to the Demon King. Harris rushed over to stop him. She insisted her master wasn't that cruel. Jenin walked away quietly and asked back, "Is that what you think of me?" Seeing Clean still desperate for death, Jen turned back with a cold gaze and asked a cryptic question. "Do you know why the fallen elves cannot die?" Another elf replied bitterly, "There's no need to explain. Anyone can see that magic and swordsmanship are useless against them." Jenin put his hand to his forehead, sighing in frustration. Suddenly, he swung his sword directly at Clean, causing him to cry out in pain. To the astonishment of the elves, he coldly declared that this was proof that all fallen elves possess extreme super regeneration. Clean quickly apologized for offending the Demon King, but Jen told him to use his head instead of just empty talk. He pointed toward the ancient tree, covered in writhing tentacles to signal them to observe. The elves, kneeling on the ground, didn't understand what the Demon King's intention had to do with the current situation. They began to wonder if there was a secret hidden inside the bodies of the fallen that they had never known about. Jenin casually stepped into the dark core, covered in eerie roots, and affirmed that he had seen something unusual inside them. Moving deeper, Jenin gently asked if the sword patchery was all right. Contrary to the gloom outside, the space inside the tree core was surprisingly quiet and didn't feel bad at all. Jenin began searching for clues to save the elf tribe, and then he suddenly shouted triumphantly as he realized the truth. Jenin beamed with a smile, having found what he needed, believing it would serve his upcoming plans well. An elf realized in amazement that the Tree of Life itself was secretly protecting them. That was why their regeneration was so fast. Standing before the elf tribe, Jen declared clearly that to save them all, they only had two choices: either revive the Tree of Life or destroy it completely. Hearing that they had to destroy their source of life, an elf warrior roared in fury. "Why? The Tree of Life is protecting everyone. I won't allow this." Jenin remained calm, looked straight at his opponent, and replied in a cold voice, "You should assess the situation before you speak." Another elf questioned anxiously, "Demon King, can you explain why you are targeting the Tree of Life?" Harris pondered according to her master's logic. The Tree of Life can heal the fallen elves. So, if we destroy the Tree of Life, the fallen elves will weaken, right? That logic makes sense, doesn't it? Jenin nodded and explained further. Not only will they weaken, but their regeneration will vanish. The battle against the fallen elves will only require maintaining distance. He emphasized that, if they then purified them with holy magic, they could completely destroy these fallen entities for good. The elves were stunned, wondering if that was true salvation. One elf warrior couldn't suppress his emotions. He gathered a blazing fireball in his hand and lunged forward in despair. "If that's the case, kill me first." Jenin agilely dodged the suicidal attack and shouted, "Don't jump to conclusions, and stop throwing your life away so recklessly." Jenin stared deep into his opponent with immense pressure. "Otherwise, your life will lose all its value. Life isn't something to be wasted." In an instant, he slammed his foot down on the spirit, pinning them to the ground, leaving them completely helpless and trembling in terror. Standing over the defeated foe, Jenin coldly declared, "Sometimes, life and death can be reversed." Faced with such a hopeful offer, the spirits asked in shock, "Do you mean we can bring our comrades back?" Jenin inwardly weighed his own interests, but seeing their sincerity, he still gave a nod of confirmation. Immediately, the spirit warriors knelt down and took their oath. "I swear before the Tree of Life, from this day forward, we pledge our loyalty to you." The system notification showed the spirit's obedience rate had reached 2%, which pleased Genin, seeing that there was progress. He announced clearly, "I understand. I already have a plan." Just then, grotesque fallen spirit entities came rushing from deep within the forest. Jenin calmly observed them before turning to the group of spirits. "Have you decided who will be the one to fall?" A brave warrior stepped forward, decisively pushing his comrades behind him and accepting the task. "I will go." Jenin smirked, ordering him to resist with all his might to buy time. as he wanted to carefully observe how the entire transformation process took place. Even though his whole body was shaking with fear, the spirit warrior kept telling himself that he just needed to hold on. He shouted, "For the spirit tribe!" and threw himself into the jaws of death. Instantly, pitch-black tentacles reached out from the Tree of Life, wrapping tightly around his body. A heart-wrenching, painful scream echoed out as the bizarre dark energy completely engulfed him, beginning the process of soul transformation. Watching the spirit warrior being swallowed by the dark mist, Fumizuki spat with contempt. "You really are a fool. Do you mean it's foolish to sacrifice one's life for their comrades? Because he couldn't even save them, right?" She turned to challenge Genin with a suspicious gaze. "You don't intend to save them either, do you? What is your real goal?" Genin merely smirked, responding enigmatically. "Haven't you heard the saying, 'Man proposes, God disposes'?" Suddenly, a massive tremor occurred, causing Fumizuki to gasp in horror. What was that? A gigantic branch from the Tree of Life suddenly descended with immense power. Genin observed it nonchalantly and thought to himself, the protagonist has finally arrived. Ahead, the spirit warrior was screaming in extreme agony as the deep purple dark mist began to invade and corrupt his face. Not wanting to waste any more time, Genin instantly drew his sword and dashed off like a phantom to intervene in the transformation process. Genin unleashed a razor-sharp slash, severing the tentacles that were strangling the warrior. But he secretly realized a harsh truth. It seemed that those who did not belong to the spirit tribe could not receive the blessing of the Tree of Life. Faced with a life-or-death situation as the dark mist grew thicker, Genin decisively declared, "Then I have no choice but to do this." Immediately, the system activated the soul fusion technique. A deep blue energy burst forth, enveloping his body. Genin closed his eyes, letting the roots wrap around him into a giant cocoon, thinking that everything would be over soon. And afterward, Gen stood proudly before the great ancient tree, which was radiating suffocating pressure. A commanding and furious voice from the Tree of Life itself echoed throughout the forest. "You do not belong to the spirit tribe. Get out." From the high branches, the fallen spirit entities with ghastly, skeletal faces began to crawl out, staring at the intruder with eyes glowing with hatred. The massive fallen spirits jumped down in unison, surrounding the lone demon king in the depths of the forest. They shrieked crazily, radiating a deep purple dark aura that covered Genin, ready to tear apart anyone who dared to challenge the power of the sacred tree. Looks like those fallen ones have been living here quite comfortably. Even though he had activated the soul fusion technique, Genin still felt that something was off. He swung his sword, which was ablaze with red energy, striking down a fallen spirit, but questioned himself. Why can't I feel the power of the spirit within me? At that very moment, bizarre purple tentacles suddenly reached out and wrapped around his body from every direction, binding him so he couldn't move. Genin could only grit his teeth and endure it while the grotesque fallen spirits continuously dove from the branches to surround him. Just as things were at their most critical, a surge of intense firepower burst out, covering him. The system immediately announced, Demon King's exclusive weapon, complete form. Genin now radiated a fiery pressure, but a mysterious voice spoke up, challenging him. "How do you intend to fight Patri in your complete form?" The entity inside the sword threatened. "If you don't have any other attacks, I will take over this body for myself." Suddenly, the Tree of Life spoke, shocking Genin. A surge of golden energy unexpectedly struck down, causing him to scream in pain. Genin looked at the golden sparks covering his body and wondered if this was the wound caused by Patri. But a commanding voice from the shadows immediately denied it. "No, I haven't attacked you at all." "Then who attacked me without daring to show their face?" Standing amidst the golden radiance, Genin asked in astonishment. "Then what is this?" He soon realized the truth. The Tree of Life had just made him attack the fallen spirits. Had they already possessed his body? Immediately, a golden magic circle appeared, surrounding his opponents, accompanied by a system notification, Tree of Life sharing attack damage. The pitch-black entity representing the sacred roots declared, "I control all life." Genin smirked sinisterly, his eyes glowing as he saw through the other's heart. "You don't look like the Tree of Life at all. Do you think I'll be intimidated just because you attacked me?" Genin roared with excitement. "Patri, you're being mocked too. Teach them a lesson. Let's go." A brilliant red sword cut down a crowd of fallen spirits in an instant. He coldly declared his philosophy. "I bring salvation through destruction, while you bring death in exchange for temporary salvation. Let's see if your salvation or my destruction wins. Let's end this." Genin laughed maniacally as the fiery energy engulfed his body. The Tree of Life spoke with a commanding voice from within the black smoke. "Outsider, I understand your request. If you protect the spirit tribe, I can grant you my power. But Genin only smirked in disdain and replied, looking at this situation, I don't think I need that power very much. Insulted, the sacred tree entity roared in fury. How rude. Do you wish to die? Genin responded nonchalantly, full of defiance. Are you planning to use me as fertilizer? The fallen entities were constantly being tightly wrapped by purple tentacles and dragged along the ground. The Tree of Life questioned his methods. Is that how you offer help? At this rate, you could wipe everyone out in a single blow. Ignoring the warnings, Gen swings his sword, carving out a massive arc of crimson energy, ready to clear any obstacle in his path. Bound tight by tangled tree roots, Gen forces his blade deep into the tree's trunk and reflects, deep in thought. I've been thinking about this the whole time. Why did the elf tribe fall this far if it was only because of the rot? If it isn't the rot, then it must be the work of those angels. Regardless of who's behind it, I've got to deal with the fallout first. He asserts with grim determination. If that's the case, I'm the only one who can save the elf tribe. Sure, they might have been fallen spirits at first, but with your resurrection, a new form of life has been born. As you know, this new life is affecting everything around it. The fallen entities stand motionless in the night, radiating a purple aura of resentment that blankets the entire forest. The sacred tree entity speaks up, claiming its influence is far greater than Gen could ever imagine. Purple tentacles coil tightly around him, but amidst the black smoke, Gen remains defiant. You're only half right. I'm not giving up just yet. He pours his remaining strength into a blazing inferno and shouts a challenge. Then let's see which one of us is actually the savior of the elf tribe. Far away, Mam Harris and Fumizuki anxiously watch the events unfold from a high tree branch. Harris is panicked, seeing her master enter and immediately return, but the situation is taking a turn for the worse as the fallen spirits have pinpointed their location. Fumizuki is equally shell-shocked, unable to comprehend what is happening at this moment. Facing the encroaching enemy, Harris takes a defensive stance and shouts, "We have to do something." A swarm of fallen spirits looms closer, surrounding both girls right there on the ancient tree branch. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light tears through the night. Gen steps out from the radiance, wreathed in dark, purple energy. He mutters under his breath, "It seems it worked." Seeing their master return, Mam Harris and Fumizuki rush over. "Gen, master, are you okay? Can you run?" But all that answers their concern is Gen's maniacal laughter. "I did it." Harris freezes, feeling a bizarre, terrifying aura radiating from the man she once revered. Realizing something is horribly wrong, Harris points an angry finger and shouts, "Who are you? Give our master back right now." The figure wearing Gen's face curls his lip into a sinister grin and replies with a strange, unfamiliar tone. "Mam Harris, that's not quite right." A voice of absolute authority resonates, declaring that his soul now belongs to the Tree of Life and the fallen spirits. He laughs arrogantly as a massive pillar of light shoots from the ground into the sky, emitting a terrifying pressure that swallows the whole forest. The explosion of energy creates a thick, white cloud of smoke that smothers everything. Standing amidst the rubble, Harris only manages to cry out for her master in total shock and despair as she witnesses the horrific scene unfolding before her. Is it over? Was Gen's soul captured inside that tree? Rewinding 5 minutes earlier, Gen was pinned by purple tentacles, completely immobile. Genin stood there looking triumphant, casually revealing, "Gen, I used a fusion technique to combine the Tree of Life with the power of the rot." Realizing the dire situation, Gen gritted his teeth and asked, "I can't move anymore. What is your plan now?" Genin stepped closer with a malicious smirk and issued an ultimatum. "Are you ready to hand this body over to me?" Despite the threat, Gen remained calm and provocative. "So, you finally decided to show your face. It's not that I'm stingy, it's just that you simply can't control this power." Genin glared at him with murderous red eyes and growled, as arrogant as ever. "I see. That just makes you even more worthy of being my vessel." A horrific explosion of energy erupted as their souls clashed violently. Genin sneered, "There's no point in arguing with you. I'll let the angel tribe deal with you. Now, it's just the two of us. Let's have a slow talk." Meanwhile, in reality, the entity possessing the demon lord's soul floated in midair and whispered to itself, "Well, I knew taking over this body wouldn't be easy." Down on the ground, Harris and Fumizuki were struggling to hold back the encroaching purple miasma. Harris called out anxiously, "Master!" Suddenly, she froze as she caught a strange scent on the wind. Wait, this scent. Immediately after, a massive army of angels appeared, tearing through the night. Harris gasped in horror. "The angel tribe? Why are you here?" A mysterious figure in a cloak stepped forward and offered praise. "Yanagi Fumizuki, you've done well. Harris whipped around to look at the assassin with eyes full of fury. You? Is that it? She realized the bitter truth. All this time, you've been following me just because you're one of Ben's pawns? Fumizuki hung her head in silence, offering no reply. Unable to contain her rage, Harris lunged to settle the score with the traitor, but the cloaked figure, Mam Harastes, was faster. He unleashed a powerful purple magic attack and coldly warned, "Watch your tongue, in the presence of Lord Ben." Harris was blown away, collapsing to the ground with heavy wounds and blood trickling from her lips. Her eyes welled up with resentment as she looked at those who had just betrayed her. "Mam Harastes, Fumizuki, you traitors, I will never forgive you." Knowing the truth now must have been a devastating blow. Fumizuki bitterly admitted that no one could defeat the Angel tribe. She felt frustrated that she couldn't take down the Demon Lord herself. Just then, a high-ranking female angel appeared with a smug smile. She mocked them, saying she didn't expect the game to end so quickly. But having someone else hold the power of the Tree of Life was too troublesome. The female angel raised her hand and declared that everything would end right there. Fumizuki fell to her knees, desperately begging Lord Ben to keep his promise to resurrect her executed comrades. Responding to the plea, the female angel just smiled nonchalantly and said, "Oh, I just don't feel like doing that anymore." Fumizuki was stunned by the treachery. She realized she had a gut feeling she would be betrayed. Dismissing Fumizuki's wailing as annoying dog barking, the female angel unleashed a massive strike that sent her flying. Fumizuki was completely defeated, while the angel, satisfied that the area had finally become quiet, prepared to leave with Mam Harastes. The angel ordered Mam Harastes to clean up the scene, as she didn't want to stay in such a smelly place any longer. Immediately, a giant angel tribe formation appeared in the sky, ready to deliver the final punishment. Fumizuki, hiding behind a tree, watched in terror as the divine light descended like a giant pillar of fire, incinerating the entire forest in a heartbeat. As the light faded, Yanagi Fumizuki stared at the ruins and screamed, demanding the Demon King stop faking his death. "So, you've been playing hide-and-seek this whole time?" Jet black roots suddenly thrashed violently from within the roiling dark aura of the Tree of Life. Jen stepped out, looking completely calm. Fumizuki could only gasp the Demon King's name in shock, while he smirked, noting that everyone was still alive. Jen immediately warned them to run, because the angel's attack wasn't over yet. Another pillar of destructive light crashed down from the sky, continuing to incinerate everything around them. Jen looked down at the angels with a sinister grin, nonchalantly claiming that they were nothing more than fertilizer for the rotting tree. He reached out, gathered energy, and loudly declared he would take power from the angels themselves to restore the elf tribe. Instantly, bizarre roots erupted from the ground, wrapping tightly around the angel soldiers, who could only cry out in agony before being dragged into the darkness. Standing in the forest amidst glowing deep blue soul cocoons, Jen suddenly sensed someone else right behind him. An angel soldier was covered in a brilliant golden aura, leading Fumizuki to mistake him for an elf. However, with a cold gaze, the Demon King asserted that this wasn't an elf, but merely an entity in the middle of a painful transformation. Had he fallen just like the other elves? A fierce melee broke out, with swords flashing as the angels mindlessly attacked one another. The one undergoing the transformation was bound by the roots, screaming in absolute agony as his soul was torn apart. Jen watched the scene with a triumphant smile, declaring this was the true form of a fallen elf. He loudly proclaimed he would absorb all of their blood to convert it into endless power for himself. The battle exploded as sharp wooden spikes burst from the ground, piercing an angel soldier before he could even utter a sound. Standing silently among the rubble, Mam Harastes muttered calculatingly, "Is that really the Tree of Life?" Suddenly, Jen dove down from above like a lightning bolt, swinging his sword and shouting, "You don't need to know that. You're going to end up just like them." Jen poured force into his glowing red blade, but Mam Harastes quickly used his jet black wings to block the strike. He smirked, "You know more than I thought." Jen didn't flinch, coldly retorting, "You're a cunning opportunist, aren't you?" In Jen's mind, memories of the past surfaced when everyone was fighting like crazy. Mam Harastes was the only one who surrendered to save his own skin. He was a professional con artist, always finding ways to profit from every side. "Honestly, dealing with a guy like this makes my skin crawl." Mam Harastes clapped his hands smugly. "You're still a step ahead of me. We intentionally leaked information to lure the Yanagi family's daughter into a trap." Behind him, Fumizuki was struggling amidst a swarm of angel soldiers. The eerie roots continued to pierce other angels to absorb their energy to revive the Tree of Life. Jen stood in front of Fumizuki, looking at Mam Harastes with contempt. "Since when did you start manipulating the entire Yanagi clan, and why does the Tree of Life support you?" Jen laughed coldly. What if I told you there's no point in explaining anything to a traitor? Mamharastes just laughed mockingly. He gathered a burning purple magic aura and declared, "In that case, I'll just have to crack your skull open and check for myself." He soared into the air, his wings spread wide amidst the bizarre energy ravaging the forest. Mamharastes snapped his fingers, triggering a dark spell that made purple chains bind the corpses of the angel soldiers. Jen remained calm, reminding him, "Don't forget, the Tree of Life has the ability to revive its allies." But Mamharastes looked at him with a malicious glint in his eyes. "But what if they aren't actually dead yet?" Jen stared in shock as the angel soldiers, who had been impaled, now stood up, swaying, their eyes glowing with a deadly purple light even though the branches were still stuck through their backs. Watching the zombie army rise, Jen narrowed his eyes and muttered, Impressive. These guys just won't stay down. Maybe they're possessed by a nine-tailed fox or something." Mamharastes looked at Jen with disdain, scoffing, "But your strength is unexpectedly weak." Instantly, a series of glowing red magic circles surrounded Jen, but he stood firm amidst the chaotic energy. Mamharastes continued his mocking, but Jen suddenly appeared right behind him and asked, "Where are you attacking?" Mamharastes turned back, stunned, only managing to gasp in terror. You traitor?" Jen coldly swung his sword, piercing his opponent, and asked sarcastically, "Does your blood run red too?" He dripped a drop of blood onto the Tree of Life and affirmed, "This is the proof you wanted." Back to the moment before, inside the tree trunk, Jen was being bound tight by the roots. He was silently calculating if he could use soul manipulation, but it was taking longer than expected. With his mission time running out, the situation was looking pretty bad. He turned to ask the spirit of the sacred tree, "Don't you want revenge?" The tree entity suspiciously asked what this outsider was implying. Jen began to stir up the pain of the past. "Isn't it the angel tribe that destroyed your own kind?" While the tree entity was still hesitant and uncertain, Jen confidently asserted that the person standing in front of it was the only one in this world capable of threatening the angel tribe. The sacred tree responded with a mocking laugh. It thought if Jen couldn't conquer it, there was no way he could challenge the angels. Facing that doubt, Jen just laughed arrogantly. He made a bold bet. "Let's make a wager. Once the angel tribe hears about me, they'll swarm in like starving wolves." Jen mapped out a plan to use their blood to cleanse the sacred tree and make it his own forever. A brilliant green leaf appeared on Jen's forehead like a mark. The sacred tree entity was finally convinced. It accepted becoming a slave as long as it could make its enemies pay in blood to nourish its descendants. Jen began absorbing the deep blue power and loudly declared he would borrow a portion of the sacred tree's power to act. With the life sprout glowing on his forehead, Jen affirmed that from now on, the Tree of Life would follow him like a shadow in this world. Back in reality, Jen looked at the heavily wounded Mamharastes and felt satisfied. Mamharastes clutched his chest in pain, looking in terror at the Demon King approaching him. Jen raised his dark blade high, coldly ruling that a cowardly traitor like him shouldn't exist in this world anymore. Jenin delivered a finishing blow and declared that everything was over. Mamharastes trembled in despair, looking at Jenin with eyes full of hidden meaning, asking if he had truly forgotten him. In his final moments, Mamharastes let out a pained cry, "Father," before losing consciousness. Jenin and Fumizuki were stunned by Mamharastes calling him father so unexpectedly. Jenin immediately held his sword to his throat and sneered, "You call an opponent you can't defeat, father?" Mamharastes looked at the blade against his throat in shock and replied, "Father, are you serious?" Jenin coldly dismissed his sympathy. "Your act is pathetic. It's boring." Mamharastes painfully insisted that Jenin had forgotten that he was the one who sent him to infiltrate the angel tribe 100 years ago. This shocking revelation left Fumizuki stunned. Infiltrate? Jenin remained skeptical. Who would believe a story like that? You switched sides after losing, and now you claim I sent you? He silently reasoned that if Mamharastes was telling the truth, it meant the Demon King had anticipated defeat from the very beginning. Jenin demanded to know if the Demon King ever believed he would lose, and how he knew the outcome beforehand. "Explain yourself." Mamharastes, his red eyes glowing with mystery, replied, "I cannot explain. However, I have seen the prophecy of God. The Demon King already knew the truth of this world, and no one can interfere." Jenin was shaken, questioning the truth Mamharastes had just mentioned. Memories of the moment he was sucked into the game flooded back, making him wonder if this was truly just a virtual world, or if there was a mysterious connection between the game and the real world. Looking at the angels flying high above, Jenin realized that sending Mamharastes to go undercover was perfectly logical if the Demon King really knew the future. He covered his face, laughing with a mix of excitement and skepticism. I can see why the Demon King would send you, but I don't want to believe this setting is real. I need clearer proof, lay it all out, so I can see it for myself. Mamharastes narrowed his eyes at Jenin's sword, whispering cryptically, "Proof, you say?" Suddenly, the angels behind him formed a formation to surround the group. Mamharastes took a step back and challenged him clearly. "If you want proof, you must pay an equivalent price." Before he could finish, Harris lunged like an arrow piercing the wind. She struck a powerful blow straight through Mamharastes' chest, leaving him only enough time to gasp in shock. Amidst the chaos, a fierce battle erupted deep in the forest. Harris continuously clashed with the powerful angel warriors to carve a path forward. Through the smoke and dust, Mamharastes, despite being heavily wounded, looked at Jenin with eyes full of reverence. "Is this also part of your plan? But I really don't want to attack you, father." Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth as he wheezed, reaffirming his loyalty. "Everything I do is for you, father." Mamharastes staggered, standing firm, facing Jenin's blade without any intention of hiding. To verify these vague claims, Jenin decisively drove his sword through Mamharastes. Mamharastes accepted the strike calmly and whispered, "This is the only way to confirm it." Witnessing such a brutal scene, Fumizuki cried out in horror. Jenin noticed something strange. The opponent didn't resist at all. He realized that what he had just pierced was merely a physical manifestation. Looking at the shadow twisting strangely beneath his feet, Jenin coldly asked, "You've been waiting for this moment, haven't you?" A massive shadow entity with glowing eyes suddenly rose from Mamharastes' shadow, engulfing both Jenin and Fumizuki in suffocating pressure. Legendary demons were born from darkness, much like the symbiotic relationship between the spirit tribe and the Tree of Life. They always relied on and existed alongside each other. Demons can hide in shadows and only truly revive powerfully by crushing the opponent's will completely. Jenin stood tall, facing the massive, authoritative demon ghost manifesting before him. Mamharastes asserted that his power was tied to the Demon King's love, and if abandoned by him, he would not be able to revive in his father's shadow. Mamharastes offered this as proof of his absolute loyalty. Faced with such conviction, Jenin pondered and asked about the true mission he was carrying out. Mamharastes admitted he didn't know the ultimate goal either, only that he was waiting for orders. For now, all he could do was protect him from the shadows. Seeing that Mamharastes was quite loyal, Jenin probed to see if he had gathered any valuable information while staying with Ben. While realizing that this act would certainly expose Mamharastes' true identity, 100 years of stealth was now blown. Mamharastes flatly denied it, and suddenly spread his massive gray wings, radiating a purple energy field around his body. He flew straight up into the air, confronting the angel army surrounding them. Witnessing that scene, Jenin could only gasp in surprise. Shadow tentacles from below suddenly pierced through the bodies of the angel soldiers ruthlessly before they could react. Not missing the chance, Harris heroically dived into the fray. She unleashed a powerful kick aimed straight at her opponent's neck, sending black blood spraying everywhere. Mamharastes smiled cryptically, suggesting that this still wasn't enough proof for Jenin to trust him completely. Seeing that Yanagi Fumizuki seemed provoked and wanted to attack, Mamharastes advised her not to fight him. He leaned close to Jenin's ear, revealing an important thing he had realized while waiting for him at Ben's place. Responding to Jenin's curiosity, Mamharastes declared clearly that Ben was plotting to revive the previous generation's Heavenly King and Demon King. The shocking news about Ben's plan left Yanagi Fumizuki stunned. She couldn't believe her ears. Could that really happen? The legacy of the Heavenly King is tied to the continuation of life and power. A new Heavenly King cannot be born unless the old one is dead. The image of the Demon King, Jenin, standing tall in a sea of blood under the golden moon, haunted her, a testament to the harsh laws of survival. Jenin pondered and observed. But they were able to revive Mamharas. Surely they can bring back the Heavenly King or the Demon King. Hearing this, Harris broke into a cold sweat. She stammered in shock. "Revive Jenin?" Jenin smirked with a knowing smile. He understood that even if the price was enormous, reviving him was entirely possible. He silently recalled that the moment he was brought to this world was precisely to serve as a sacrifice for the Demon King's revival. Jenin looked at Mamharastes and concluded sharply, "Ben doesn't strike me as the type to sacrifice himself." Mamharastes nodded in confirmation. "That's right, Ben wouldn't do that." "Well, I've already got another perfect pawn ready for this mission." Fumizuki asks nervously about the pawn's identity and Ben's true plan, but Mamharastes admits he isn't close enough to her to know such classified information. Even so, he reveals some crucial clues with a sinister smile. A body can be revived with the Tree of Life, but the real problem is reviving the soul. Bringing back a soul that has already dissipated is no easy feat. He explains that the Abyss race is the only one capable of interacting with souls, and reviving the Heavenly King will definitely require their interference. Jenin is shocked as he realizes the enemy's next malicious scheme. Ben is clearly aiming to bring them back, no matter how difficult it may be. Mamharastes asks skeptically if the Abyss of Time is just a legend, but Jenin clearly asserts that it is absolutely real. Based on his knowledge from the map in the next part of the game he once saw, Jenin believes that if the two worlds truly connect, it must exist there. Mamharastes suddenly shivers, recalling the legend that the Abyss of Time only appears amidst the wailing of the Abyss race. Jenin firmly concludes that Ben is planning an attack on the Abyss race, just like she slaughtered the Spirit race before. Mamharastes urges the group to set off for that place immediately. Jenin orders Mamharastes to stay behind and stall Ben to carry out an important mission, because any harm to the Abyss race would cause huge trouble. Mamharastes bows in obedience, thanking him for the order before spreading his wings and flying off. Seeing this, Harris asks worriedly, "My lord, shouldn't we go there too?" But Jenin replies calmly, "Not yet. I still have a surprise to prepare." He walks toward a spirit tightly bound by vines and commands, "Wake up." The spirit opens his eyes in amazement, feeling a new flow of power surging through his veins. He stares at his hands in shock. "Light? Why do you all look like that? Do I look strange?" Jenin quietly concludes that increasing the tribe's numbers isn't easy. First, he must find young guardians compatible with the tribe. They gather around a glowing green sprout where energy is constantly erupting. Jenin recalls the brutal wars that the spirit tribe had to endure against the onslaught of the Orosei and giant dragon monsters. Rebuilding a tribe from the ruins is much harder than creating a new one, and requires immense effort. Standing before a spirit in beast form, Jenin reaches out and firmly declares, "This Wind King shall bestow upon you a name." He touches the spirit warrior and asserts, "From now on, your name is Thon." Witnessing Jenin do this with such ease, the surrounding spirits are overwhelmed with shock and awe. A lead spirit introduces Jenin to the comrade who just returned. "Welcome back. This is the Demon King. He saved us." Harris asks curiously how he managed to remove the corruption, but Jenin reveals a shocking truth. "I didn't remove it. I channeled more power into their bodies, allowing them to coexist with that corruption." Harris worries if that might cause any side effects, but Jenin smirks. "Is there a problem? Perhaps the side effect will make them stronger." Immediately, the system board notifies that the Spirit Tribe rescue progress has reached 47% and asks him to claim his reward. Jenin is secretly smug about not being punished despite bending the rules. He realizes the system is forcing him to confront the angel race, so he comes up with a bold plan. If turning other races into allies is permitted, the key lies in their guardians. This is the loophole the system has left behind. Standing before the glowing red dark aura, Jenin resolves, "If I cannot defeat the angel race, I will turn them into allies instead." His eyes glow with calculation as he asserts that, after all, only one person truly understands the angel race. Everything is going exactly according to Mamharastes and Ben's plan. Inside the magnificent palace, Ben coldly declares that sacrificing every member of the spirit tribe to the Tree of Life is an acceptable price to revive the Heavenly King. She is even willing to use the lives of angel soldiers to regain trust from the other side to serve the greater cause. Ben wonders if the Abyss of Time the Demon King mentioned actually exists. Mamharastes insists it is inevitable, and what needs to be done now is to let Jenin approach the Abyss race to open that door for them. Ben stares intensely at Mamharastes and asks if that will satisfy both of their desires. Receiving a nod of confirmation, she suddenly casts a truth spell. Ben threatens that anyone who lies while under the influence of this spell will be incinerated by holy light immediately. Standing before the glowing magic circle, Mamharastes kneels down and clearly affirms that he truly wants to help. Ben asks suspiciously if he is living for his father, just as she is dedicating herself to the Heavenly King. Mamharastes cleverly replies that he lives for his father, just as he is serving her. Suddenly, Ben lashes out with a whip, striking Mamharastes, and orders him to get out. However, she quickly changes her attitude with a strangely flushed face, admitting she was wrong, as this method denies the loyalty he holds for her. Standing before the statue of the majestic Heavenly King, she asserts that in this life, no one loves him more than she does. Mamharastes silently leaves with a scoff of contempt, while Ben remains lost in her blind worship. Mamharastes walks through the quiet hall, silently promising his father, the Demon King, that he will fulfill the mission at any cost. Meanwhile, in the Spirit Forest, an early victory celebration is taking place noisily around a campfire. Yanagi Fumizuki seems completely energized, She raises a wine jar high and yells, "Everyone, enjoy tonight before officially becoming warriors tomorrow." The assassin declares with great spirit that this is the final battle, and no one can stop their advance. Witnessing that chaotic scene, Harris, while gnawing on a chicken leg, asks Genin with concern if he really intends to fight alongside someone like Fumizuki, who seems to have lost her mind, to confront Ben. Harris roars, calling Fumizuki a lunatic as he sees her intoxicated. Fumizuki leans close to Genin, her face flushed from the alcohol, and asserts that she is bound by the Black Moon clan's blood oath, so she is absolutely loyal. Genin only sighs at the fragility of trust, while Harris grumbles that a blood oath can't guarantee anything. However, Fumizuki's gaze suddenly becomes cold. She warns Genin not to underestimate the blood oath, because once the covenant is made, her clansmen will follow every order. She reveals the cruel truth that if they fail, the entire clan will be wiped out by the angels, and making the covenant is the only way to force Genin to stand on their side and negotiate. Ma'am Harris frantically tried to stop Fumizuki from saying such strange things to their master, forcing Genin to step in and soothe the Tigerkin girl to keep her calm. Fumizuki knelt down, admitting that her assassination mission had failed completely and that her entire tribe could no longer harm him. Genin smiled, realizing she was as drunk as Patri had been back then when he first subjugated her. He wondered to himself if his refusal would cause Fumizuki to lose her life right before his eyes. Finally, Genin decisively accepted the offer and produced the betrothal token of the Black Moon tribe that he was holding. Harris looked confused, not remembering seeing the object before. Genin gently reminded her that she had missed that interesting moment while she was unconscious. In her memories, Fumizuki had given him the tribe's symbol as a vow of loyalty. Back in the present, with a trace of blood still staining her lips, Fumizuki clearly affirmed that this was the ultimate blood oath of the Black Moon tribe. With this item in hand, Genin had the right to order her entire tribe to carry out any request. Even if that command meant sacrificing their own lives, Genin gripped the token tight and probed sharply. "What if I actually ordered you to kill yourself?" Fumizuki smiled faintly, confessing that through her observations, she had realized that beneath Genin's rough exterior lay calculated actions far deeper than ordinary people could fathom. She trusted him because she knew he had never carried out a meaningless massacre. Genin smirked, mocking his own infamous reputation as a demon king, but Fumizuki looked at him with eyes full of hope, insisting he was their only salvation. Walking along in silence, he found it ridiculous that a demon king had become a beacon of hope and realized with bitterness how twisted this world truly was. Genin caught the wobbling Fumizuki and said coldly, "I'm not interested in your life, so don't go falling on me." Immediately, the system detected the toxins around her and activated a blood art technique. Looking at her body, saturated with the signature poisons of the Black Moon tribe, Genin leaned close to the assassin's ear and flashed an authoritative smile. "Live under my control, and don't you dare regret it." Fumizuki was stunned. Her heart seemed to skip a beat in the face of this absolute dominance. Closing her eyes, she whispered in response, "I am looking forward to it." In her mind, Genin was the greatest demon king, the one who had never surrendered even when hunted by the angel tribe. She realized she was the vanguard leaf of the Black Moon tribe, ready to stand by his side. With iron will, Fumizuki told herself she would never give up. Under the brilliant full moon, she made her resolve. If this world was truly twisted, then she would tear it down completely with him. Just as she was deep in thought, Harris ran over, holding a notice and shouting, "Master, this is serious." The paper clearly declared that the old era had passed, and the rise of a new king had begun. Accompanying it was a majestic image of Genin. Genin casually took the paper and turned to ask Yanagi Fumizuki, "Did you make this?" Seeing her nod in admission, Genin could only click his tongue in annoyance with a grimace. Next time, choose a cooler angle. News of the new king quickly attracted fame-hungry adventurers. A leader shouted out loud, "Hey everyone, this is a great chance to grind for experience. Let's go kill the Demon King." A red-haired elf was desperately fleeing from the pursuit of mysterious attackers. Cruel screams rang out, "Catch her! Cut off her fingers!" The gray-haired hunter raised his bow arrogantly and sneered. Too slow. The elf tripped and was immediately surrounded by the aggressive men, who laughed triumphantly. "Gotcha. Do you really think anyone is coming to save you? Ha ha ha." A bunch of scumbags surrounding a girl who had no ability to resist, watching their prey kneeling on the ground with glowing green marks on her hands. They continued their taunts. "Can't move anymore, huh? Need a hand? Your savior seems a bit late, don't you think?" But instead of fear, the elf's eyes burned with orange flames of resentment. She gritted her teeth and channeled her strength into her legs, activating a deep blue aura to prepare for a surprise counterattack. An assassin lunged with sharp blades. Planning to run? Don't be so stupid. Following that was a powerful strike from another. You aren't getting away. The elf nimbly dodged the blow and landed in a low crouch. She stared straight at her opponents with icy eyes and declared, "The ones who won't be escaping are all of you." Suddenly, a series of shadows appeared in the high tree branches, sealing off every exit for the hunters. A resounding cry echoed out, the trap was sprung, and reinforcements had arrived. The gray-haired leader kept his dismissive expression, thinking it was nothing to worry about. Look closely, they're all just weaklings. He saw through the status boards of the weakened elves and mocked them. Even with the world tree reviving you, what's your strength worth? I'll just kill you all over again. He held up a purple potion vial and laughed like a madman. Plus, we can make you even weaker with dark arts. How do you plan to fight now? Bring it on, you jerks. Don't talk big if you can't back it up. The hunters suddenly noticed something strange when a monstrous figure with long horns and a level of 90 emerged from the darkness. The leader frantically threw the vial of poison hard toward his opponent and roared, "Die!" But as the purple smoke cleared, the stranger was still standing tall without a scratch, leaving the leader terrified. Not even a scratch? What the hell is going on? The Black Moon warrior immediately counterattacked, pinning his opponent to the ground and coldly repeating, "I already said, the ones who won't be escaping are all of you." He looked at the trembling hunters with a gaze of contempt, pathetic weaklings. In the distance, Jenin was leisurely riding on the back of the white tiger, Mam Harris, and muttering that the fool would surely show up soon. Yanagi Fumizuki ran alongside, confirming that spreading rumors about the weakness of the elf tribe had yielded the expected results. Jenin stretched excitedly and clearly declared his next goal, to upgrade the elves' strength to defeat that woman. The group headed toward the towering cliffs by the sea. Mam Harris curiously asked if their master intended to visit the abyssal tribe. Jenin removed his mask and smiled, saying that if they went to Ryugu Castle, they would surely meet a sea turtle. Seeing that, Yanagi began to recount the legend of kind-hearted Urashima Taro from long ago on the seashore, a story of the moment Taro saved a small turtle from some boys and returned it to the ocean. Years later, a giant turtle appeared to repay the favor and invited him to visit Ryugu Palace. There, Taro met Princess Patri, enjoyed delicious food, and lived a life of luxury, just like in a dream. Hearing this, Harris couldn't help but swallow hard in envy, but she was immediately stunned when Yanagi Fumizuki ended the story by saying Taro had suddenly turned into an old man. Harris asked in a panic, wasn't she skipping the most important part? Jenin turned to look at Patri, curiously asking if she wanted to add anything to that legend. However, his only response was a deep, heavy silence from the red-haired girl. Her face flashed with an unreadable sadness. Seeing that she didn't want to speak, Jenin clicked his tongue. Fine, if she didn't want to talk, that was that. But she better not mess things up at a critical moment. Teasing her when she wouldn't even answer, then threatening her with work? Was he crazy? The group continued their journey. Gain and Zot on the back of the white tiger, Harris. Meanwhile, Patri floated behind with eyes glowing with bloodlust. Suddenly, Patri sensed a threat surrounding them. Enemies were everywhere, with nothing else in sight. An enormous, glowing red energy slash suddenly descended, tearing through the ground and creating a terrifying explosion right where they were standing. Jenin jumped to the ground, glanced at the floating Patri with a tense expression, and asked, "Hey, are you angry?" Standing before a towering, barren mountain range, Jenin smirked with interest. Well, this is starting to get interesting. Harris, in her tiger form, suddenly realized something. "Master, this is it," Jenin declared clearly. "Ma'am, we've arrived." As soon as he finished speaking, Harris returned to her beautiful beastkin maiden form. Looking around at the desolate landscape of only rock and wind, Jenin began to doubt. Here? It feels like we're in the wrong place. A dry sound echoed under his feet as he stepped toward the sheer cliff. Jenin looked up at the towering peak and suddenly shouted, "Hey, can you bring me to see your boss?" The only answer to his request was the dead silence of the forest. Jenin persisted and shouted again, "Let me see your boss!" Seeing that things weren't going very smoothly, he muttered that things didn't seem to be flowing well. Harris approached him worriedly and asked, "Master, who are you talking to?" Jenin smiled mysteriously and replied, "Someone you know very well." Instantly, the ground shook violently, and a giant creature with a rough, rocky shell rose from the cliff. It saw Patria Concour and roared with emotion. "Dragon Princess, I have searched for you for so long." Harris gasped in shock at the magnificence of the ancient creature. A giant sea turtle. Witnessing the reverence that the sea creature showed his subordinate, Jenin secretly assessed the divine weapon he held. The sword, Patri, had been brought out by Jenin for war. Patri appeared in all her majesty, with glowing red eyes, killing intent, and strange tentacles surrounding her. He understood that this weapon was the nightmare of every living being in the world, except for one mysterious tribe. Standing before a giant sea creature in the shape of a towering rock dragon, Jenin secretly realized that the secrets of the deep sea were far more complex than he had thought. Patri, in her maiden form, floated right in front of the beast's glowing yellow eyes. The ancient creature spoke in a deep, gravelly voice. "Dragon Princess, you have returned, but why are you in such a state?" Witnessing this scene, Fumizuki and Mam Harris were shocked. Harris stuttered, asking to be sure. "Patri is the dragon princess from the legends?" Jenin began to piece the clues together. He realized her dragon horns were proof of her origins from the deep sea tribe. He smirked, remarking that legends and reality are very different, then asked the two girls if they knew the true nature of myths. Fumizuki suspected they were, a lesson or a warning. But Jenin asserted sharply, "No, the nature of legends is that they are created by humans." Fumizuki still didn't understand his point. She asked if they were always full of lies because they were made by humans. Jenin held up two fingers and explained that usually, there are two reasons people lie. The first is to exploit others. Just like how I was brought to this world as a replacement to fill the vacant demon lord position. Jenin held up his second finger, his face becoming somber as he revealed the other reason, to hide something. And Patri was a case that fell into this category, including the story about Taro. Patri looked blankly, not understanding Jenin's intent, while Fumizuki asked in a panic about the actions of the people involved. Jenin smiled, suggesting they let the person who lived through that era tell the truth, which had always been hidden in the shadows of history. Patri closed her eyes and began to reminisce about the 1,000 years she never thought she would tell anyone about. She revealed that the first part of the legend about Taro coming to the Dragon Palace was accurate, and that was also the first time she met someone from the outside world. Patri continued to recall those beautiful days. She had treated Taro to lavish feasts, and the two had played together in the magnificent Dragon Palace. Taro's sincerity in helping her friends made the dragon's heart flutter, drawing them closer than ever before. But the happy times didn't last long. As the human law of aging, sickness, and death arrived, Patri had been too busy enjoying herself, forgetting the differences between the two races. Right, the weakness of humans is aging, sickness, and death. Seeing Taro now old and frail, Patri was devastated when she heard him utter a bitter farewell. "Let's stop seeing each other." Faced with her pain and questions, Taro wheezed, explaining that he did not want her to see him in such a dilapidated state anymore, and he couldn't stay with her forever either. Unable to bear watching her loved one fade away over time, Patri frantically searched through piles of ancient texts and discovered the secret blood exchange technique to help Taro join the Deep Sea tribe. She declared clearly, "I will help you," because her desire to be together forever overshadowed all reason, despite the terrifying warning of the rock dragon guardian. "Young mistress, that is too dangerous. You will die." Patri remained steadfast. "I don't care. If it's for Taro, during the blood exchange ritual, the donor's body would be completely immobilized." Patri gently held Taro's hand inside the magic circle and promised that he would soon be able to move again with a new power. Witnessing Patri's blind sacrifice in the past, Mam Harris in the present couldn't help but cry out in fear for her. But Patri's kindness was met with the cruelest betrayal just when she was at her weakest. Taro suddenly revealed his true, evil nature. He coldly choked Patri to her utter shock. "Taro, why?" He had calculated everything from the start to seize all her power and status right during the ceremony. Taro completely transformed into a deceitful entity. It became the most horrific memory and the greatest humiliation of Patri's life. Hearing about the tragic end, her fiercely cursed that scumbag. Meanwhile, Fumizuki curiously asked what happened to Patri after she was stripped of everything. Patri explained that thanks to the resilient soul nature of the Deep Sea tribe, she was lucky enough to survive, but her power was gone forever. As a wandering soul, she met the Shadow King, Jenin. Thanks to him, she received a new body in the form of a divine weapon and was officially resurrected to serve the Demon Lord. Jenin listened silently, with a deep, pensive look, but the rock dragon beast suddenly spoke up, shattering the atmosphere. "You're being far too naive." It stared directly at Patri and loudly demanded to know if she intended to tell this new demon lord about the tragic reality that the entire Deep Sea tribe is on the verge of becoming slaves to humanity. Faced with the rock dragon beast's biting accusation, Patri gasped in shock. "What do you mean?" The giant sea turtle sighed and confirmed it. "That's right, Dragon Princess." It began to recount the heartbreaking truth that when Patri left, everything was going just fine. But then, Taro suddenly appeared and led the entire Deep Sea tribe to the surface. He used deceitful words to trick the warriors, claiming there was a way to bring the dragon princess back if they set foot on land. Yearning to see their master again, the deep-sea warriors didn't hesitate to follow him in a frenzy of excitement. Yet, the moment they stepped onto dry land, they fell into a brutal massacre and were completely wiped out. The image of corpses littering the blood-red battlefield crushed Patri. She trembled, refusing to believe the truth. No, that's a lie. How could humans possibly defeat the powerful deep-sea tribe? Right then, Jinan broke the silence. During that time, the demon lord turned you into a sword. Don't you think the timing was just too perfect? Patri asked, confused. What do you mean? Jenin explained calmly about the nature of these special divine weapons. They can absorb the negative effects on behalf of their master. If Patri, an entity protected by the power of the deep sea, was turned into a weapon, it would be the perfect plan for the demon lord Jenin to profit, just like he did with curses in the past. Yanagi Fumizuki began to connect the dots and realized a terrifying conspiracy. So, you're saying someone orchestrated this whole tragedy just to get hold of Patri, and that person is the demon lord? Immediately, Patri screamed in denial. No, he would never do something so despicable, but Jenin coldly pressed on. Haven't you ever found that strange? Even if you used the power of the deep sea, even if you were defeated in battle, your soul should have been able to persist. The memory of that fateful meeting returned. When Patri was severely wounded and nearing death, Jenin appeared and reached out to her. Back then, she naively believed it was destiny. Patri remembered the image of herself kneeling at the demon lord's feet in her soul form, begging, "Why won't you use me?" Responding to her desperation, Jenin just sat on his throne, indifferent, and said, "Don't be in such a hurry. I will use you soon, but not today." Now, facing the cold, hard truth, Patri painfully realized she was nothing more than a pawn in the grand plan of the king she had worshipped. She sobbed uncontrollably in total despair. "I thought the king loved me, but it was all just part of his plan. Deep Sea Tribe, what did we do to deserve this?" Faced with her weakness, Jenin looked at her with an icy gaze and asked, "Is screaming all you're going to do?" Patri looked up, stunned, as he declared firmly, "If it were me, I'd make them pay 100 times over." Patri's gaze suddenly turned, determined. She wiped away her tears and looked out toward the vast ocean. Jenin turned to command the sea turtle. "Sea turtle, take us to the Deep Sea Tribe, right now." He clenched his fist, vowing to make the enemy pay 100 times over, while Patri gently placed her hand over his as a silent promise to fight by his side until the end. "Yeah,